Hello everyone, welcome to What If Issei Was Betrayed by Family and Reawakened as the Evil God of Chaos movie. Before we start, please go support IsseiOmniversalCaos for writing that awesome fanfic. This is the translated version I made. There will be some mistaken character's gender, but of course Issei is a male. Issei is the god of chaos in another universe that is now his home. Prologue. We see a young man with long black hair and crimson eyes like blood itself. A very strange outfit. A bandaged arm. Fire and chaos everywhere. Terrifying monsters roaming everywhere. The sky was as black as coal, lightning flashed every moment, and the air was hot and icy. Lava everywhere. Immense mountains that seemed to stretch on forever. Every time this creature walked, the ground cracked, mountains crumbled beneath his footsteps, their tremors echoing through the sky. His breath was like a hurricane, capable of effortlessly destroying everything. His mere presence made all creatures tremble, but the most striking feature of this place was a kind of prison, roughly square in shape, held up by enormous piles of rocks that struggled to support its weight. What was that place? Who was that boy? Well, first answer. Tartarus, the great prison of the underworld, a place where the souls of the dead are destroyed. You lose all hope of getting out of there, you can only rely on your sixth sense, and time and space are distorted without anyone noticing, and 1 second is 900 billion trillion years, while in the current world, it is only 1 second. The second answer is that this boy was Issei Hyoudou. He was thrown there by all the leaders, Zeus, Sirzechs, Azazel, Seraphol, Ajuka, Baraquiel, Michael, Gabriel, Yasaka, Shiva, Indra, Quetzalcoatl, Odin, Almanhilden, Valerie. Issei belonged to the Hyoudou clan, a very renowned clan in the human world. All humans on the planet knew of the existence of the supernatural and sacred gears. Those born with sacred gears were popular and very well blessed, as were those born without sacred gears, but with magical abilities. But Issei was not like that. He was born without any sacred gear inside him. This caused all the children in every neighborhood to come out and beat him up for being the first child born without a sacred gear. His best friend Arino also beat him up for being weak, as did his older brothers. Issei Hyoudou, wielder of the evil gear containing the evil dragon Krumkruch. Issei Hyoudou, bearer of the ice gear where the dragon queen Tiamat resides. Max Hyoudou, wielder of the booster gear, the red dragon emperor of domination. Issei suffered all kinds of beatings with the help of Rias Gremory and her entourage, who had no mercy and never stopped torturing the poor boy, unaware that in the future, this pain would awaken something worse within him, something that had been dormant. Sona and her entourage were the only ones who helped Issei in every way. Issei even told her where he would help her fulfill her dream of building an academy for high, supreme, low, and middle-class devils. As time passed, Issei faced countless enemies like Gabriel, Diodora, Shalba, Loki, Kakao, Apophis, Euclid, and of course, Marius Teeps. But all those achievements were lost to his siblings, who lied about everything, claiming they were the heroes, among other things, when it was all a lie. They were so weak that even a low-class devil could defeat all three of them or even their entire entourage. As the days went by, Sona and the girls barely knew each other anymore. They approached Issei, sometimes he would run into them looking rather strange, sweaty, with messy hair, very flushed, and disheveled clothes, until he found the reason. His older brother Isaac was having sex with him, and they told him that he was better, and that Issei was just a simple toy to make them suffer, and that they would tell him the truth, but now it was too late. Devastated, Issei wanted to unleash all his anger, but it was impossible because he was a human with nothing special about him. He left, but when he arrived home, the leaders arrested him for treason, without even giving him a chance to speak, because they had received a video in which Issei spoke with Rizevim about allying with him and giving him all the information about the bases, weapons, and other things in exchange for power and women. The leaders believed that video more than he believed him. They sent him to Tartarus where Hades' fates tortured him to make him talk, among other things, but the longer he stayed inside Tartarus, the stronger Issei became, because Tartarus absorbs demonic power and in return grants monster strength. In the first year, he could destroy an entire mountain with a single blow, and after 900 trillion years, just walking around could make the ground rumble. He could even destroy everything in his path with just a slight movement of his hand on the ground. Issei was blinded by the rage he felt, and he killed the fates without caring about their pleas, although, well, they brought it on themselves. As the years passed, Issei grew stronger and stronger, to the point that he was blinded by rage, which he unleashed everywhere, and thus all the creatures of Tartarus were afraid of him. Outside, 2 months passed, but inside, more than 100,000 x 100,000 years is an incalculable number, but he obtained monstrous power. Aside from strength, he discovered that he did have a sacred gear, but it could not manifest because this sacred gear never manifests because it is too powerful. It is called a divine copy. This sacred gear allows the user to copy all kinds of weapons or sacred gear, even spells and magical attacks, making them evolve until they are stronger than before. The sacred gears I copied were Booster Gear, Ice Gear, Evil Gear, True Longinus, Dimension Ready, Regulus Nemia, Tiba's Sacred Gear, Asper's Sacred Gear, Valerie's Holy Grail, Bekeno's Sacred Rays, Rias' Power of Destruction, the Phoenix's Flames and Regeneration, Zenovia's Ex Durandal, Jen's Sacred Gear, Ericle's Sacred Gear, Zeus's Rays, the Power of Great Rat and Office, Siegfried's Sacred Gear, Annihilation Maker, Seraphal's Power, the ability to create seals 10 times stronger than Ajuka's, larger and more powerful light spears, Sona's Power, Tsubaki's Sacred Gear, which corrupted her due to her hatred of Sitri girls, the Power of Nekomatas, Foxyakai Fire, Saji's Sacred Gear, the sword Siegfried also possessed, the Dragon Slayer swords Gram, Ascalon and Berserk, and Dividing Divide. Virtually all the sacred gears in the world resided within Issei, who trained and acquired the balance breakers of all of them, transforming the sacred gears of swords into 4 swords, 40,000 sacred gears of swords into just 4, but the rest, being 60 million, into a single one, since those were evil swords, and he called his sword Demolisher Principles. Also, 500,000 evil scythes into a single one, the Chaos Scythe. But that scythe, he could destroy anything and cut anything. If it was hard, he could cut it without any problem. Issei transformed his feelings for the Sitri girls into malevolent dragon power. Having suffered such betrayal, he abandoned those feelings and turned them into his own strength. This power was so immense that it would even put Office to shame, for her love was exceedingly great, and by turning it malevolent, it doubled his power. He added this power to his balance breaker, an armor almost identical to the Sekiryuutei's but black. His helmet was different. It resembled a robot, but this one was far more powerful. He fused the sacred gears of the dragons into a single one and called it Infinity Gear. With this sacred gear, he could use the power of each dragon at will. He had reached many stages of armor and weapons in Tartarus, reaching a certain limit where his sole objective was to achieve Balance Breaker Dark Dragon God Infinity, a monster stage he longed to reach, but could no longer do so. His companions were happy with the great progress their friend made. He removed Krumkruch's curse, as well as the 2 celestial dragons of Juggernaut Drive. Now Issei sat atop a mountain over 8,000 meters high, overlooking Tartarus, which seemed to have no end. He could also see the prison of Kronos, the father of the Olympian gods. Issei. I've lived a long life in Tartarus, and it seems nothing will change here. Ryag. Relax, partner, I know you'll find a way out of here. Albion. Yeah, don't lose hope of getting out of here. That's a promise you made to your other girl before she left. Issei. Yes, but if it weren't for the Phoenix family's hatred of her for possessing the power of the original Phoenix, she would still be alive, and her life wouldn't have been destroyed by her death. Itra. But look on the bright side, you can revive it. Issei. It can't be done. When the original Phoenix wielder dies, their soul is burned away so that anyone trying to revive them or obtain their power is impossible. I searched for her soul in Elysium and even used the damned Holy Grail, but nothing. She no longer exists. Forgive me for not being able to protect you that day. That's right, Issei had a former girlfriend named Ai from the anime that really broke my heart, Issei no Kuoh. She was a beautiful idol who only wanted a beautiful family with Issei because she fell in love with him and he with her. They were perfect for each other. Issei was a good singer. He discovered that she possessed the power of the original Phoenix and that would bring bad things for her because the Phoenix clan doesn't like humans to have their power. Issei told her about the supernatural, but she didn't react with astonishment, but with happiness. And when Issei told her about his power, she was shocked. She knew about the Phoenix's regeneration, resurrection, and very powerful flames. One day, when Issei went to hunt rogue demons, he didn't know that some Phoenix clan soldiers had entered his house. When he returned, he experienced the worst pain of his life. Ai was there with a spear in her stomach, and in front of her were 3 Phoenix clan guards with arrogant smiles. Issei realized he had awakened a very strange power that killed 2 of them, and the other one told him that he was sent by Lady and Lord Phoenix. Issei wanted to kill them, but it was impossible. With her last breath, Ai simply said, "You don't have to worry. I don't think I'll survive this. We spent so many years together, enjoying a happiness that surpassed anyone else's. We both brought each other so much joy. Sometimes I wonder, what will you be in the future? What path will you take? But I don't care. If none of this happens, I hope we can have the family we've always dreamed of, a beautiful little girl to name Ruby and a cute little boy to name Kuoh. Ruby and Kuoh Hishino Chaos, it's a lovely surname. You have no idea how happy I am. Oh, right, I almost forgot, Issei. I love you so much. Ah, I was finally able to say those words, even though I always said them at my concerts and never had the courage to say them to the person I love. I'm so relieved to be able to say those words to you, my darling. I placed her bloodied hand on Issei's cheek, who was hugging her as she sat leaning against the door. Immediately, the stars in her eyes lost their shine and disappeared. The star they always saw at night vanished, and the light illuminated by that star dimmed. Issei's hand fell to the ground. Issei, I. He could only see the lifeless eyes of his beloved with a smile. Issei trembled with fear as he refused to accept the truth. Issei. No. It's not true. It's not true. Why are you taking her away from me? Even though she was the only thing I had left in this miserable world, I won't forgive you. I won't forgive you. Give me back I give her back or I'll kill all your damn children. Why is fate always like this with me? In the end, I promised to protect that smile on her face. One smile among many more that they couldn't protect, no matter the cost. Those eyes that were once brown turned red and cold. Issei looked at Tartarus calmly, he didn't care about anything. Behind him was the corpse of a monster, the Hydra, which had eaten him and now had advanced regeneration and more power. The large white line appeared in a section of Issei's hair due to his evolution from consuming Tartarus monsters, which slowly alters his body. But suddenly, everything went dark and Issei became serious. He drew his scythe and began to demolish principles. Issei. Who's there? Ahahaha, I didn't expect that reaction from you, Dark Dragon, but oh well, what does it matter? I am Chaos, a being of great power who has seen everything you have lived through and been through, Issei. Issei. What does he want from me? Chaos. May you have all my power. Issei was surprised to hear that. You see, kid, you are destined to be something greater, you are destined to fight for something that should be yours by right. If you obtain my power, you will have the ability to bring people back to life, but that will take a while, and people will revive when you least expect it. Issei. If you give me your power, what will I become? Chaos. It will only be you, you will have a true form which would be superior to my power, so do you accept or not? Issei thought about it twice, but with that he would be able to bring I back to life, and that's what he wanted with all his being. Issei. I accept. Chaos just smiled and shook Issei's hand, then he took a sphere from his chest and put it into Issei's chest, where he fell to his knees and could feel all the power throughout his body, his sacred gear evolving until it became stronger and stronger. Chaos disappeared as his work was done. Issei stood up and his gaze fell upon a mountain more than 400,000 kilometers away. That mountain was more than 9,000 meters high, being larger than Mount Everest. Issei took out his booster Gar and created a sphere which he put a bit of the power of destruction, Sacred Ray, Thor's Ray, Purgatory Fire and Tartar, a bit of Vitra's Flames. Issei. Dragon Black Shoot. The black sphere with different colors shot out of the glove and went at full speed like a comet. Issei saw that sphere and that there were only 2 minutes left until impact, so he saw all the creatures of Tartarus, and to see its power he just said. I release you from this horrible form and return you to your former form so that you may have a second chance to live in a peaceful world. Spheres emerged from the monsters' bodies and took on human forms. Issei created a portal through which a beautiful field of flowers and trees stretched to verdant mountains. Everyone entered the portal, except for 2 girls. At that moment, the portal closed. Issei knew these girls would go with him because the first girl seemed to have dragon-like characteristics, and the second, a powerful human, went and took their hands. Everything lit up, and when he turned around, a colossal explosion, over 14,000 meters high, erupted. A current of hot wind reached them like a shockwave, sweeping away the clouds of dust and smoke, revealing everything, including the monsters already there, monsters from Chrono's prison. At first glance, the explosion was truly terrifying. It began to hurl thousands upon thousands of rocks and large pieces of earth engulfed in flames, falling like meteorites everywhere. The shockwave reached a height of 700 meters with a high temperature that turned everything to ash. Monsters like minotaurs, manticores, dark serpents, and giant bats were burned by the shockwave, the bats by the multiple pieces of rock that fell at every moment. The immense shockwave advanced at great speed, consuming everything in its path and leaving Tartarus in even worse condition. Issei saw other mountains and took out demolition principles. Issei. Destroy everything. Cosmic Annihilator. Red cracks began to advance at maximum speed, causing all the volcanoes to explode, reaching mountains of 9,000 meters or even the largest, measuring 16,000 meters, causing a tremendous explosion of more than 40,000 meters in height, and its shock wave measured 2,000 meters in height. The multiple shock waves continued their course. Issei saw those explosions, but wanted to make Tartarus worse, so as to free Kronos from his prison and witness all the chaos. Because of what happened in Tartarus, he remembered that more than 1,000,000 kilometers away was the volcano and the largest mountain of all. The mountain was about 30,000 meters high and the volcano about 23,000 meters high. How can Tartarus measure that? It's a place without end. There's no end to the sky. It's as if they live in another dimension without any end, which is why the mountains and explosions are of such magnitude. Issei drew out the true Longinus, a malevolent being of great power, and put the minimum amount of chaos power into his most powerful attack, which he created in the spear. Issei. Universal Plasma Destroyer. A gigantic sphere shot out at full speed, and Issei simply put away the true Longinus, and a portal opened behind him. He watched as the shockwaves advanced at great speed, but the worst was yet to come. They entered the portal, and at that moment everything lit up, every corner of Tartarus lit up until the biggest explosion could be seen, one that could consume the whole world, reaching a height of 130,000 meters, with a fire shockwave of more than 20,000 meters high, and a temperature of 1 billion degrees. Enormous fire stones fell everywhere until about 2 of them impacted Kronos' prison, causing the rock columns that supported the prison with its surrounding walls to collapse. The rest of the structure couldn't withstand the weight and slowly fell, causing a tremendous earthquake. This didn't awaken Kronos, but it did threaten to awaken him from his slumber. The Fates, who were far away, ran for their lives, but the super shockwave drew ever closer, and they couldn't escape because they were burned alive. The wave continued advancing until it reached the edge of Tartarus. Everything, absolutely everything, was burned, fire everywhere, leaving a scene worse than when Issei arrived, enormous cracks everywhere, the entire sky black and red. Everything was consumed by the flames, but one Reaper barely survived and managed to contact Hades so he would come, but a flame fell on him and killed him, leaving only the communication or location signal active, indicating his position near what had once been a volcano. Meanwhile, in another part of the dimensions, Issei and the 2 girls were trying to decide which dimension to go to when a portal appeared in front of them and absorbed them, thus beginning a new life for our protagonist, although I will give you a hint about the world in which Issei will be. They are treated like monsters for being born without monolith. They call them the norm. They live on an island. They fight dragons using robots. A song that changes the armor to a golden one. Eternal song. Fake world. Embryo. Bill kills. Chaos can destroy 2 deities, Issei being the demon dragon god king and Issei the king of chaos. From there on up, he can't. This Issei is in second place, being the strongest of the 6 who will fight separately for the Dark Crown. Until next time, and long live the supreme deities. Chapter 1. Issei had emerged from the rift in the sky with the girls who were with him. Issei. Dark Dragon God Apocalypse Balance Breaker. Issei's entire body was surrounded by red and black flames, which were soon covered by black armor and blue gems. This was the second phase of the armor, only with a different helmet. Its tail looked more realistic. Instead of having 2 wings, it had 4, and there were spines running down its back. But Issei was taking in the scene, which wasn't pretty at all. And why was that? Well. Issei. What the hell is going on here? He asked, seeing a kind of portal from which they emerged. Are those dragons? Issei wondered, watching several dragons and one larger purple one with red lines being attacked in the distance by what appeared to be robots. But then he looked beyond the robots and saw 2 small ships piloted by 2 girls, one blonde and one with black hair, being chased by small pink dragons. Where have we ended up? The brown-haired boy asked. Drag. I don't know, friend, but we must help those 2, as they may die from those larvae, Drake said to Issei. Okay, let's go. He didn't finish because he saw 3 dragons devouring the dark-haired girl who was following the blonde, and in a panic, she approached the group attacking the black dragon. Damn it, I have to catch her fast. Issei exclaimed, flying quickly toward the robots. She didn't know why this was happening to her. Just a few weeks ago, she had been living happily with her family, without a care in the world, enjoying all their luxuries. Now everything had gone to hell. She hated her life now, all because she was a Norma. She used to be Angel Eyes Ikariga Mitsurugi, a beloved princess in the kingdom of Mitsurugi, but after they discovered she was a Norma, everything went straight to hell. Her mother died protecting her, and she was exiled to Arsenal to fight against those things called dragons. Now called Ange, she lived through hell, being treated in ways she never imagined. She was placed in the first unit under Zola's command, and after trying to escape, everything was ruined when the dragons appeared. 2 girls who followed her died because of her refusal to help. And now, with her paramail, she was flying towards the others who were attacking the black dragon. But the girls. They were all finishing off the dragons, and now they were fighting the biggest one. You're the last one, giant monster, said a tall, voluptuous woman with long, blonde hair that reached her hips. She had 2 tattoos of her personal insignia, one on her right thigh and the other on her left breast. She was Zola Axberg, leader of the first anti-dragon unit. All units, load freeze cartridges. She ordered over the transmitter. She is the sensual Zola. And all 6 paramales carried a green light in their left hands, which meant that the cartridges were ready. Zola. Attack. Zola gave the order and so they all began to charge against the purple dragon. "Here we go," shouted a young girl with reddish pink hair. "Vivian, Issei's future lowly XD." The dragon roared and charged several white spheres and launched them at the mechs, but the one belonging to the youngest girl dodged all the attacks and, approaching the dragon, screamed. "Die already." The young woman shouted, launching a green laser from her paramail that hit the dragon's right shoulder and a large piece of ice that broke, leaving a small piece of ice stuck to it. Another mecha dodged the attacks launched by the dragon, piloted by a stunning Redeed with deep blue-violet eyes and long crimson hair, usually styled in two pigtails. Like Ainge, she has a slender but very curvy figure. Her normal name is Hilda or Hildegard Schlevigt, her normal name. She launched another attack, just like the young girl, hitting the wings along with another paramail. The dragon shook its wings and broke the ice. The Hexy Hilda. "Zola. It's the end." Zola shouted, wanting to lunge at the dragon to finish it off when. "Ainge. No." It was Ainge, fearfully launching herself at Zola. "Help me," the blonde begged fearfully, distracting Zola from her final attack. "Zola. What are you doing? Let me go," Zola said to Ainge as she hit the blonde's paramail. They were so distracted that they didn't realize the purple dragon was above them and would attack them both. The dragon raised its right wing and was about to attack. "Hilda. Zalea," shouted the Redeed, worried about her leader. "Zola, damn it," said Zola, seeing his end approaching, when. "Issei. Hey you idiot, leave them alone." Issei shouted, rushing in with speed, delivering a powerful blow that completely shattered his head. He then grabbed the dragon's tail, spinning its body around several times and throwing it at others who were crushed by the speed at which it was traveling. "Zola. What?" Zola said, bewildered and relieved, watching the black armor strike the dragon and kill it with a single blow. She wasn't the only one. The entire squad was surprised, even Ainge, who glanced for a second at the figure of a knight in Issei. "Issei, hey." Issei spoke, drawing Zola and Ainge's attention. "Are you okay?" he asked. Zola. "Huh. Yes, thank you, but who are you?" Zola asked with some suspicion. "Me? Well, an ally, but now let me finish off this idiot," said Issei, leaving Zola and Ainge where they were to face the dragon. "Alright, Drake, Albion, Vitra, Krumkruich, Tiamat, shall we hit this idiot?" Issei asked his friend. "Drake. Sure, let's teach this larva a lesson," said Drake's voice from the gem on the right arm of the armor, which impressed Ainge and Zola. Issei quickly launched himself against the dragon, who launched several attacks that he easily dodged. "Razor shoots fire faster than your super evolved lizard," Issei shouted, punching the dragon in the chest. "Drake, Krumkruich, now some boosts," Issei said. "Okay. Boost, 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 dark, 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 dark," the boost sounded. Issei. "Alright, now to do what I learned thanks to Asen," said Issei and placed his palms one in front and one behind, where the left palm of the armor in front of him changed into the head of a dragon with red and gold details, and the one behind began to expel faint but strong fire. "Alright, this is ready, alright Drake, Krumkruich, let's give this idiot," said Issei to his friends. "Sure partner," said the dragon as the dragon's mouth on Issei's left hand opened. Explosion sounded in the gem, releasing a great amount of power. "Now do this, you idiot," Issei shouted, launching the attack. "Dragon Burner." The name of the attack sounded, a large burst of fire shooting out of the dragon's mouth on the left hand of the armor and another burst behind him to maintain the balance of the attack. The attack hit the dragon directly, slowly consuming it until it was reduced to ashes a short time later, until after a few minutes Issei stopped the attack that ended the life of the dragon that had turned to ashes with the attack. Everyone, and I mean everyone, watched the feat with great amazement. A guy who came from who knows where and finished off a dragon so quickly and effortlessly, just like that, you don't see that every day. Issei. HMPH, it was weak, Issei said, looking at the place where the dragon had been before. "What did you expect, Apophis, Layden, Grendel, or maybe even the original Krumkruich? This larva wouldn't have lasted long even with that Bale kid using Regulus without his balance breaker," said Drake. Issei. "You're right, but well, let's leave that. I think we should see what happened to those girls," said Issei, watching a group of ships, 8 ships to be exact, approaching the brunette. "Are you two alright?" asked Issei, still in his armor, to Zola and Ainge, who nodded. "That's good," said Issei. "First of all, who are you and how did you do that?" asked one of the girls. She was of average height with a slender build. Her most notable feature was her long violet hair, tied in pigtails with bangs that framed her face and golden eyes. She wore a seafoam blue pilot uniform. Her name was Celia Tereshkova and she was looking seriously at Issei. "Celia, the Sona of Cross Ainge XD." "Zola. Leave him alone, Celia. He saved me and Ainge from being killed by that dragon." I don't think he's bad, Zola said, looking with interest at Issei, still in armor, and you have a lot to explain when we return to Arsenal, she said, looking seriously at Ainge, who lowered her head as she remembered the death of the two girls who followed her. Alright Zola, she can wait. Right now we need to find out who he is, but it would be best to return to Arsenal for that, said a beautiful young woman with green eyes, long pink hair that reached past her waist, and a kind and gentle face. She was quite tall, with a slender, voluptuous figure and a well-endowed chest. She was Ursha, the one who had seen Issei. You can follow us, so we can talk more calmly, Ursha said kindly to Issei. Onisama Ursha. Issei. Okay, that way you can explain to me what the hell is going on in this place, said Issei, making his helmet disappear, surprising the girls, since he is young like several of them. Zola. Wow, that's kind of cute, I like it, Zola thought, smiling predatorily as she looked at Issei. Ainge. With that armor he looks like a knight, thought Ainge, blushing slightly as she remembered that he saved her and Zola from the dragon. Zola, okay, follow us, said Zola, indirectly asking for the name of his savior. Issei. Oh, excuse me, my name is Issei Chaos Apocalypse, but you can call me Ice, nice to meet you, Issei introduced himself to Zola, who smiled at him. Zola. I'm Zola Axberg, nice to meet you, Ice-kun, and these girls with me are part of Arsenal's first squad, Zola introduced herself to Issei. Well, I'll introduce them to you later, let's go to Arsenal, Zola said. Here Zola, the dragons were defeated, we returned with a guest to Arsenal, Jill, Zola said through her paramail transmitter. Okay, come back and I hope to find out who this guest you're talking about is, said a woman's voice from the other side. Zola. Okay, now Ice-kun, Zola said to Issei, who looked at her. Come on, follow us, Zola said. Okay, Issei said. Is this okay, Zola? Hilda asked Zola. Yes, we can trust him because if he wanted to, he could have killed us like he did with that dragon, Zola said. Okay, the Redeed said, looking at Issei, though not very confidently. So the girls began to move their paramail towards Arsenal. Well, now let's see what happens here. I just hope they can find me, or at least find their way home. Girls, I hope you're alright, Issei thought, unaware that this encounter would lead him to meet future loves and help with future problems. And of course, it would help change the personality of a certain former princess, but that's a story for another day. What happened to the factions? Haha, well, since Issei left Tartarus, everything changed. Hades went directly to Tartarus to find out what happened, since 3 days had passed in DXD, and only a few hours where he was. Hades was shocked when he saw Tartarus destroyed. The prison where his father was destroyed, but he didn't wake up because more was needed to awaken his father. And when he saw the memories of the Reaper who called him, he was shocked by Issei's power, but he was glad that the boy had finally managed to escape and wished him good luck wherever he was. In the human world, after Ai's death, her fans still mourn her, bringing her flowers and other things. The Phoenix family, wanting to recover the power of the Phoenix, found it impossible, since that power left when Ai died, but in reality it didn't leave, it still remained in Ai's body, but she wouldn't let anyone with such arrogance keep her power. The Chaos Brigade is attacked multiple times, and each time the brothers fight with humility for Rizevim and his troops, they miss their leaders greatly because they are the strongest beings and are not easily defeated. The truth behind the brothers is drawing near. Everyone at the academy was happy that Ice was leaving, but when they discover the truth they will want him back. Ai's fellow idols were still crying, but they would search for the one responsible for his death. The demons and other races that were on Issei's side were looking for a way to go to where he was and create a new life in that world they so longed to go to, because they discovered that Issei had gone to another world. A few hours ago someone asked where all the innocent souls go in the entire megaverse, so I will answer them. Their souls were sent to a copy of the Elysian Fields, but larger. It was a beautiful paradise where they could live in peace and harmony for as long as they wished, and if they so desired, they could disappear in order to be reincarnated again in the future. Chapter 2. Arsenal. Control room. After what happened a few moments before, Issei had been escorted by Zola and his team. Upon arrival, they took Ainge to another place. Perhaps they would scold her for the offense she committed by not following orders. Issei was taken by Zola, who kept looking at him like an Akeno when she wants something, to the site's control room. Upon arriving at the place, Issei looked at several girls, among whom stood out 3 older women, one with black hair, one with red hair and one with green hair. Needless to say, all 3 are attractive. So you're the special guest, huh? The dark-haired girl asked, looking at Issei. You must be in charge, right? Issei asked, looking at the dark-haired girl who smiled. Someone firm, I like you, let me introduce myself kid, I'm Jill, and I'm the commander-in-chief of Arsenal. Jill introduced herself, extending her metal hand to Issei who looked at her and then returned the greeting. Issei Chaos Apocalypse, nice to meet you, Issei introduced himself, impressing the girls there, even the woman with green hair. These are our surgeon Maggie, she pointed to the dark Reed. Nice to meet you, Issei-kun, Maggie said, smiling calmly. Nice to meet you, said Issei. And she's the Inspector General of Arsenal, Emma Bronson, Jill said, pointing to the green-haired woman who looked at him seriously. Nice to meet you, Miss Emma, Issei said respectfully. He had dealt with girls like this before, Sona being an example. Likewise Chaos, and Emma said. I have to inform my superiors about this, she thought. Well, putting introductions aside, I appreciate you saving Zola and Ainge from that dragon. It wouldn't have been so good to lose someone like Zola, Jill said to Issei. It's no problem, anyone would have done what I did, Issei said, smiling as he was hugged from behind by Zola, who smiled flirtatiously at Issei. Yufufufu, Ice-kun, you're sweet, but I don't think that would have happened, Zola said in Issei's ear, who was calm, surprising her by thinking he was just like other men. Wow, he's calm, how interesting you are, Ice-kun, Zola thought, smiling as she let go of Issei. Living with I taught me to calm down a lot, haha, Issei thought calmly. As Zola says, that definitely wouldn't have happened, Jill told Issei. What do you mean? Issei asked, puzzled. Because we are Norma, Zola said. Norma? Issei asked. Don't you know what Norma are? Maggie asked, looking at Issei with a puzzled expression. I don't know if you noticed or not, but just like those dragons, I arrived through a black hole, Issei said. Ah, that's right. Well, let me explain. Norma are those of us who can't use monolight and energy that every human being should be able to use. Because we can't use it, we're considered violent beings, and from a young age, we're isolated here so as not to disturb current society. We're discriminated against and seen as non-human. Only women can be Norma, and no one knows why. We're brought here for the sole purpose of eliminating dragons, those beings that appear from dimensional portals. We prevent them from reaching human civilization. We're their guard dogs, nothing more, nothing less. Emma supervises us to make sure we do our job properly, Jill exclaimed, leaving Issei speechless. Wait, if I understand correctly, the Norma are seen as monsters by others, and besides the discrimination and all that, they're used to stop those dragons, right? The brunette asked, somewhat annoyed. Indeed, Jill said. Ah, this is utter stupidity, how on earth could they even think of that? Issei asked, annoyed. But that's how things are, Norma aren't human, they're less than that, Emma began, only to be silenced by Issei's glare. You may be pretty and all, but your way of seeing the world disgusts me. You'd better shut up if you don't want what happened to the dragon earlier to happen to you, Issei said seriously, scaring and making Emma blush, who then kept quiet. Ah, what a place I ended up, Issei said, sitting down on the ground. And where do you come from? Because the way you reacted to Norma's situation shows you're not from this world at least, Jill said, offering Issei a seat, and the others sat down to listen. If I told you, you wouldn't believe me, but seeing how things are here, I doubt it, Issei said. Come on, it can't be something crazy, right? Zola said next to Issei. Well, I don't think crazy is the right word, Issei said, but anyway, I'd better tell you, first of all, I'm not human, Issei said, surprising everyone. So what are you? Hilda asked, eyeing Issei suspiciously. A supreme evil dragon god, but one different from those that attacked before, Issei said, making the girls nervous. A dragon? An evil dragon god? Emma asked, frightened, cautiously eyeing Issei. Yes, but as I said, a different one, Issei said calmly. What do you mean? Ursha asked, somewhat confused. Well, for that you have to listen to my story, Issei said, looking at the pink-haired girl. Is this something great? Vivian, the lowly of the group, asked Issei excitedly. Well, yes, it's kind of crazy but great, Issei said, smiling. It's best if I just let her speak, said Celia. Yes, we want to know more about our new guest, said the reteed Maggie. Well, first of all, it all started a few months ago, and so Issei recounted everything, his entire terrible childhood, how his brothers lied and stole all the credit for him being the only human without a sacred gear, how he was tortured by everyone, but they ignored him, everything that happened up to the events with I, which saddened all the girls, because of the pain Issei went through seeing I die, just because she had the original Phoenix power. Up to the supposed betrayal and the time he spent in Tartarus, up to the chaos incident, and whether he tried to become a deity, and that's how I ended up here and saved Zola and that girl Ainge, Issei said, seeing the astonished faces of all of them. Wow, that was amazing. But at the same time sad and horrible, Vivian said, excited by the story, but then angry that she believed her brothers and not him. You're great, Ice, the loli said. Well, that was amazing, Jill said, stunned. Demons. Angels. Fallen angels. Gods. Sacred gears. A deity. That world was more messed up than her own, but she saw something in Issei, the same situation they were going through, but worse because it was the whole world against them. So you have dragons sealed inside you? Maggie asked with interest. He fought for everyone and they only repaid him with contempt, but he kept fighting until he brought peace. Although it sounds strange, he seems like a prince, Hilda thought dreamily. Her dream was to be saved by a prince and of course, another more personal one that she wants to fulfill no matter what. Yes, although most of the time they remain asleep so their powers can increase, said Issei, summoning the black gauntlet, the blue gauntlet, the black gauntlet with purple gems, another purple gauntlet, the wings of the divide dividing. This is the dark gear, the dark divide dividing, the evil gear, the ice gear, the absorption line, and of course the infinity gear, a supreme level Longinus with the ability to increase the user's power. The original dragon must be suffering for choosing such a terrible wielder, as are the others, but they still retain their weaknesses, except for the copies, since these increase their powers every second and give the user triple the strength, among other things. Now, using the sacred gears of the dragon, I am known in Tartarus as the Dark Dragon God Apocalypse. They spend most of their time sleeping, although they are cool when I am alone. Shut up, you stupid candidate for supreme deity. We slept to increase your powers. You should be grateful. Besides, the spell to erase all ties with the Hyoudou clan is already in place, and the Hyoudou blood will become power for the Infinity Gear, Drake said, shocking the girls who heard him speak. Huh? Hello, how are you? I'm Drake, the one who gives power to this idiot. Anyway, it was a pleasure. Partner, I'm leaving. I need to sleep to increase my power, Drake said, then went to sleep for a long time. Is it just me, or did the gauntlet talk? Hilda asked, stunned by the thought. Yes, as I said, that's Drake the Sekiryuutei, although he's lazy he's a good person, said Issei, making the dark gear disappear. One question, what is this Sekiryuutei thing? Vivian asked Issei, who was embarrassed by it. Yes, I want to know what that is, Ice-kun, Zola said, leaning close to Issei, who awkwardly pushed her away slightly, much to her annoyance. Well, how to put it, when I was on the side of the factions, there were some, like the dragons and vampires, who believed in me and thought I wouldn't betray them or anyone else. Then a program came out that portrayed me as the Dark Dragon God Apocalypse. My fame as the Black Dragon Emperor grew to the point of making toys and other things. I only did it to see the smiles of all the children and to make sure they never had a sad look on their faces, Issei said, earning a dreamy look from Ursha. That's very sweet of you, Ice-kun, said Ursha. She is very maternal and takes great care of the girls in Arsenal. Wow, I'd like to see that show, Vivian said. Here I have some toys from the show, said Issei, taking some dolls from the show out of the dark gear, which were quickly snatched away by Vivian. And who is she? Jill asked, looking at Ai's wrist. Issei smiled fondly. She is Ai Hashino, my fiancé, my girlfriend, the girl I love, said Issei, remembering his girl who now looked at him no matter where she was. This made Zola somewhat jealous, but she let it go, unaware that it also caused some annoyance to Ursha, who began to see Issei in a different light. Well, putting that aside, welcome to Arsenal. I hope you get along well with everyone here, Jill said. It'll be interesting to see what happens from now on. I think you're in serious trouble now, Embryo, Jill thought, watching Issei get up and leave with Zola and his group. Oh, by the way, from now on you'll be working with Zola's first squad, she told Issei. Alright, Issei said, looking at Zola. I'm under your care then. I hope we get along. Issei stretched out his hand only to be pulled into a hug that left his face pressed against Zola's large chest. Ah, if it weren't for Ai's classmates who did this every day, I'd have stupid grins like theirs, but I'm not complaining, Issei thought, letting himself be embraced by the smiling Zola. Yufufufu, we'll get along great, Ice-kun, Zola said flirtatiously to an impassive Issei, making Rosalie and Chris jealous because Zola hugged Issei and not them. Issei separated himself, looking at her normally. Okay, now I'm hungry and I want some food, Issei said hungrily, at which point Jill approached to give him something. Since you killed the dragon, here's yours, Jill said, handing Issei 2 thick wads of cash. It's Arsenal money. You can use it to buy food and other things. Well, I'll leave you now. I have things to take care of, she said, heading back to the control room. Issei looked at his money. Well, as I said, I'm hungry. If you would be kind enough to show me the place where they sell food, I'll treat you. What do you say? Issei asked, looking at Zola, Hilda, Chris, Celia, Vivian, Ursha and Rosalie, who looked at him and nodded. Well, we got hungry too, besides, you can't refuse an invitation like that, Hilda said simply. Okay, fine, Rosalie said. Yes, why not? Chris said. Well, since you're being nice, I'll accept it, said Celia. Can I ask for anything I want? Vivian asked, standing close to Issei, who looked at her and nodded. Great, you're great, Ice. Vivian said happily, hugging Issei. In Issei's world, some lawless felt a tough rival for Issei. Well, that's fine, Ice-san, Ursha said, smiling at Issei. Ara? Is that a date I hear? Wow, Ice-kun, what a charmer, Zola said, wanting to embarrass Issei, which she didn't manage to do. Take it however you want, come on, please take me to where the dining room is, Issei said, shrugging his shoulders and ignoring what Zola said, annoying her, and Ursha decided to help. Alright Isan, let's go to the dining room, she said, leading Issei and everyone else followed. They are Chris, the first one, and Rosalie, the second one, sorry for not putting a description, but I'm both bad and too lazy to copy and paste the description from the wiki. Control room. With Jill, Maggie and Emma. And what do you think of the boy? Jill asked, smoking a cigarette while looking at Maggie and Emma. He seems interesting, and he's clearly an expert in battle. His story is a bit strange, but it shows that he fought for his own, especially when he sacrificed himself for his friends, but also for his partner. You know, I still can't believe he has a girlfriend with a phoenix power, which is kind of weird, especially since his girlfriend was younger than him, Maggie said. He's a pervert and rude, although I know he can help, it doesn't mean he should disrespect others, Emma said, somewhat irritated. Well, you're partly to blame for provoking him. It's normal, since where he comes from, although there are different races, humans are just humans, and it's not the same as here. Well, almost, because he was treated worse than we were. Torture, beatings, being treated like a lab rat. That's excessive, especially for him, Jill said, taking a drag on her cigarette and then exhaling the smoke. Let's see what happens to him here now, Jill said. But I still won't accept that it's disrespectful, Emma complained, looking for a way to leave. I'd better go, I have to give a report on what happened today, Emma said, and as she was about to leave the room, Jill's voice stopped her. If I were you, I'd better not tell your superiors anything about Ice if you don't want any trouble, Jill said calmly, glancing sideways at Emma. Is it a threat? The green-haired girl asked. More of a warning, you saw what he did outside, he told his story, and you saw how upset he was when you talked more about us normies, you better think carefully if you don't want to have problems with him, Jill said, watching Emma freeze before leaving without saying a word. Do you think she'll say anything about Ice-kun? Maggie asked, looking at Jill. She's smart and she'll know what's best for her, Jill said, finishing her cigarette and throwing the rest into an empty basket. Okay, we need to talk to Ange about today, Jill said, leaving, followed by Maggie. With Issei and the girls. Issei was able to start conversations with the girls, the most cooperative being Zola, obviously, Vivian, Ursha and surprisingly Hilda, while Chris and Rosalie were a little reluctant to talk and Celia hardly spoke at all. Issei bought plenty of food for everyone and he still had a wad of bills left over, which he would save for later. So, Ice-kun. Zola spoke to Issei, you're some kind of hero in your world, she said, and that caught everyone's interest. Not exactly, Issei said, finishing a sip of lemon soda. I only see those who treated me well as heroes, but I hardly consider myself one. Those who treated me like trash don't deserve my protection. I know even children consider me a hero, but I help where I can. Issei looked at Zola and took some mashed potatoes with his spoon to eat. That's very humble coming from someone with the power to kill a god, Hilda said, eating what she had ordered. Well, one learns over time that one is not invincible. I mean, I died twice, the first time for trusting the wrong person, and the second time saving someone who wasn't even worth it, only to rise again, thanks to the power of my beloved, and have part of her regenerative power, Issei said after eating. Ask me, Vivian said, finishing an ice cream she bought thanks to Issei. Why don't you have several girlfriends? The loli asked, and that made Issei choke on the little chicken and rice he had eaten. So, are you some kind of pervert? Hilda asked, looking suspiciously at Issei, who quickly answered after drinking his lemonade. I'll be honest, at first I wanted to have one so I'd at least have goals to protect, to have that will to be strong, but I knew the girls at the academy would never be with someone like me, who to them was born an ordinary human. Issei recounted, remembering how he was months ago. The girls looked somewhat annoyed, but said nothing and let him continue his story. But after meeting I at a coffee shop, she told me that from the beginning her dream was to be an idol, but also to have a happy and peaceful life with the person she loved. Little by little, our conversations turned into dates until, after a while, our love for each other was born. From then on, when she kissed me, I could feel her true love for me. I knew she wasn't like everyone else, that in my world at least there were people who truly loved and appreciated me, even though to them I didn't have magical powers. When I told her about the supernatural, she wasn't scared. Instead, she was very happy. I loved seeing that smile of love and happiness on her face. She was my light, my sun, and my hope. Back then, my goal was to be the strongest being in my world to protect the person I loved, no matter the threats. I said I would keep lifting her up so I could win at any cost, and I did, but at a terrible cost. But even now that I can bring her back to life, that makes me happy because I can finally have her in my arms again, Issei said, putting some mashed potatoes in his mouth. The girls were surprised. They never thought they'd meet a boy who admitted his mistakes and who, even though he had a girlfriend, showed his love for her with his words. That was very new and interesting for them. Now Zola looked at Issei with more interest, Hilda looked at Issei in a different light, Chris and Rosalie now felt calm. They would start to get along. Celia looked calmly at Issei. Although his story impacted her, she saw that he tried very hard for his family, and Vivian looked at Issei as a kind of superhero. Well, we hope to get along well from now on, Ice-kun, Zola said, smiling flirtatiously at Issei, who nodded. Likewise, I hope I can get along with all of you, Issei said, and they all smiled in agreement. After eating, Issei was taken, under the curious gaze of all the girls from Arsenal, to what would be his room in the facilities, guided by Zola who was hugging his arm, and a jealous Chris and Rosalie. Well, it's not that it bothers me, I actually like it, but wouldn't it be better if we walked, I don't know, a little less close together? Issei asked. Fufu, didn't you say it doesn't bother you? Zola said. I think Zola is right, it does seem a bit awkward, Rosalie said. Is that jealousy I hear? Zola asked after separating from Issei and hugging both girls. Oh Zola, not in front of Ice and Chris said, blushing but happy. After a few minutes they arrived at an empty room, the same size as Issei's room before he met Rias. Alright, here are the keys to your room, Ice-kun. Take care of your things and get some rest, because tomorrow will be a long day, Zola said. See you later, she said, kissing Issei's cheek as she waved goodbye, swaying her hexy hip seductively. Ah, it's always like this, see you Ice-san, until tomorrow Chris said goodbye, following Zola. See you tomorrow, Ice, Rosalie said goodbye, leaving with Zola and Chris. See you tomorrow, girls, sleep well, he said goodbye to them before entering his room and lying down on the bed. Ah, who would have thought I'd fall into such a crazy world, Issei said. It's good that you're surrounded by beauties, haha, who would have thought, you're always lucky with girls, it was good that those girls took away your purity, because otherwise who knows how you would have reacted with that Zola girl said Drake. Well, you're right, although that night was spectacular when we got to know each other little by little well, I'd better go to sleep because tomorrow is another day, Issei said as he lay down to sleep. Issei is now in the middle of what will be a new adventure for him. He has met peculiar and beautiful girls and will soon learn the truth behind both the light of mana and the dragon, but that's for another chapter. Regarding the factions. The clock has already moved one hand, which means that the truth is getting closer, hidden behind the faces of the brothers and the alleged betrayal. Next chapter. Advance in the DXD world. Trihiksa 1E-san, when can we go to Darling's world? Trihiksa. It won't be long now. That damned office knew of Rizevam's intentions but said nothing. Tell the demons on Anta's side to prepare very soon. I will give them part of my power so they can move faster with a machine and leave this cursed planet. The heroes faction must train more if they wish to serve Anta. Run, Lilith, go. Lilith. Attention. Trihiksa 1E-san has already found Darling's whereabouts and here is part of her power to be able to advance faster with a machine, no one must know this. Chapter 3. World DXD 4 days later. Location. Beyond the edge of dragon territory. In that place stood a huge but terrifying 140-meter tall black dragon, for this was none other than Trihiksa, yes, the beast of the apocalypse, the true dragon god of the apocalypse. Out of nowhere the dragon began to glow and lose its enormous eyes, becoming a human dragon, a beautiful young woman of about 19 years old with black and red hair. Trihiksa. Already out. From some rich people appeared a girl of about 10 or 12 years of age. Trihiksa 1E-san, when can we go to Darling's world? The girl asked. It won't be long now. That damned office knew Rizevam's intentions but said nothing. Tell the demons on Anta's side to prepare very soon. I'll give them part of my power so they can move faster with a machine and leave this cursed planet. The heroes faction must train more if they wish to serve Anta. Run, Lilith, go. Now the girl known as Lilith, Office's clone, flew off towards the dragon territory where everyone else was. I take my dragon form when I am 60 meters tall, as I do not yet have my true form. His wings made the sky open as if it were nothing, and all the demons and dragons looked up at their leader. Attention. Trihiksa 1E-san has already found Darling's whereabouts and here is part of her power to be able to advance faster with a machine, no one must know this. Everyone shouted with excitement at being able to find their hero, so they had to accelerate the pace of the dimensional machine. We're almost there darling, just wait a little longer. Cross Angel Universe. The next day. Issei's room. -5 a.m. As was Issei's custom for a while now, he woke up early to do a training routine that Seryarg recommended and taking advantage of the fact that most people would wake up in an hour, he decided to leave Arsenal and run around the island. Having already left, he began to run, unaware that he was being watched by an early rising Jill, who was enjoying her morning coffee. She watched Issei's training with interest, only to blush slightly when she saw him take off his already sweaty shirt after running 4 laps around the island. Her slender but muscular body was revealed, marked with scars from the various battles he'd had in the supernatural realm over the past few months. She didn't take her eyes off Issei until Maggie and the others came in to begin their work, though Maggie, as usual, just wanted to talk to Jill. Time skip. A few hours later. Issei left the showers before the girls started to enter, although he felt watched when he trained, he dismissed that and decided to go see Jill to see what he could do. Issei walked calmly, encountering his now future number 1 Hexwell stalker. Yes, Zola was in front of Issei dressed as she normally does, but he hoped that when I revived she wouldn't kill him if she found out that he now had more partners. "Oh, good morning Mr. Hero," Zola greeted, trying to make Issei blush, which wouldn't work since he was already dealing with I and she knew exactly how to make him blush. "Likewise Zola, how are you today?" Issei asked calmly, and she smiled. She liked that it wasn't easy, although it frustrated her that she couldn't make him blush even a little. "Good, and better now that I found you," she said, grabbing Issei's right arm and placing it between her breasts. "By the way, where are you going so early?" she asked. "I'm going to see what Jill tells me to do today, because to be honest, I don't know what to do here," Issei said, ignoring how soft it felt to be between the blonde's breasts. "Well, let's go, I also have matters to attend to with her," Zola said, and Issei nodded. They went to the control room but were told that Zola wasn't there, but had gone to look for the new one, and Zola remembered something they always did when one survived and took Issei to where they could be. Outside Arsenal. Cemetery. At the cemetery were Jill, Ange, and an older woman, around 40 years old, accompanied by a dog wearing aviator goggles. The woman was Jasmine, who ran a shop that supplied many things in Arsenal, and the dog was Vulcan. "I never imagined you'd need 2 in one day," Jasmine said, looking at Jill. "I'm sorry for rushing you, Jasmine," Jill said to the woman, who shook her head. "Okay, we should hold a ceremony for her," Jasmine said, and Jill looked at Ange. "You'll take it, Ange," Jill said to a surprised Ange. "The survivors must dig the graves of their fallen comrades and pay for them, so that you remember their lives and don't forget them," Jill explained, and Ange looked at the gravestones of those 2 girls who died because of her. "Don't worry, you can pay them in installments," Jasmine said to Ange, who looked at her. Moments later. Coco Reeve, Miranda Campbell, those are good names, Jasmine said as she and Jill, along with Vulcan, the dog, followed Ange, who was pulling the cart that had the 2 gravestones. "The girls of Arsenal can recover their old names when they die, their real names, the ones their parents gave them," the older woman said as Ange pulled the cart hard but kept falling from the weight, yet she continued. At that moment Zola and Issei arrived at the place, where Issei was surprised by the pile of gravestones in the place. "Wow, his life is really tough," Issei said, and Zola looked at him and nodded. "Yes, only when we die can we be given back our true names," Zola said, and Issei looked at this somewhat angrily. "Wow, that's stupid and inhumane, but what can I expect from a society that discriminates against everyone just for not having that stupid monolith?" Issei said, and Zola smiled at that and hugged his arm tighter. "Hey, you're kind of clinging to me, aren't you?" Issei said, but she ignored him. "You know, you're very nice," Zola said, watching where Jill, Jasmine, and Ange were walking. "Of the few men I've met, you're the nicest of them all, Ice-kun," Zola said, smiling gently. Issei just watched her as they walked over to where the 3 of them were. Jill, Jasmine, Vulcan, and Ange stood before the 2 gravestones, saying a few words. As Issei and Zola approached, they heard Ange ask a question. "What will happen now? What do I have to do?" she asked, looking at the 2 women. "Fight and kill the dragons, that's all," Jill said. At that moment, Issei and Zola made themselves known, causing Ange to blush as she saw Issei up close. "Yes, that's all we do here, so don't worry about other things," Zola said, while Issei just stared at Ange. "But what are those dragons? Why do I have to fight them?" Ange asked after remembering how she almost died. "Weren't you listening in class?" Jill asked, and Issei looked puzzled. "Hey." Issei whispered to Zola, looking at her. "Do they teach classes here?" he asked, and she nodded. "Yes, they teach them to the younger girls. They teach them about dragons and their job of exterminating them," Zola explained, and Issei nodded. "We Norma can only live as weapons to kill dragons," Jill said, and Issei looked at her. "And I still say it's stupid," Issei said, and Jill and Jasmine looked at him. "But that's because things are different in your world," Jill said. "But I still think it's stupid and very stupid," Issei said. "Is this the boy you told me about, Jill?" Jasmine asked, and Jill nodded. "I'm sorry for not introducing myself, I'm Hyoudou Issei, and I'm not from here," Issei said, and Jasmine smiled. "Well, kid, I'm Jasmine and this is my dog Vulcan," Jasmine introduced herself, along with her dog who barked. "I'm in charge of selling the necessary products here in Arsenal. You can visit my shop if you find something you like," Jasmine said, and Issei nodded. "Well, back to you, Princess," Jasmine said, watching Ange look at Issei, but then she focused on herself. "Isn't this what you wanted?" You'll fight to protect the world, the woman said. To the world? Ainge asked. The world of Mana can remain at peace because we Norma are here fighting against the dragon, Jasmine said. While your world enjoyed its peace, the Normas were dying to protect them without anyone taking them into account, Jill said, and Ainge began to deny it, but Zola stood in front of her. You can deny it all you want, Ainge, but that's how things are. We fight for their people while they despise us, but they still need us without even realizing it. We die to prevent the dragon from reaching them. We lose friends, comrades, important companions, and for what? So that those people can live in peace without even knowing about this. You must understand that the world is crueler on this side, Zola said seriously, then returned to Issei's side, who was silent. No, I didn't know anything about that, Ainge said, now understanding things. Now it's your turn, Jill said. I don't know, I'm not even a Norma, Ainge said, denying reality. Jill held up a strange-looking feather in her hand. The officer's pen, try using it, he said, handing the pen to Ainge. Monolite light. Monolite. Why? Ainge said in a clumsy attempt to do the impossible for her under the gaze of the women in Issei who approached her and took her hand, making her blush and surprised her. Don't push yourself, Issei said gently. From what I've seen in this short time, I don't think you can do that with the monolite, so please stop lying to yourself. You're only hurting yourself more than you already are. Issei said, and Ainge looked into his eyes. I heard you lost your mother, he said, shocking Ainge because he knew that. This society is rotten. You lost your mother, who cared for you and loved you along with your father, despite not possessing monolite. The people you wanted to protect killed her. They despised your parents. Jill told me yesterday that they executed your father, and it was your own brother who did it. This indiscriminate hatred towards the women who live on this island is awful. It bothers me, it angers me. I know you can be better than them. I see in your eyes the eyes of someone intelligent, someone strong, and someone who can grow more and better than the people who live possessing that stupid monolite that I think makes them useless. Issei said, and Ainge looked at him, surprised and sad. Don't keep telling yourself that you have monolite. I know you can adapt here. Look at me, I don't need that monolite to fight. Something like that is useless to me, so please stop lying to yourself like that. You're only hurting yourself, Issei said, and Ainge looked at him while she shed tears. But why do I have to live in this hell? Tell me why. Ainge said, crying. It was you who decided this, Jill said seriously, surprising Ainge, who remembered how little girls were taken away for being Norma. You ended up here because of the rules your people established, Jill said, now truly leaving Ainge speechless. Ainge remembered how she had spoken to that woman who wanted to prevent them from taking her daughter. See episode 1 of the anime. Of course it's absurd, Jasmine said. Please, Coco was only 12 years old, she said, remembering the girl who died. 12, the same age as Sylvia, her little sister, Ainge said, separating from Issei, who gave her space and returned to Zola's side. Zola took her hand, which he found strange, but he let her. No. She's not like Sylvia, because she didn't finish because Jill continued. Normas aren't human, are they? Jill asked, teasing Issei because she still didn't understand. Zola squeezed his hand, preventing him from getting angry. Jill approached and angrily grabbed Ainge by the collar of his shirt. Then what are you? She demanded. You're not a princess, you have no mana, you abandoned your duty, you're a deserter, you killed a little girl, what are you? Jill asked angrily. Ainge began, being released by Jill. Ainge said. Command room. Emma Bronson was watching what was happening through a camera, but her gaze was focused on Issei, and she was annoyed at calling the things they believed stupid, but she decided not to say anything, since she feared that he would attack her, but she stopped that when she heard an alarm and decided to tell Jill. But Issei and the girls. Issei sensed a disturbance in the distance, and Zola looked at him. Are you alright, Ice-kun? She asked, surprised that Issei was looking in one direction. Issei couldn't answer because Celia arrived to tell Jill that a dragon had appeared, and Jill nodded. Bed up, Ainge, we're going out, Jill said, but the blonde didn't get up. Snap out of it. This world, as Issei already said, is cruel and unfair, so you must kill or be killed, that's all, Jill said to Ainge, who was crying. Kill the dragon for your dead comrades. If you can't do it, die. Jill said. In that case please kill me, Ainge said, looking away. I can't stand it, she said, covering her face. No, die in battle, just like them, that is your duty, Jill said. Commander, we don't have a paramail, Celia said. We do have one, Jill said, which surprised Jasmine and Celia along with Zola. Jill, don't tell me that. Zola said to Jill, who nodded. Let's go inside, Jill said, but Ainge didn't move. Hurry up, Ainge, we can't waste any time, Jill said, but Ainge still didn't move. When she was about to approach, Issei stopped her. Ice? She asked, looking at the brunette. You guys go, I'll take care of this, Issei said. They looked at him and decided to accept. Just don't take too long, Jill said as she left with Jasmine, Celia, and Zola, who looked at Issei. Go with them, I need to talk to Ainge, Issei said, and Zola nodded. They left and Issei looked at Ainge still on the ground. It's difficult, isn't it? Issei asked Ainge, who looked at him. I don't know what it's like to lose your parents, but I know what it's like to feel your life change quickly overnight, Issei said, extending his hand to help her up, which she accepted. So your life changed overnight? Ainge asked. Yes, you know I'm not normal, and you weren't even here when I told you my story, but I can tell you something. Issei said. You're here now. I know it's hard for you to accept being here. Look at me. When my life changed, I was murdered. Everyone despised and beat me just for being born without a weapon sacred to them, even though I was born with one. Then they revived me, and I started a crazy life, fighting against beings of great power, even more powerful than mine. But I had friends, companions, and comrades who supported me along the way. I met a kind-hearted girl whom I love. I know it's crazy, but I'll tell you my story later. The point is, don't let it get you down. Your parents wouldn't have liked to see you like this. Become strong so that you're never trampled on or despised again like those people who were your supposed allies did. Now you live here and you can make new companions, so don't shut yourself off from the others who try to be kind to you. I won't tell you what, I won't blame you for the deaths of those two girls, but now focus on the future, a future here where you will be accepted just as you are and not rejected simply for not possessing that monolite. So let's go to the others. I'll be by your side if you need help. I won't let them hurt you or anyone else. So let's go, Ainge, Issei said, and Ainge took his hand with a different kind of brightness in her eyes. But they still hate me for what I said, Ainge said, accepting the harsh reality, but Issei put a hand to her head. You were scared, you just found out you were a Norma, and yes, accept it, you are one, don't lie to yourself, Issei said, and she nodded. Well, let's go, we shouldn't keep Jill waiting, Issei said, and Ainge followed them. So, by the way, she said, drawing Issei's attention, what's your name? She asked, not knowing the name of the one who saved her. Oh, excuse my lack of manners, my name is Issei Hyoudou, but you can call me Ice if you want, Ainge, nice to meet you, said Issei, and she nodded. The pleasure is all mine, Ice, she said. And so they both went to where Jill was. Hangers. Zola and Celia were gathered in front of a door along with Jill and a girl the same age as Vivian when Issei and Ainge arrived. Did you convince her? Jill asked. Well, I don't know if what I did can be called convincing her, but I brought her here like I said, Issei said, and Jill nodded. Are you really going to use it? The girl asked Jill as the doors in front of them opened. Yes, Jill replied. And what about that? The girl asked. No idea, Jill said. Can we turn it on? Jill asked the girl, who nodded. Sure, give me 20 minutes, the girl said, then left quickly. They went deeper into the place, where it was dark. Hey Zola, don't take advantage. Issei said, grabbing Zola's hand which went to his package. How did you know who it was? Zola asked, impressed. I have night vision, Issei said with a blank expression, and she dismissed it, feigning ignorance. Well. Jill said, drawing everyone's attention, this is your unit. She said, and a light turned on over a blue and grey par mail. It's very old, the engine is wrecked, the power regulation is a mess, it's junk that could fall apart, Jill said. Then why are you giving it to him if it doesn't even work? Issei asked. Easy, Ice, she wants to die and what better way than with a machine like that? Jill said, and Issei just sweated at that. She's always like this, so get used to it, Zola said, and Celia nodded in agreement with her leader. It's called Vilcus, Jill said, naming the contraption, as Ainge approached the par mail. Remember, Ainge, Issei said, drawing everyone's attention, become strong, so use that par mail to achieve it. Issei looked at him and nodded. Wow, this guy really knows how to change people, Jill thought. Jill, why that unit? Celia said. I'll have to take care of you if you can't follow orders from high command, Jill told her, and she kept quiet. Fine, let's go, Jill said, starting to walk. Oh, Ice, please support them, Jill asked. Of course, I won't let anything happen to them, Issei said, and Jill smiled at that before leaving. Moments later. Once everyone was ready, they took off with Zola and Celia leading the group and Ainge at the back, much to the dismay of some. Why is she here? Do we have to fight alongside the person who almost killed Miss Zola? Rosalie asked, looking at Ainge with disgust, well Chris said he would kill her. Stop this nonsense and leave her alone. She's with us now, whether you like it or not, Zola said, and they reluctantly agreed. I heard she wanted to die, but then she changed her mind. Oh well, never mind, she's just a flawed princess, Hilda said. Ah, and that unit? Asked Vivian, the lowly of the group, watching how Ainge's unit was moving erratically. Zola, Celia, isn't that par mail great? Asked the lowly excitedly. Right Zola. Celia. Said Vivian happily. Haha, you're right Vivian, Zola said, smiling at the girl's attitude. We're on a mission, Vivian, said Sona from here I mean Celia, yes Celia. Issei suddenly appeared in front of the group at great speed, surprising the girls. Wow, he's here again, Ice. Vivian exclaimed happily. It's about time, Ice-kun. Where were you? Zola asked. They were going to give me a communicator, so I had to wait for them to deliver it, Issei said. Just don't keep everything to yourself, we need things too. Hilda told Issei. Yes, Red Queen, don't worry, Issei said. What did you call me? Hilda asked, annoyed. Silhouette of the target spotted reported the communicators. Here it comes, get ready, Zola said. Underwater, a purple and red dragon, like the one from the day before, appeared. Wow, he's the same type as that idiot from yesterday, Issei said. The larva, partner, nothing difficult, but let them see what they do, just be their support said Drag, and Issei nodded. Yes, I let them do their job, Issei said. What will we do, Captain? Hilda asked Zola, who looked at the dragon. Well, let's go all out, Zola said, smiling. All units, attack formation, Zola said. And so Celia, Hilda, Vivian, Chris and Rosalie, with their power males in mecha mode, what a lame description. Attacked the dragon with everything they had, under the watchful eye of Issei, who observed their performance. Meanwhile, Ainge could barely move her power mail. The dragon was smarter and attacked with several energy spheres that hit Rosalie's power mail, even though Chris helped her. The dragon set a trap and cornered them, and now Ursha was the one who got hurt and asked what to do. Zola was also cornered since the damn dragon knew how to attack. Damn, they're doing badly, Issei said, but he saw Ainge, and also saw how the dragon had Celia trapped in one of its wings, as the girl got out and started throwing bullets at the dragon. I'd better help her, Issei said, going to where Celia was since Ainge was doing very crazy maneuvers with that half-baked power mail. Issei, using the sonic tower, flew to the dragon and punched him right in the face to stun him, then flew to where Celia was stuck. Are you okay? Issei asked the girl, as he pulled the power mail from his wing. Yes, thank you for that, Issei-san, she said. It's nothing, Issei said, smiling and blushing slightly. Son I mean, Celia, he finished removing the power mail from the wing, so she could regroup with the others. He saw the dragon go after Ainge and catch her in its claws. Damn it, that son of a bitch, Issei said, but he stopped when he saw something that surprised him and the others. But Ainge. The blonde was terrified. Now that she didn't want to die, having finally understood what Issei had told her, she was about to die because of the dragon and its evil power mail. She also remembered how Coco and Miranda had died and her own near-death experience with Zola. She was scared. She didn't want to die. She still had to fight to survive, even if it meant killing these things. She had to do it for her parents and Issei. It seemed the brunette had had a profound impact on her. She was frightened, but when she looked at her left hand where the bandage had been torn, she found her mother's last gift, her emerald green ring, and remembered her mother's final words. Live. Angel eyes. And those words from the one who saved her from dying before. I'll be by your side if you need help. I won't let them hurt you or anyone else, so come on Ainge. But the most important words were, become strong, Ainge. And so she awoke from her shock thanks to Issei's words, and especially his mother's. The dragon roared before her. Nge. Issei shouted but. Aye. Ainge screamed and several drops of her blood that fell from her forehead fell into her hand, where she had the ring which shone along with Vilcus, causing the dragon to release it and blinding everyone. When they saw how Vilcus underwent a change that even surprised Ainge herself, who left that and took control of the machine. Overview. Wow, I knew she could, said Issei without his helmet, observing Vilcus's transformation. And now that Paramail doesn't look old at all, Issei added. Ainge changed the Vilcus into its mecha mode, which looked like a white knight and looked great. I don't want to die, Ainge cried as she attacked the dragon with Vilcus's weapon. Vilcus, shielding itself with a magic shield, flew in the opposite direction to gain momentum and charge back at the enemy. I don't want to die. She screamed, dodging all attacks. Then she reverted to Vilcus's mecha mode and drew a sword, dodging the dragon's attacks. You, she said, glaring fiercely at her opponent. With her sword, she pierced the dragon's head and returned a series of attacks that had been chasing her, bringing the creature down. It fell defeated into the water. Die. She yelled, then with Vilcus's left hand, she unleashed a powerful freezing blast that surprised everyone and brought a smile to Issei's face. The creature fell into the water and became an iceberg. The girls, as well as Jill and Emma, were amazed, but Issei approached Ainge. Hey, Ainge, are you okay? Issei asked. She was breathing heavily while she still couldn't see him. Zola approached next to Issei. It's like I told you, he gets excited when he kills these things, Zola said, and that brought Ainge back to reality. No, that's not true. I'm not like that. he said, and Zola smiled but said nothing. You're not like this, but circumstances now require you to change. You won't like it, but it's necessary, Ange. But I already told you, didn't I? I'll be there for you, Issei said, and Ange looked at him with teary eyes before bursting into tears. Ah, I really like this girl, but she is such a crybaby, Zola said, and Issei approached her and hit her forehead since she had come out of her paramail. Ouch, and why is that? She asked. Ah, let her be. You're older than her and yet you act like a child. You should leave her alone. Not everyone is like you girls, Issei said, and Zola just nodded. Time skip. Arsenal. Cemetery. -5:30 p.m. After returning, Ange clung to Issei, much to the jealousy of Zola and Ursha, who had wanted to talk to him. Issei comforted her until she fell asleep, then she asked him to accompany her because she wanted to do something and didn't want to be alone. Goodbye, father, mother, Sylvia, Ange said, watching the sunset. Issei stood apart, silently observing her. It was something that only concerned her. She took her long hair and cut it short with a knife. I don't have much left. I have no past, no name, but she thought, then looked at Issei, who smiled at her. Now I have a new life here, thanks to him, who saved me and gave me the strength to go on. I won't die like you. To survive, I'll crawl on the ground, drink dirty water, and vomit blood. I will live, she thought, gazing at the horizon, then walked over to Issei. I will kill and live, I will become strong with him, she thought, looking at Issei and smiling. Come on, Ice, she said, and the brown-haired boy nodded. You know, you look better like this than with long hair, although you're still beautiful with it, Issei said, and she smiled, blushing. Thank you, she said, and Issei looked at her. He stopped, and she stopped too. Thank you for helping me, for saving me, for helping me change. Thank you, Ice, she said, looking at the brunette, who smiled. You don't have to. I like you, you and the others. I can't stop thinking about how bad this world is with all this discrimination against those who aren't the same. So, seeing you and your denial of reality, I decided to help you since you were only hurting yourself, Issei said, then looked at the sunset. I told you before, and I'll tell you again. I'll be there for you whenever you need me. I'll support you in whatever you need. I'll be your friend and confidant, and I won't let you or anyone in Arsenal suffer anymore from now on, Issei said, turning back to Ange and smiling. It's a promise, Ange, Issei said, smiling, and she hugged him tightly, which he returned. Thank you, seriously thank you so much for everything, Ice, Ange said. Then someone hugged Issei from behind. Don't think you'll keep him all to yourself, Zola said, looking at Ange, which Ange took badly, and they both glared at each other with lightning in their eyes. I saw him first, Zola said, hugging Issei tighter. They both started fighting, and Issei remembered something similar in his world. Greg, how do you think they are? Issei asked his friend. Looking for a way to bring you back, although for the moment I don't think it's possible, since not even Great Red can do this, because this dimensional shift felt very different, but I think they're fine and looking for a way for you to return, especially the girls since you made them yours. They'll become somewhat crazy or depressed without you around, but in the meantime enjoy yourself here, although I think this is a bit strange, since the presence of those dragons is unusual. I don't know what they are, but I think we'll find out soon, Drake said, and Issei, despite being between two girls who were fighting, calmly looked at the sunset and thought that what Drake had told him was strange. I hope you're alright, girls, you have no idea how much I miss you, Issei thought, then stopped the fight between the two, and the three of them went inside to rest. The day ends with a change in Ange. Now Issei is delving deeper into what this world offers, but what he doesn't know is that the dragons aren't the only problem here and that the cause of all the evil will appear to start messing things up. But what Issei doesn't know, nor does the antagonist himself, is that thanks to a certain superior being. Issei won't be affected at all by that guy's vermin since Issei doesn't belong to that world and nothing that comes from this world will affect him in any way. Chapter 4. 1 week later. A week had passed since Ange got Vilcus, a week in which Issei had to get used to being literally among several women, and it's not that it bothers him, but it's still not normal for him, since he only lives with a few girls and his parents, but living among many women is something strange but great. Ange is serious and distant with everyone else, but not with Issei. Although they don't talk much, she only spends time near him occasionally, and if she's not with him, she's training. Zola is another one who spends time with Issei, although she doesn't anymore because she wants to sleep with him. She's interested in learning about Issei's world. Vivian and Ursha also spend time with Issei. Although the lowly is very energetic, he's still happy to be with her. Ursha shows an attachment to Issei ever since she saw him playing with the younger girls to keep them from getting bored. She saw Issei as a good father figure, and that's what attracts her. With Chris and Rosalie it's normal, although they get jealous when they see Zola spending more time with Issei than with them. Hilda is more formal since they don't spend much time together and only exchange a few words. And with Celia, well, it's difficult for Issei. She's more inaccessible to talk to than Sona, since Sona at least tried to make conversation or vice versa, but Celia was very serious. That week he also asked Jasmine if she could get him some training gear, of course paying her with a huge amount of money he'd earned killing dragons. He doesn't talk much to Jill since he doesn't really have anything to ask her, although he always feels watched when he goes out to train early. Emma is very serious, but he managed to get along with her because she sees him as normal since he's from another world and thinks it's normal that he doesn't have mana. She didn't announce her arrival because she thought rationally and believed it would be bad to have Issei as an enemy, so she decided it was better to get along with him, which worked little by little, since Issei spoke to her only a few times about things from his world and such. The officer was interested in that and liked Issei, although she wouldn't tell him. And Maggie, well, she's kind of strange, to be honest. Whenever he asks her for things for when he self-harms during his training, he feels like she undresses him with her eyes when he's not looking. He's even asked her to give him a full body exam. Anyway, Issei has been the center of attention in all of Arsenal since he arrived, but now the girls treat him like any other resident, even though he's a boy. Issei has noticed that Ange doesn't want to befriend anyone there, and that worries him because she's isolating herself from the others, which bothers them. Zola doesn't seem to mind, but Chris and Rosalie do, and that's a problem. Now Issei is asleep in his room, but he's showing signs of waking up. Ah, yum, I slept so well, Issei said, stretching a little and not noticing a lump under the sheets to his left. He'd already bought a bigger bed for himself. Issei placed his hands on the bed, or so he thought, when he felt something soft to his left and squeezed it. Huh? Wait, this feels familiar, Issei said, squeezing the soft lump even more until. Ah, be gentler, moaned a voice that was already common for him in the mornings. Issei, still clutching his chest, looked to his left with a blank expression. This is the third time you've entered my room without permission, Zola, Issei said, pulling back the sheet from his companion, revealing Zola in a sheer purple nightgown and matching lace underwear. She looked incredibly hexy, but Issei was used to it and it didn't bother him much. I already told you not to do that, but it seems you don't care, Issei said, his hands still on the blonde's chest. She opened her eyes and looked at him, smiling softly. Good morning Ice-kun, how did you sleep? I'm very well if you're wondering, she said, gently caressing Issei's right cheek as if he were her lover. Ah, I woke up feeling good, Issei said, getting up and revealing that he was only wearing pants, leaving his privates exposed, since that's how he slept. Besides, I'm used to waking up like this, Issei added, putting on one of his t-shirts. Zola sat up in bed and stretched, watching Issei as he did so. She looked at him and smiled. Do you like what you see? She asked, noticing Issei still staring at her. I'd be lying if I said no, so yes, I like it a lot, Issei said, putting on his shoes and taking something out of a small cabinet he'd bought. Well, shall we go? Issei asked. Zola nodded, stood up, and took his right arm. Yes, but you'll come with me to my room, and then we'll see what to do, she said. Yes, I always do, let's go, said Issei, and Zola smiled. They both left the room and headed to Zola's room, where they were greeted by a jealous Chris and Rosalie. Issei had to find a way to calm them down, and so his morning began. Time skip. -3 hours later. Zola and the others had returned from their job of eliminating dragons, and now Zola and Ange were the ones with the most money earned. But Chris and Rosalie were angry with Ange for her attitude. Issei saw this and was interested to see how it would play out. The girls didn't see Issei approaching, only one of them. Ice, said Vivian happily, running to hug Issei, who returned the hug. Hi Vivian, why so energetic? Did something good happen? Issei asked, smiling at the cheerful version of Kaneko for him, of course. Yes, I got my pay and it was a lot this time, Vivian said happily. That's good, Issei said, stroking the girl's head. Vivian giggled sweetly as they felt the caresses. Just then, a smiling Ursha approached the pair. Hello Isan, how are you? Ursha asked as she put her hands behind her back and looked at Issei with a warm smile. Well Ursha-chan, thanks for asking, and you, it seems you did well, Issei replied, and the pink-haired girl smiled. I did well, yes, but some didn't do so well, Ursha said, making Issei look at Chris and Rosalie, who were annoyed by the little money they earned. Ah, what a problem, Issei said, approaching the window to take out 10 bundles of bills. He thanked a person who served him and looked at the 2 women who were engrossed in their own business. Hey, Issei called to them, and they looked at him. I heard you're having financial problems, Issei said. DCH, it's all that little princess's fault, she won't let us do our job, Rosalie said, annoyed. Yes, it's really hard to get money with her here, Chris said, equally annoyed. Issei saw them both and handed 5 bundles of cash to each of them. What is this? Rosalie asked. The gift, Issei said. They both looked at him strangely. What's the trick? Chris asked suspiciously. There's no trick to it, take it. Besides, you need it more than I do, Issei said. Both of them were annoyed, thinking he was pitying them. DCH, we don't want your pity. You, just like that little princess, leave us with nothing. Rosalie said angrily. Bored and somewhat annoyed to see them taking it out on Issei, Zola stepped in to stop it. That's enough, you two. Ice-kun only wants to help you because he sees you as friends. You need to stop being angry with him, Zola said, scolding them both. Rosalie and Chris fell silent. We're sorry Ice-san, we're sorry for getting angry with you, they both said. Issei patted their heads and smiled at them. No problem, after all, you're right that I took your money. Take this as compensation, Issei said, handing them both 5 bundles of bills. They looked at Issei and then at the money, feeling bad for having thought he would take advantage of them because he had it. Thank you Ice-san, thank you so much, they both said gratefully. It doesn't matter, let's go eat, it's my treat, said Issei smiling. Those who were there with him, since Ange, Hilda and Celia, had gone their separate ways, nodded happily, and Zola and Vivian quickly clung to Issei's arms, much to the annoyance of the other 3. Time skip. -1 hour later. Issei was alone since the girls had gone to do their own thing after lunch. He was walking towards his room when he heard Emma shout. She sounded rather indignant. When Issei approached the sound, he was met with a sight that was both surprising and stimulating. Why? Because Ange's formal attire was torn to shreds, barely covering what was necessary. Issei watched as Emma confronted Ange, who, after giving a military salute, left Emma alone. Issei approached Emma, who was complaining about girls who lacked decency and so on. Hey Emma, what was that a moment ago? Issei asked, approaching Emma who looked at him. Oh, hello Issei-san, well, you see, that girl Ange is causing a commotion by dressing like that, Emma replied wearily. You seem tense. Would you like a massage? Issei offered kindly, since it was better to win her over. Emma looked at him, and although she felt embarrassed about a boy touching her, she accepted anyway. Okay, Emma said. So they both went to where Emma was sitting drinking her coffee, and Issei began his work. Ah, you're good, Emma praised, feeling Issei's hands massage the right spot on her shoulders. Well, when you have a girlfriend you gain experience, Issei said. Emma let out a moan, blushing at the thought, but it didn't last long as she moaned again with pleasure. Emma felt relaxed. Perhaps if she asked him nicely, Issei could give her another massage like this. She couldn't deny that he was good at it. After that, several interesting things happened involving Chris and Rosalie in a revenge against Ange for almost killing Zola and for having an irritating attitude, well according to them, and all that while Issei was with Zola and Hilda, who wanted to get to know Issei better. To understand things better, we need to recount what happened. Well, it was the following. First, the 2 friends, during lunch, planned to throw their food tray at Ange. Rosalie missed, and it hit another girl, who angrily punched her. Later, while Ange was training on the simulator, Rosalie and Chris decided to switch the water in her bottle, with one that had a laxative dissolved in it. Ange came out and knew something was wrong when she drank her water, or so she made them believe. The 2 friends emerged from their hiding place, and just when they thought they had won, Ange kissed Rosalie, passing the water she had been holding in her mouth, which, sure enough, caused Rosalie to have a trip to the toilet. Shortly after Rosalie nearly died from vomiting, she decided to continue her foolishness, and so the 2 friends went to the locker room where Ange was taking a shower. They both thought about how to get revenge, and while searching through a laundry basket, Chris found a black thong with red strings. Rosalie, blushing, blurted out things like, she's a total slut or let's hang up that dirty boar's panties. Yes, things like that. But what they didn't count on was that the thong didn't belong to Ange. No sir, it belonged to the matriarch of the group, Ursha, who, upon emerging from her refreshing shower, found herself confronted by 2 girls eyeing her underwear and saying things about her. What did they both receive? Well, an Ursha lariat, an Ursha special magnum, and an Ursha aerial wheelie, all while Ange walked out, ignoring the commotion, and put on her already badly damaged outfit. Yes, both went through hell, while Zola and Hilda chatted comfortably with Issei, who continued to tell some things. Time skip. Jasmine Mall. At Jasmine Mall, Jasmine's famous store where Issei would order his supplies of stupid things like junk food and other things like notebooks to draw in when he was bored, or things like clothes that the woman charged him a lot for, since it's harder to get men's clothes for a place where only women work, but there were also times when he would ask her for powerful and large weapons, for something he was working on. Now Issei had arrived with Zola, who was almost always by his side, since he had to pass by his girls from time to time, and Vivian, who joined them and carried a bag with a lot of money that the lowly apparently saved well. Now what are you comparing, Ice-kun? Zola asked Issei, who had seen her. Ice, what are you comparing them to? Are they those delicious cookies from 2 days ago again? Vivian asked. Well, the truth is I'm here today for my privilege, you know I eat too much, although I have a gift for the group and even for Celia, although she only talks to me when it's work, said Issei as Zola hugged his right arm while smiling. Wow, Ice-kun, you really want to show off to us, huh? Don't tell me you want to add us to your harem, even little Vivian will be included in the package, Ice-kun, you're so bold, Zola said, trying to tease Issei. Well, Vivian didn't hear the last part because she was excited about the gift. Well, that wouldn't be a bad idea, you know. Besides, you're beautiful, I wouldn't mind being with you, Issei said, hugging the blonde around the waist. She blushed slightly, since Issei had been acting like this with her for the past 2 days, and she liked it. But I'm not planning that for now, Issei said, and Zola smiled. They arrived at Jasmine's superstore, where Issei was greeted by Vulcan, who jumped up to lick his face. I missed you too, champ, Issei said, stroking the dog's head. Vivian went ahead, having spotted something she liked. Wow, you're early, but I still have your order, it's over there, said Jasmine, who was sitting while watching her shop, pointing to about 4 large boxes. Thanks again for this, Jasmine. Here's your payment for next week, Issei said, handing her 45 million in cash. Haha, don't worry Ice, it's good doing business with you, said the smiling brunette woman. She greatly valued Issei. Old lady, how much for this? It was Vivian's voice calling to Jasmine, who frowned slightly at the old lady comment. It's 1 Isan, for God's sake, well boy see you later, Jasmine said as she approached to tell Vivian the price of the weapon she wanted to buy. Wow, Jasmine is funny sometimes, Issei said, laughing a little. Zola laughed too. Well, when she's upset it's not very nice, that's why it's good to keep her in a good mood always, Zola said, and Issei smiled amusedly. They continued talking for a while when they saw something that caught both of their attention. Wow, you've got something special, Ange, Issei said, watching Ange walk away in her destroyed outfit. The blonde blushed at what Issei said. Now you're being an exhibitionist. I like you more and more, Ange, Zola said mockingly. Ange ignored it and went over to where Jasmine and Vivian were. Oh, how hexy, Vivian said, impressed. It looks very fresh, Jasmine said, looking at Ange's flimsy outfit. Do you have uniforms? Was the only question that came out of Ange's mouth as she threw a wad of bills to the older woman who counted them. Do I have it? I have everything, from bras to railroad cannons, Jasmine said. Issei and Zola had approached to see what was happening. And also my things that are hard to find, Issei added with a smile as he stood next to Ange. The blonde looked at him doubtfully. I won't dress in women's clothes. Jasmine buys the clothes I wear, Issei said, and Ange smiled. What? You can smile. Vivian pointed out, but Ange quickly stopped smiling and adopted her stoic expression. Ah, she stopped, Vivian said, and Issei stroked the loli's head. Leave her alone, she's still getting used to it here, Issei said. Zola just glanced at Ange but let it go. You know what? I still can't get out of my head what Jasmine said to me the first day I came to buy something from her, Issei said, and the 3 girls looked at him. What was that? Vivian asked. Well, I can literally buy anyone if I have enough money, Issei said. At that moment, Zola leaned in very close to him. Ange was annoyed by this but didn't say anything. What's wrong with you? Issei asked, looking at Zola, who smiled like Kuroka. Something that bothered him was remembering the faces of his brother's girlfriends. Nothing, it's just that you don't want to buy me, you know I can be very useful to you, too useful Zola said, the last part whispered in the chestnut-haired man's ear, who blushed slightly at the thought. You know I won't do that, I'm not an animal either. If I want someone close to me, I earn that person, I don't buy them because that would make me feel bad, Issei said, making Zola smile at that. I know, but what I said last wasn't a lie, it would be very useful to you, Ice-kun Zola said, and Issei just let out a sigh at that. Here you go, Jasmine said, tossing a package with Ange's clothes, who went to put them on. A small group went to wait for the blonde in the dressing room that Jasmine had at the venue. How did it end up like this? Jasmine wondered. I imagine he had some trouble with the girls, Issei said. Probably Chris and Rosalie, since they always complain about her at night, Zola said, remembering how they always tell her how much they hate Ange when she has them both in bed. Probably, Issei said. Then he came out. You look good, Issei said, and Ange smiled at him and nodded. Well, I'll leave you too. I have something to do, Issei said, leaving the place. Me too, I have to check on my par mail, Zola said, leaving the 3 of them. Time skip. Outside of Arsenal. Are you really going out again to see what you find? Asked Jill, who was standing next to Maggie. Yes, replied Issei, who was wearing his armor but not his helmet. I always do, and you know I get bored being locked up, so don't worry, I'll be back when it gets dark, Issei said. Both women saw him and sensed. Okay, we can't keep you locked up here either, after all, we're not your bosses, Jill said. But if you get hurt and you know where to go, I see, Maggie said, making Issei smile nervously. Why yes Maggie, I know you'll help me with that haha, Issei said, then decided to leave. Well, I'm going now. If I find anything interesting, I'll bring it back here, Issei said. Be careful, both women said. Issei nodded and flew off. This boy won't stay still, Maggie said. I just hope he helps us with what we're planning, Jill said, watching the red dot disappear into the horizon. Deliberate although it's very risky, if Ice-kun is on our side we can win, Maggie said. Jill said nothing, so they both decided to return to their posts, leaving the matter for another time. With Issei flew peacefully through the sky, without a care in the world. Hey Drake, do you think we'll find anything new today? Issei asked, bored. With your luck, probably maybe, although you never know, destiny brings mysterious things, and that's the good thing about life, since you don't know what awaits you Albio and Issei smiled at that. You're right, haha, now let's see where we go, said Issei, floating in the middle of the sea and looking in various directions for something to catch his attention. Oh, but look at that, said Issei, seeing an island in the distance. Well, an island, let's see if there's treasure there, said Issei jokingly. Yes, treasure of course, and then what? Jack Sparrow appears and offers us to be members of his crew to fight against David Jones and the Kraken, said Vitra. Either it's Atlantis and there's a volcano spewing molten gold, or maybe there are some crazy cult experiments with some mothers who are freaking terrifying and sound creepy and can regenerate, a fat guy with a Gatling gun, several weird soldiers, an experiment in cages hanging in midair, and a leader who transforms into a strange spider. I think I should have stopped playing Resident Evil 4 a long time ago, Issei said, following what Drake was saying. But putting the nonsense aside, come on, maybe there's something good to eat, Issei said. You only live with hunger, said Drake. Shut up, it's because I have a dragon's body, Issei said. Then Issei decided to fly to the island. Mysterious island. Issei arrived and landed on the island's beach, admiring how beautiful the place looked. Wow, what a cozy place, Issei said, taking in the surroundings. Maybe I'll find something good here, he added, venturing deeper into the jungle. The next day. Arsenal. While Issei spent the rest of the day and most of the night in Indiana Jones mode in the middle of the jungle, everyone back in Arsenal was in their rooms. 2 hours had passed since Issei left Arsenal and had been flying in circles. Yes, the idiot flew in circles when he got bored of flying in a straight line. But putting his idiocy aside, the girls were relaxed. Zola was with Hilda, Rosalie and Chris in her room, Ange in her room, and Vivian was with Celia in her room, with Vivian talking to the Sona from that world and then teasing her about the romance novels Celia was reading. Everyone was calm when what had to happen happened. A dragon attack alert. They were all at their posts and Zola, with her serious demeanor befitting a leader, led the first troop. Alright, it's time to get into your units, Zola said seriously. Yes ma'am, said the girls except for Ange who only got on hers even though she had attack that poked her butt. Ouch, brainless insects, Ange said, annoyed. Ange, hurry up. Zola ordered and Ange decided to hurry. Ange, the final inspection May shouted to Ange PMA armor, I think it's par mail Ange, without problems, how is the inside? She asked Ange who was in a hurry. No problem. Said the blonde. Runway clear for takeoff was announced over the loudspeaker. Team Zola out. Said Zola, leaving in her paramail, followed by the rest. Zola squadron, Ange, leaving said Ange, leaving. In mid-flight they were informed that the target was 1200 meters from their current position. Listen up, the door is about to open. Zola said seriously. Everyone was watching intently when the portal opened, releasing several small dragons. Fire. Zola ordered, and they all began firing at the horde of dragons. But then Ange appeared and attacked the dragons on her own. Ange, don't attack a demon on your own. Zola yelled, but the blonde ignored her and continued what she was doing. It wasn't long before a malfunction in Vilcus, which wasn't the work of Hilda's pink panties, affected one of the paramail's engines. Ange? Vivian exclaimed, astonished by what had happened. Ange, what the hell happened? Stabilize your unit. Zola said through their communication screen. Ange didn't respond as she was busy trying to keep Vilcus afloat, which she couldn't do. When she switched to battle mode, she was rammed by a small dragon. Vilcus? Celia shouted, worried about the paramail. Damn it, Ange. Zola yelled, watching Ange fall into the water. Issei's going to be furious about this, she thought, wondering what Issei would say. Celia, leave her alone. Here comes the big one, Zola said, watching one of the big ones emerge from the portal. Ange, I hope you come back in one piece, Zola said, then looked at the dragon. Target. The brigantine class ahead. All units attack. Zola gave her order. Meanwhile, Ange was being pulled under by the dragon that had her in its grip. Damn it, ice was the last thing Ange thought before losing consciousness due to the water that entered her unit. Time skip. The island. Ange slowly regained consciousness when she realized she was in a bed. She quickly sat up but felt pain. "I wouldn't move so much if I were you," said a familiar voice. Ainge looked around, seeing that she was in a sort of furnished cave with various items scattered about. Sitting in a chair, reading a book, was a shirtless Issei, his bare torso covered in scars. She blushed at the sight. "Lie down. Later I'll ask you what happened and I'll also tell you why you're in this place. I found you 4 days ago and it's been 4 days since you lost consciousness," Issei said, leaving Ainge in shock. What happened? How did Issei end up in a furnished cave on an island? How did he find Ainge? But more importantly, how did Issei find that place? Well, that and more will be revealed in the next chapter. Chapter 5. Island. On the island where Issei had been wandering, he came across a surprise. A Vilcus crashed on the island's beach, with Ainge unconscious from the impact. Issei pulled her from the Mecha and carried her to the cave he had previously found, placing her on a bed he had prepared beforehand, as he was going to stay on the island for a while. Ainge remained unconscious for 4 days, during which Issei cared for her and used some potions he had with him to prevent her body from weakening or anything happening to her biological functions. At that time Issei was reading the book he found 4 days ago when he arrived on the island. The book contained many things about how a paramale works and how to repair or properly maintain one, but since Issei found the cave, for that he had to go back a few hours before Ainge crashed on the island's beach. Flashback. -4 days earlier. Island. Issei was walking calmly around the island, enjoying a coconut he picked from a palm tree. "How peaceful this place is," the chestnut-haired man said calmly as he walked along a path. "This path is strange, but that's what investigating is for," Issei added. Just then, Drake's gem manifested on the back of Issei's left hand. "We haven't found anything for a while now. I was hoping we'd at least find some ruins of a laboratory or something like that, but nothing. I think we're just wasting our time in this place," said the dragon. "Don't despair, we only arrived yesterday and you don't find things that quickly," Issei said. After about 15 minutes of walking, he found a cave entrance. "See, I told you we'd find something interesting," Issei said, and Drake just snorted at that. "Alright, let's see what we find," Issei said, entering the cave only to find a bunch of boxes and other things, as if someone had been living there before. "Okay, I wasn't expecting this," he said to himself, walking over to the boxes and checking their contents. Issei proceeded to unpack the boxes and remove the blankets covering some furniture, such as a bed, an armchair, a small refrigerator, and an empty filing cabinet. He then unpacked various tools and other mechanical equipment for repairing paramales and other maintenance items. "Well, I didn't find anything but tools," Issei said, unpacking the last box. One of the small boxes he had taken out and placed on the filing cabinet fell because a broom bumped it. This small box left a small notebook on the floor, which Issei looked at strangely. "But what is this, some kind of diary?" he asked, picking up the book to look at a note inside. It looked very old because of the deterioration of the paper. "A note," Issei said, beginning the next step. "To whoever finds this notebook, I leave in your hands the legacy of the Knights of Vilcus. You may wonder what that is and why I'm making it sound so important. Well, our duty is to help whoever pilots Vilcus to victory against the Mana Empire that arose years ago. Who I am now no longer matters, but I can tell you that I am a direct descendant of the ancient humans, those who did not use mana like those who inhabit the world now. I ask you to support the pilot of Vilcus, as the victory against T depends on her." "Wow, the rest is illegible," Issei said, finishing reading the note in the diary, which was in better condition than the one he had. Issei set the note aside and checked the contents of the notebook, which gave detailed instructions on how to repair Vilcus. "Well, I don't know what's going on, but if Ainge needs my help, then I'll do it. It's a good thing I asked AI-chan to get me some of those reading glasses," Issei said, taking out a pair of reading glasses that I used to quickly read reports or books. A few minutes passed until a distant crash caught their attention. It was a collision that hit right on the beach south of the cave. "What will happen now?" Issei asked. The brown-haired boy walked to the crash site and was surprised to find the Vilcus wreck there. "What did you do now, Ainge?" Issei wondered, approaching the machine to observe an unconscious Ainge. Issei approached the girl and took her out of the Vilcus, then carried her bridal style to the cave where he had to make the bed so the girl could recover. "Well, she won't wake up for a while, it's perfect for learning about the Vilcus," Issei said to himself as he sat down near Ainge and began his reading. From that day on, Issei would check the Vilcus after having cleaned Ainge and changed the bandages for the wound she caused herself after the impact. 4 days passed where he had made significant progress until the present day when Ainge woke up. Then flashback. Present. Issei had prepared some soup and served some to Ainge, who gladly accepted the soup that the brunette prepared. "This is delicious," Ainge said to Issei. "Thanks, I tried my best, haha," Issei said. "Now tell me, what happened that made you crash like that?" Issei asked, and Ainge looked away. Well, I left without even letting them finish Vilkas's final check, the blonde said, and Issei just shook his head at that. You see what your desperation caused. Now I have to finish fixing Vilkas so we can leave, because I'm not leaving him here. Besides, it's all your fault he's like this, and I'm not carrying him all the way to Arsenal, Issei said to the blonde, who just let out a sigh. Well, enjoy your soup and get some rest since you just woke up after being knocked unconscious, so don't rush it, Ainge, Issei said, and she nodded. After a few minutes, they finished eating, and Issei decided to talk to Ainge for a bit. And Issei called the blonde's attention. Why don't you get along with the others? Zola and I don't always ask. I mean, I know you were someone once, but after what happened to you, which, to be honest, I don't know, you've become hostile to everyone except Zola and me, since I only saved you, Issei said, looking at the blonde who didn't want to answer. You know what I think, Issei said. I think that since you accepted what you are, and Norma, you stopped seeing yourself as human, he said, and she looked at him, impressed. You look indifferent to everyone else. You don't follow Zola's rules because you see her as nothing more than an insect, just like the others, right? Issei said. She tried to say, but Issei interrupted her. Don't try to lie to me, I can see it in your eyes. Ever since you accepted the name Ainge, you stopped being who you were. I imagine you were arrogant and all that, having been a princess, Issei said seriously, and Ainge was annoyed by it. I know what you were. Princess Angelize Ikagura Mitsurugi, who was revered as someone loving and proud. Everyone loved her, and she wasn't imperfect, he said, rising from his chair. Someone who had loving parents, and like the rest of the idiots in this detestable world, he said, turning his back on the blonde, who looked like she was about to explode with anger. They think that Normas are nothing more than beings who shouldn't have existed in the world, Issei said seriously. What do you know about me? Ainge shouted angrily, fed up with what Issei was saying. You don't know me, you just appeared out of nowhere, you don't know what I suffered. She yelled angrily, but Issei turned around and gave her a cold look. Do you think the world revolves around you, that only you suffer, that only you cry, that only you lose precious people? Issei said, approaching Ainge. The blonde backed away with every step the brunette took. You know, well, let me tell you, Ainge, no. I might like you and all, but everyone has their limits, and you've crossed yours. You know, I've talked to Zola about several things. She told me she's lost many teammates since she started leading Team 1. She lost her mother when she was little, and she didn't even cry. She told me she fought for her memory, for the future of her friends, and for the survival of Arsenal. Do you think you were the only one who felt bad when you heard about the deaths of those two girls? As captain, she felt useless for leaving them unsupervised. So don't play the victim. You lost your mother, and then your father was executed by your brother, your damned brother, Ainge. Your own brothers gave the order to send you here. So tell me, Ainge, why don't you change your attitude toward the others? Tell me why you don't become their friend. You can take us all. I'm fine with them. You like Vivian, Ursha, and Zola. I know you have your problems with Chris and Rosalie, but every friendship starts with stumbles. You can change, Ainge. I know you can. You're better than you think, and you proved it by being able to activate Vilkas. So you should change, since one always needs their friends to achieve things. I'm telling you this because without the copy, Ovald, or the power of chaos, I'm absolutely nothing, Issei said. Ainge went from anger to calmness. Everything Issei told her was true. She wasn't the only one who existed, and since living in Arsenal, she knew how hard the life of a Norma was. She didn't know about Zola, and she noticed that she kept going even though her mother had died, her mother, the one who told her to live and fight to survive in this world. I'm sorry, Ainge said, sitting down on the bed with her head down. I had no idea about anything. I shut myself off in my own world. I'm still affected by my mother's death, knowing that my own brother executed our father. I feel betrayed and hurt. But you're right, I've done nothing but see everyone as insects. I thought that by becoming Norma I stopped being human. Ainge began, only to be interrupted by Issei with a hug that made her blush. Wrong, I know, we all do. Don't think that just because you don't have monolite you stopped being human. I'm not human, but I can assure you that I once was. You, on the other hand, along with the others, are just as human as those idiots who have monolite, but their arrogance because of power is so great that I was the only one born without magic, and now look at me, said the brunette, separating from the hug and looking into Ainge's eyes. Stop thinking like that about yourself and the others. You are Ainge, and no one can take that away, said Issei, smiling at the blonde, who smiled back. Thank you, Ice, but one question, she said, and Issei looked at her. How did you know about my family, or what I was before? She asked. I asked Jill, Issei said, and she nodded. That makes sense, she said. Well, Issei said, moving away from Ainge and grabbing his shirt. Ainge, who had just remembered Issei wasn't wearing one, blushed furiously. I have to go see Vilkas. I need to replace some parts I took from inside him with others, Issei said, pulling a large box from under a table and lifting it easily. You stay here. You need to rest until tomorrow. I'll work on Vilkas in the meantime, Issei said, leaving the cave with the box. Be careful, Ainge said, and Issei nodded. Arsenal. Jill's office. Haven't you found Ainge yet? Jill asked the search team made up of Zola, Celia and May, who shook their heads. Just when we found someone capable of handling him, Jill said to the group. Besides, Issei will be furious here for letting him get lost or die, Jill thought, worried about Issei's reaction, not knowing who was with Ainge at that moment. Although the unit wasn't last checked before deployment, I doubt anything went wrong to cause the engine to fail, May said, frustrated. We'll think about those things later. Right now, finding Ainge is our priority, Zola said. I know, I'll form another search party right away, May said. It's necessary to bring Vilkas back, Celia said seriously, more worried about Vilkas than Ainge. Zola noticed this, but decided to let it go. Ainge too, Jill said, lighting a cigarette. Bring her here too, dead, she said, surprising Zola, May, and Celia. If necessary, Jill added. You know that if anything happens to Ice-kun, he'll stop helping us. In fact, if anything happens to any of us, no matter who it is, and he knows it was your order, Jill, I know Ice-kun can be a good person most of the time, but remember, he's more dangerous than any dragon we've ever faced. So think carefully about your actions because you'll lose a great ally for that Libertas you so desperately want, Zola said seriously to Jill, who just looked at her in silence. Zola walked to the door. Remember, don't do anything stupid, because nothing will save you from the wrath of someone like Issei Hyoudou, the dragon god of supreme chaos. I'm going to look for Ainge, and, with luck, Ice-kun, so he can help me find her, Zola said, leaving Celia alone, since May had left with Zola. Jill, is what she says true? Is Ice-san really that dangerous? Celia asked, sounding a little nervous about the situation ahead. Jill just looked at her, took a drag on her cigarette, and exhaled the smoke. Unfortunately, yes, you're right, so forget what I said about her being dead, just find a way to bring her here without killing her, I ordered Celia. Yes, she said, leaving Jill alone, who let out a tired sigh. I just hope everything goes well, Ice will be a great help in defeating him, Jill said, remembering her past and how she lost her right arm. Moments later. Takeoff bay. Everything was ready, a helicopter was ready to depart, boarding the aircraft were Celia, May, Zola, and a recovery team that May assembled to search for both Vilkas and Ainge. They were boarding when two familiar girls quickly approached. May-chan, Zola. Vivian called, drawing their attention. The little girl was with Ursha, who was carrying a basket. You're going to look for her, right? We'll help too, the little girl said. But they just got back from a mission, Zola said to the two of them, who looked at her while smiling. But you're going too, Zola-san, Ursha said. Besides, she could die if we don't hurry. Ainge is still alive, I know it, Vivian said energetically. We have to find her soon, she's sure to be hungry, said the beautiful Ursha with a smile. Oh, whatever, come on, come with us, Zola said, and they quickly agreed, getting into the helicopter. Come on, let's not waste any time, Zola said, getting into the helicopter, followed by Celia and May. And so the helicopter took off into the sky to begin the search for Ainge and Vilkas, a search that would take them a while. Island. Next day. Issei and Ainge were together on the beach because, you might ask, Issei was repairing and changing some more parts of the Vilkas and Ainge to avoid being bored and to spend some time with Issei, decided to help him weigh the tools he needed. Damn, fixing this thing really costs a lot, Issei said, wiping the sweat from his forehead with his forearm. Have you done this before? Ainge asked. To be honest, I only learned how things work 5 days ago by reading, but reading and doing are two different things, Issei said, getting down from where he was to sit next to Ainge. Until I get it working, we'll be here on this island for a long time, Issei said, lying down on the blanket he had put down for his things and where Ainge was, putting his arms behind his head like pillows. Oh, but it doesn't matter, this way we can get to know each other better, Ainge said, looking at Issei, who looked at her. Well, that would be good, Issei said. And so began their week and a half time skip on the island. During that time, Issei was making slow progress repairing Vilkas. He spent time with Ainge, telling her about his life. How all the other kids bullied him simply because he was born without magic or a sacred gear, how he grew stronger to save those he loved most, his supposed betrayal, and what he did in Tartarus. They also went fishing, explored the island, or at least parts of it, and enjoyed Ainge's cooking attempts, which often ended in disaster. One time, they went to bathe in some nearby spots. After bathing in a waterfall, Ainge passed by a small pool where Issei was bathing. She saw him naked, but with his back to her, lest she see what chaos had left him as an inheritance. She blushed furiously at the sight of Issei, who noticed her but didn't seem to care. She also told him she helped him repair Vilkas, even in the rain. They had some good times, and instead of Issei ending up in a mess, they enjoyed some fun. Whether uncomfortable or perverted, it was the blonde who sometimes ended up seeing the brunette naked. That brings us to today. It was night, and Ainge and Issei were sitting on the banks of the river on the island, both admiring the stars. "I didn't know there were so many stars," the blonde said as the brunette took a place next to her. "Well, they can only be appreciated in places far from big cities," Issei said beside him. "You're right, it's been a long time since I've seen the sky," said the blonde, as a fleeting star passed by. "How beautiful," she said, smiling. "Well, the night sky is beautiful," Issei said, smiling, then looked at Ainge and placed his hand on hers. "But I'm seeing something much more beautiful right now," he said, referring to the blonde who blushed. According to the Cross-Ainge wiki, Ainge is 15 to 16, while Issei in this fic is still 18, almost 19, but in reality he's 19 million years old. I don't know what, counting the time he spent in Tartarus, plus he looks older and Issei is a dragon, and human laws don't bind him to that UN thing, so it still happens. Ainge and Issei looked into each other's eyes, slowly getting closer, and when they were about to kiss, Issei felt something about them, so he lunged at Ainge. She stammered nervously, but calmed down when she saw Issei's serious expression. Suddenly, lights appeared out of nowhere, followed by 8 helicopters flying overhead, each carrying a large block of ice containing, "Is that a dragon?" she asked, astonished by what was happening. Issei got off her after the helicopters passed. "Are they taking it? Where?" she asked, but Issei just shook his head, knowing nothing. Then, a red dragon appeared and headed toward the helicopters. That, Ainge said, recognizing that it was the same dragon that had dragged her toward the sea. The dragon only came to cause chaos and destruction, so bad Issei need to stop watching Fedalobo. The dragon, like a professional, dodged the shots from 2 of the helicopters and then shot down all of them, causing the giant block of ice containing the dragon and the scrap metal to plummet several kilometers away from Issei and Ainge. "We're screwed," Issei said, seeing the fire in the distance. He took Ainge's hand to lead her away. "We have to go back," Issei said, but as they turned to return to the cave, the red dragon fell in front of them. "Damn it," Issei complained, seeing that his peaceful night had been ruined by that dragon, who stood up and roared at them. "No, you don't roar at me," Issei said, annoyed. Ainge then pulled out his gun and started shooting, but it had no effect. "That won't hurt him," Issei said. The dragon lunged at them, but, dazed from the impact and the damage he'd sustained earlier, he tripped and fell flat on his face. "Well, this one's a real idiot," Issei said. "The paramail, we can see if it at least works," Ainge suggested, but Issei shook his head. "It still needs repairs, but we can at least try to turn it on," Issei said. Ainge nodded, and they both headed toward the Vilcus, being followed by the dragon. As for why Issei didn't kill it, well, Ainge brought it here, Ainge would deal with it, period. They arrived at the location in a few minutes, and Ainge knew this was her problem, and Issei wouldn't help her. So she pulled out a knife and, as if emulating Leon in Resident Evil. Damnation against the Tyrant at the end, she got into position as the dragon reached the shore. "I'm here, you walking corpse," she yelled at the dragon while Issei looked around for the tools he'd left in the Vilcus's cockpit. The dragon roared and lunged at Ainge. The blonde girl did what she could against the dragon. The dragon attacked with headbutts, and Ainge did what she could with the knife, but when the dragon attacked with one of its wings, it hit Ainge, causing the girl to roll away from the blow and her knife. Issei saw this and decided to give her something to defend herself with. "Here," Issei said, handing him a machine gun he had in case he wanted to play by shooting at the water. Ainge grabbed the weapon and began firing at the dragon, which was attacking with everything it had. Ainge dodged and fired back, all while Issei connected some wires and screwed some things into the Vilcus. Ainge shot at the dragon's back, but it struck her with its tail, sending Ainge tumbling a few meters away, near the knife she had lost earlier. The dragon was now close to Ainge's wound, and she watched as it was about to devour her, but Issei connected one of the wires to the Vilcus's power source, and it happened. His ring glowed. This resulted in Vilcus being activated and him targeting the dragon. Ignore Tusk, obviously. The hail of bullets riddled the dragon, causing blood to gush from the bullet holes. Ainge saw this and decided to use the opportunity to attack. Grabbing her knife, she ran to the dragon and leaped down, intent on finishing it off. Ainge began to stab the dying dragon mercilessly, stab after stab he received flat-footed. You wretch, Ainge said, stabbing the dragon. Issei saw that it was enough and decided to stop her. "That's enough, Ainge, he's already dead," Issei said, stopping Ainge. The blonde simply stood there without saying a word, a wave of excitement coursing through her body. She clutched her breasts and began to move strangely. Issei looked at her and said nothing, instead glancing at the dragon's corpse, opening his hand and unleashing the flames of purgatory, burning the dragon alive. The brunette looked at Ainge, still in her ecstasy, and let out a sigh. Strange things happen every day, Issei thought, gazing at the night horizon. -2 hours later. Issei and Ainge were still on the beach, dawn had already broken and they were looking at the sea. "Well, it was a good night, wasn't it, Ainge?" Issei asked, and she looked at him. "It was crazy," she said, looking at the block of ice and the wreckage of the helicopter. "Well, Vilkas, you're all fixed up now, maybe you can even go back or something," Issei said, looking at the robot a few meters away from them. Ainge took his hand and Issei looked at her. "Aren't you coming with me?" Ainge asked, and Issei smiled. "I have some things to do here, so I'll be gone for a while, but I'll be back with everyone, so don't worry," Issei said, caressing the blonde's cheek and giving her a soft kiss on the lips that made her blush. "Eyes," she whispered after the kiss. They stood holding hands like that for a few minutes when Vilkas's radio started playing. "Ainge-san, please answer," Vivian's voice came through the radio. Ainge and Issei were shocked, so they both went over to check. "Are you dead already?" "Tell me if you're dead," Vivian said, and Issei smiled slightly at that. "That girl and her things," said Issei. Ainge approached to answer. "Dear Ainge, I'm alive," she said. "It can't be, Ainge. Is it really you?" Vivian asked, overjoyed that Ainge was alive. "I demand a ransom," she said. "Understood," Vivian said, but then someone spoke up. "So you're still alive, that's good because Issei would be really upset with us if anything happened to you, you know, Ainge." It was Zola's voice. Ainge was about to reply, but Issei stepped forward to answer. "Well, Zola-chan, I wouldn't know how to tell you since she was with me the whole time, but I'm glad you took the trouble to look for her," Issei said, surprising everyone nearby. "Ice-kun, is that you? It's been so long since we last saw each other. You have no idea how much I miss you on those cold nights. Don't think you'll get away when you come back, because you'll have to spend a good amount of time with me without complaining," Zola said, making Issei laugh uncomfortably, since she had snuck into his room several times. Yes, said Issei. "Ai-san, how are you?" Ursha asked this time, happy to hear from Issei. "Well, Ursha-chan, thank you for asking," Issei said. "Ice. It's so good to know you're okay, we thought you had gotten lost or something, but it's good to hear from you," Vivian said cheerfully. I'm glad to know you're still as energetic as ever, Vivian," Issei said, smiling. "Does that mean you'll be going back to Ainge?" Zola asked this time. "No, I need to get to know this place better. Besides, I have to get some things out of here and it'll take me a while," Issei said, disappointing the three girls. After that, they hung up. Issei looked at Ainge and smiled. "They're coming, so you'll have to wait a little while," Issei said, approaching her and patting her head. "Take care while I'm gone and don't do anything silly," Issei said, and she pouted at that. "HMPH, I don't do silly things," she said. Issei smiled and gave her a kiss on the cheek, which made her blush. "Well, I'm leaving now. If they ask, tell them I went far away before they try to convince me to come back, okay?" Issei said, and Ainge nodded. "Alright, see you later, Ainge," Issei said, waving goodbye. "Yes, see you later, Ice," she said, waving goodbye to the chestnut-haired boy who ran off into the jungle. Minutes later, the helicopter they were using to search for Ainge arrived. "And now a question, who's still alive after the crash?" asked Vivian, who was standing by the helicopter door with Ursha and Zola, who were smiling at the sight of Ainge. "The answer is Ainge," she shouted, waving to Ainge, who smiled. "But Issei?" "Well," said the chestnut-haired man in another cave. He had some bags hanging over his shoulder as he looked at an object covered by a blanket. "It's time to leave this place, don't you think, Drake?" Issei said. "Yes, partner, it's time to go somewhere else since you only stayed here because of that girl," Ainge said. Drake. "Yes, after all, I couldn't let him die," Issei said, approaching what was covered by the blankets and removing them to reveal a vehicle. "Who would have thought that something as cool as this would be in a place like this?" Issei said, looking at the vehicle. "Whoever was here was ready for anything," said Drake. "Well, it's time to leave and continue our educational journey," said Issei, getting on the contraption and looking at a photo on the handlebars. In it, he saw a beautiful woman and a handsome man next to a brown-haired boy. All three were smiling. "What a lovely family. Maybe this belonged to one of them," Issei said, putting the photo away. "Alright, it's time to go," he said, putting on a helmet he found and taking off in the vehicle. "This is awesome," he exclaimed, picking up speed and disappearing into the horizon. But the girls. The rescuers were heading back to base. May and Celia were driving the ship, while Zola, Vivian and Ursha were with Ainge behind them. "So that's what Ice-kun said, huh?" Zola said, and Ainge nodded. "Damn it, and I wanted to see him." "Oh well, I guess I'll have to wait until he returns to Arsenal," Zola said defeatedly. "Here, Ainge-chan," Ursha said, handing Ainge a drink she had in a thermos. "Thank you," Ainge said, taking a sip of the coffee-colored liquid. This surprised the three rescuers. "Eh? Ara," she said, smiling at the surprise of the gratitude. "Wow, that's impressive. I didn't expect that from you, Ange. Did spending time with Ice-kun change you in some way? Zola asked, making Ange blush as she remembered the kiss Issei had given her. This alerted Zola and Ursha. Wait, what happened on that island? She asked, jealous that Ange had received something she hadn't yet. Ange ignored her and instead looked at Vivian. Hey Vivian, Ange called after Zola told her, don't ignore me, but she continued anyway. Do you still have those weird pendants? She asked, surprising everyone. Ange, you said my name, Vivian said, surprised. There's nothing in my cabin, she said with a gentle smile, a smile that was contagious to Vivian, Ursha, and Zola. I don't know what happened on that island, but Ice-kun was able to change you, Zola said, smiling. Ice-san is amazing, the beautiful Ursha said, smiling, happy that Ange was finally talking to them. It smells like curry, is that okay? Vivian asked. No, Ange said. Thus the helicopter disappeared into the skies heading towards Arsenal, while Issei set off on a journey into the unknown of this world. What will happen from now on? Only time will tell. Chapter 6. 5 days later. Arsenal. 5 days had passed since Ange and Issei arrived on the island. Since then, the blonde had gotten along well with her companions well, she gets along well with Vivian and Ursha, but not so much with Chris, Rosalie, and Hilda. The first two dislike her for almost killing Zola, and Hilda likes to stir things up with their fights with Ange. With Celia, she's more professional, and with Zola, it's like escaping the stalker boss who was harassing her at that time since Issei hadn't arrived. But Issei, this journey took him to all the places he found interesting, avoiding contact with all those hypocritical humans with mana. Issei helped several normal women escape from a facility outside the Mitsurugi kingdom, where he later destroyed the facility, earning the fear of many. He also visited some interesting places and ate food in less crowded spots. Traveling on that ship was great. After that, he returned to Arsenal, where he was greeted by a cheerful Ange who hugged and kissed him on the lips, annoying Ursha and Zola and a little Jill along with the others. Zola didn't stay behind and kissed Issei in front of everyone, further upsetting them all. But Ange and Zola started arguing about who was better for Issei, and the aforementioned did what any man would do in that situation, he left to go rest in his room and avoid trouble. Of course, it didn't last long, as Zola and Ange burst into his room, declaring they would be with him whether he liked it or not. Issei accepted, though he would have done so without them asking, thus beginning a relationship between Issei and both Norma, leaving the others with a touch of jealousy. However, Zola, being the woman she is, had a plan where Issei would come out on top, a plan that would be in place for as long as he lived in Arsenal. She also took advantage of the night, ending up with Issei and Zola having Hex for an entire night. She's grateful she learned that noise-cancelling spell for these occasions. All of that brings us to today, where after a mission Issei was lying in his bed, which he bought with what he earned, with Ange on top of him hugging him, the blonde dressed in her everyday clothes. I still don't understand how you and Zola decided on this relationship so easily, Issei said, stroking Ange's hair. The blonde enjoyed being like this with Issei, while Zola was busy with her duties as leader. Ange looked at Issei, smiling sweetly. Well, it's not like you're complaining anyway, said the blonde, and Issei smiled. You're right, haha, I'm not complaining about this at all, Issei said, kissing the blonde on the lips, who returned the kiss. Just then, the bedroom door opened. It was Zola who had finished her chores and wanted to spend some time with her boyfriend. Well Ange, leave me alone with Ice-kun, it's your turn now. Besides, Ursha and Vivian are looking for you, so go on, choo-choo, Zola said, making Ange groan and reluctantly get up, but not before kissing Issei. TCH, take advantage of the fact that he's not only your boyfriend, but mine too, Ange said to Zola, who smiled arrogantly. HMPH, I'm the oldest here, so don't get too cocky, Ange. Go over to the girls. They want to talk to you about something, Zola said as Ange left, leaving Issei and Zola alone. Alright, finally alone. Now, Ice-kun, don't you want to have some fun? Zola said flirtatiously as she straddled the brunette and began kissing him. Issei wrapped his arms around her waist. As much as I might want to, we already did it the very night we started this relationship, and that was like 2 nights ago and the night after that, and also when I was taking a bath a few hours ago, so now you'll just have to put up with it, Issei said, kissing the woman who pouted. You're bad, plus I feel something hard forming down here, she said, moving as she felt mini Issei under Issei's pants. She began to move, starting to harden mini Issei. Zola, don't tempt me, Issei said, resisting the urge to give it to her hard, to which she smiled. Make me, she said as she squeezed Issei's member through his pants with her left hand and began to move her hand up and down. You know what, damn it, you earned a good punishment, Issei said, changing position so Zola was under him. It's time you learned that you don't mess with a dragon, Issei said, starting to kiss Zola, and she responded by hugging the brunette around the neck. For the next 2 hours, moans could be heard coming from the chestnut-haired boy's room. Luckily, there were no girls nearby. It also helped that he was in a place somewhat removed from the others, but that didn't stop a certain woman with green hair and glasses from blushing and getting her panties a little wet upon hearing it. She went to look for Issei to talk for a while, but instead left, feeling very jealous after hearing Zola enjoying Issei. -2 hours later. Issei's room. I don't know why, but I feel like you're getting better at it each time, because the 2 times before this you were different, said a naked Zola, hugging a naked brunette who was holding her by the waist very close to him. Well, that's what my girlfriend says too, Issei said, remembering that when he did it with she would always say that he did it better than other times. He didn't know why, but he felt that he learned something new every time with his girl, and Zola was no exception. Well, she's not wrong, Zola said, resting her head on her lover's chest as Issei stroked her head while staring at the ceiling of their room. I already imagined that she would be the first to sleep with you, it was written in the stars from the moment you met her, Drake said to Issei. Shut up, Drake, Issei said. But I'm right, Drake said. That's right, you're right, said Issei, and the dragon laughed at that. They spent some time cuddled close together until Arsenal's alarm sounded. But what's happening? Issei asked. I don't know, it's very strange, unless a dragon has appeared nearby, Zola said. That can't be, but we'd better go and see, Issei said, making Zola groan in disgust. I wanted to continue like this, but we have to see, it's our job, she said, getting up from her comfortable place. At that moment, Issei pulled her into a kiss before she could stand up. She moaned with pleasure, returning the kiss, and they separated after the kiss. I promise we'll have some time together later, so let's get to work, Zola-chan, Issei said, and she nodded happily. I promise, Ice-kun, we won't leave here for a while, haha, he said pervertedly, imagining a good round of hex like the first time. Issei smiled ironically as he remembered Akeno and Kuroka. They would have been good friends with Zola if only they hadn't been arrogant like the rest of this rotten world. They got dressed and quickly went to see what was happening until they heard that an intruder was in Arsenal. This surprised them, but it was strange to Zola since this hadn't happened before, but even so they went to see who the intruder was. Moments later. Issei and Zola arrived at one of the hangars, since it seemed the intruder had sneaked into one of the supply planes, but when they arrived they found a scene in which Ainge was being hugged by a girl dressed as a maid. What's going on here? Issei asked the girls, and Hilda answered him. It seems the princess has her maid here, he said, pointing at the girl. Maid? Issei asked, looking at Ainge and the maid. Is that right, Ainge? Issei asked the blonde who just looked at him, as did the maid, but the latter looked at him strangely. Time skip. Control room. So her name is Momoka Ojanum, and she was Angel Eyes' head maid, interesting, but the most important question is why is she here? Issei asked Jill and Emma. Zola was with him because she also wanted to know about the maid. It seems she came looking for Ainge, but now she can't return because if we send her back to the kingdom, there's a risk that all the information related to the dragons and the Norma family could be exposed, Emma said, stressed, leaning back in her chair. What a problem, Zola said. Yes, but he only came to visit her, can't we do something about it? Emma asked Jill, who took a drag on her cigarette and exhaled the smoke before putting it out in the ashtray. Visiting her, huh? It's impossible for a Norma like me to change the rules set by humans, Jill said, making Emma lean back in her chair. But Issei saw this and decided to give her a massage, as he had been doing since he started talking to her. Thank you Isan, I needed this, Emma said gratefully, enjoying her massage. No problem, besides, while they're looking for a solution to all this, why don't they let them be together? I mean, she came to visit Ainge, she risked a lot just for that, Issei said. Ice-kun is right, let's leave them together, Zola said, thinking that this way she could have Issei all to herself for the time being. Yes, we'll let them be together for now, Jill said. Time skip. The next day. Dining room. It was morning, time for breakfast after a few crazy hours with Zola. Issei arrived and saw the woman with Chris, Hilda, and Rosalie talking. The brunette knew they cared about Zola well, only Chris and Rosalie. Hilda was another matter, but that didn't matter anymore. The dark-haired boy noticed Chris and Rosalie looking at him with blushes on their faces. Then he saw Zola smile suggestively and wink at him. Zola couldn't keep her mouth shut now. She'd have those two after her. He glanced at Hilda, but she looked away with a subdued expression. He stopped thinking about that and looked at Ainge and Momoka in line. Issei approached to join the line behind the maid, who looked at him. Good morning, Ainge-chan, Issei greeted the blonde girl, who smiled at him, but Momoka got annoyed with Issei. How rude. You shouldn't address Angel Eyes Sama like that. You should be more respectful to someone like her, Momoka said, scolding Issei, who just stared at her with a poker face. This annoyed Ainge, since Momoka shouldn't speak to her boyfriend like that. Well, she's my girlfriend and she likes it when I greet her like that, Issei said, leaving Momoka speechless. No girlfriend. The maid exclaimed. Come on, move it, I'm hungry, and yelling in people's faces is very rude, Miss Maid, Issei said, and Momoka saw that Ainge had already taken her food and was waiting for Issei to the side. Momoka approached the cook, who didn't serve her anything. You're not an Orma, are you? The cook asked Momoka, who just stared at her. In that case, I don't have anything for you. If you want to eat, you'll have to pay, the cook said to Momoka, who was left with a what? Look on her face. Pay? Momoka asked, confused. You buy what you want, that's how it works here, said the cook, but then Issei pulled a roll of money out of arsenal and gave it to the cook. I'll pay for mine and hers today, oh by the way, later I'll bring you something I got outside, Issei said to the cook who nodded, taking the money and serving Momoka her food. I hope it's something wonderful, Ice. Eating the same thing all the time isn't good for girls, said the cook, and Issei smiled. Alright, wait while I get your food, said the cook, going into the kitchen, obviously, leaving Issei and Momoka, who was still confused about Issei paying for her meal. Thank you for the food, Momoka said to Issei, who just looked at her. You're welcome, Issei simply said, waiting for his food. After a few minutes, the cook returned with a pile of food on a tray. Issei smiled at the sight of the pile of food. The cook gave Issei his food, and he thanked her. Momoka watched Issei with great surprise, wondering how someone could eat so much. And Angel Eyes Sama, is it normal for him to eat so much? The maid asked, to which she only received a nod from Ainge. Issei walked towards where Zola, Hilda, Rosalie and Chris were sitting, the latter two still having those blushes that became bigger when they saw Issei approaching, and Hilda, well, she was still blushing a little. Upon arriving at the table, Issei sat in the only free seat available to him. Between the two blushing girls, Ainge and Momoka sat next to Zola and Hilda. Momoka, despite wanting to tell the girls something about leaving the table alone for Ainge, decided to hold back so as not to disturb her mistress's meal. Issei happily ate his breakfast, but something was bothering him. The not-so-subtle glances the two girls sitting beside him were giving him. So he decided to address it. Okay, what's wrong with you two? Issei asked, looking at Chris, who blushed and looked away. Then he looked at Rosalie, who turned red and started to get nervous, beginning to stammer. You Zola Rosalie didn't know what to say, so she just looked away. Upon hearing Zola's name, Issei looked at the woman, who smiled as if nothing had happened. The brunette was about to say something, but he saw Momoka begin to lose strength and collapse, her face pressed against the table. We have to take her to the infirmary, let's go Ainge, Issei said, his meal half finished. He glanced at Rosalie, knowing her, he knew she'd eat it all, since she never wasted a thing. Well, since I won't finish and I know you eat more than the others, it's yours, Rosalie-chan, Issei said, patting the girl's head. She blushed and simply nodded. Chris watched this with jealousy, a jealousy Issei didn't notice since he wasn't looking at the light blue-haired girl. Then Issei carried the unconscious Momoka bridal style, much to the annoyance of many of the girls in the first squad, especially Ainge, Hilda, and finally Ursha, who was watching everything from a table where she was eating with Vivian and Celia. Time skip. Jasmine Mall. Now Issei, Ainge and Momoka were eating hamburgers from a machine that Jasmine had in her shop. Issei had several hamburgers, and Ainge and Momoka each had one. So you went 3 days without eating, that's pretty neglectful for a maid, you know. Issei said, devouring one of the many hamburgers he had in a bag. Yes, you should have told me that, Ainge said. I'm sorry, I was just thinking about seeing her, Momoka said, looking at Ainge. The blonde gave her a wad of cash, missing her. Here, get what you need with that, Ainge said, and Momoka curiously took the wad of bills. So this is what you called money? Momoka asked, looking at Ainge. Thanks, I always thought a monetized economy was an imperfect system, but it's also kind of fun, Momoka said, looking at the banknotes with a calm smile. Well, it depends on your point of view. Where I come from, the system has been like this for a long time, a simple system, yet complicated at the same time due to many factors I never understood, Issei said, eating his 5th hamburger. Just then, Maggie entered with a group of nurses carrying a stretcher with one of the girls from another squad whose arm had been severed. Blood was splattered, and Momoka felt disgusted at the sight. Issei and Ainge, on the other hand, saw it as normal. Ainge because she had seen several things like this there, and Issei because he himself had seen several people without arms who had them reattached with phoenix tears, so it was quite normal. Ainge stood up and began to walk away, but not before kissing Issei's cheek. What was that? What are you doing here? The maid asked. Issei finished his last hamburger and got up to go for a walk, since Ainge wanted to be alone for a while. What was that, you ask? What you see is what life is like here. Those girls go through things like that, or they simply die. What are they doing in this place? They're trying to live the lives that were taken from them simply because they don't possess monolite. They live by hunting to survive and earn a living, Issei said, turning his back on Momoka, then looking at her over his shoulder. You're nice, but you should know that nothing is beautiful in this place, nothing. You have to understand that since Ange was brought here, she's no longer the person you once loved so much. You have to understand that she's a Norma, and as such, she had nowhere else to go but here. So don't think she's still Angel Eyes Ikagura Mitsurugi, princess of the fallen Mitsurugi kingdom. That person is dead now. Her name is Ange now, and Norma who, despite everything, has managed to move forward, Issei said, then looked at Ange in the distance. And if you think she might get hurt like those girls, don't believe it. I'll prevent that at all costs. Whatever it costs, Issei said, leaving Momoka deep in thought. Wait, you haven't told me your name yet, Momoka said. Issei stopped and looked at her. Issei, Chaos Issei, that's my name, but you can call me Ice like everyone else, said Issei as he left the place to another place. He had to distract himself for a while. Momoka watched him leave and began to think about what he had said about her Angel Eyes Sama. She would have many things to think about. Time skip. Night. Dining room. Dinner time had already passed and only a few girls were in the place, but at one table were Ange with Issei. The brunette had already finished eating and saw that his girlfriend was thoughtful. He hugged her by the waist, pulling her towards him. What's wrong, Ange-chan? You seem very distracted, Issei asked. Ange let out a sigh and leaned back on Issei's shoulder. I heard something I didn't like, she replied. What was it? Issei asked. Something to do with Momoka. They say they'll kill her because they don't want anything that happens here to spread to the world, Ange said, and Issei got annoyed. I'll have to talk to Jill about this, he said seriously. He didn't dislike the maid. On the contrary, she seemed like a good person and very helpful. It was stupid that they killed her if she hadn't seen anything about the dragons. He would have a serious talk about it with Jill and Emma. Just then, Momoka sat down next to Ange, her face trying to hide her sadness as she placed her food on her tray. Hello Momoka, Issei greeted her, and she looked at him. Hello Isan, he replied to the greeting. What is that? Ange asked Momoka. Oh, this is the last meal I'll have here before I go to, of course I'll pay for it, Momoka said, shoving a spoonful of mashed potato into her mouth. Ange watched Momoka eat, thinking about what she'd heard about Momoka being killed. Issei saw this and decided to go see what was happening. Ange, I'm going to talk to Jill. This can't happen, so I'll see you later, Issei said seriously, then gave the blonde a small kiss on the lips, which made her smile. Momoka saw them, blushing slightly, but let it go since he was Ange's boyfriend. Moments later. With Issei. The chestnut-haired man walked seriously through the corridors of Arsenal. Several of the girls and female employees looked at him with a hint of nervousness. They knew what he was capable of, and if he was so serious, it must be something that was bothering him. Issei walked through several corridors looking for Jill and Emma. Along the way, he ran into Zola, who looked at him strangely, finding it odd that her man was so serious. Ice-kun, what's wrong? Why are you so serious? Zola asked, taking Issei's hand. The brunette stopped and looked at her, letting out a sigh. It has to do with Momoka. According to Ange, she heard that they would kill her if they took her from here to protect the dragon's secret from the world, Issei said. That's right, I heard that from the girls too, although it's probably true, you know Arsenal is under the orders of human rulers, they give the orders so they take those measures, Zola said. Issei got annoyed and his face showed it. I swear, if I run into any of those idiots, I'll beat them so badly they'll wish they were dead, it doesn't matter if they're women or men, I don't give a shit, Issei said angrily. Zola hugged him, placing the brunette's head between her soft, large breasts while she stroked his head. Relax, darling, I know you'll do it, but what matters now is finding Jill and Emma, right? I think they went to the hangars to send the maid back, so let's go, Zola said. Issei looked at her and nodded, but not before kissing her. Thanks, you know how to calm me down, let's go to those two, Issei said, and Zola nodded, but then. Eye contact alert. The alarm sounded, indicating that a dragon had appeared, or rather several. It was time to get to work. Oh crap, here we go again, Issei said. Let's go, darling, Zola said, and Issei nodded. They quickly went to answer the call of duty. The next morning. Hangars. It was all over. The dragons were eliminated by Issei, who was still upset about Momoka, and it only took one attack with his sword, demolish principles. The girls decided not to get involved between the red dragon and the poor dragons. After several hours, it was 5 a.m. and the girls had already landed. Ice was upset, Rosalie told Chris. Yes, he didn't seem like his usual self, the light blue-haired girl said to her friend. Well, even though he looked great annoyed, Hilda said unconsciously, as the two friends noticed. You like it? They both said while pointing at the retard who blushed. I didn't mean that, I mean, he looked great killing those dragons, especially when he saved me from being hit by those two who appeared behind me, but Hilda didn't know what to say, so she kept quiet, watching Chris and Rosalie smile mockingly. So what if I like him? In the end, you two like him too, or were those blushes from yesterday just your imagination? Hilda pointed, blushing, at both girls, who fell silent. Stop fighting already. If you want ice kun, you have to ask my permission. Although, a quartet or quintet wouldn't be bad after all, he has a lot of stamina, if you know what I mean, Zola said, approaching the three who blushed deeply, already knowing what Zola meant. A little further away from them, Ursha, Celia and Vivian walked towards the showers while talking. Ice was great as always, but I noticed he was annoyed, Vivian said. That's right, he seemed too upset, Ursha said, placing a finger on her chin. Well you're right, something's bothering him, but he still had to follow the rules. He killed all the dragons by himself, Celia said. But where could he be? He didn't come back with us, Vivian said. Maybe he had something to do? Ursha offered. Maybe, said Celia. Elsewhere, in another hangar, one of the ships that would take Momoka to her end was already ready. Momoka was saying goodbye to Jill and Emma, thanking them for letting her be with Ainge, while Ainge was worried. Issei told her not to do anything since he would take care of everything, but that didn't stop her from worrying about Momoka. But then, as Momoka was following behind the escorts, something happened. Wait a minute. Issei shouted, arriving from the sky wearing the armor he used with the dragons, but this time it was somewhat more terrifying. Jill and Emma were surprised. The two escorts pointed their weapons at him, thinking he was an enemy. Jill saw this and decided to stop it. Stop, don't shoot, he's an ally, Jill said, and the two lowered their weapons. Issei landed and revealed his face by removing the helmet of his red armor. Issei was serious, and that made Jill and Emma nervous. What's wrong, Ai-san? Emma asked nervously. She's staying, Issei said, pointing to Momoka who was still amazed by the armor. But you can't, she was about to reply, but Issei didn't let her. I said, she's staying, he said seriously, making the green-haired girl very nervous. But, Emma said. But nothing, she stays or I'll fly Arsenal through the skies and then destroy the other kingdoms until I destroy the entire universe itself, Issei threatened, leaving Jill and Emma truly terrified, although the latter was on the verge of fainting. Well, see she can stay, Jill said, frightened. She knew she had to keep Issei on her good side, otherwise there would be serious consequences. Jill looked at the two escorts. Leave her alone, she's staying, she gave the order, and the escort simply returned to the ship. That's it, she's not going anywhere, Jill said, and the brunette nodded. We'll leave you, Emma said, still scared, but then she felt Issei's hand on her shoulder. She screamed in fright. Emma, I'm sorry if I scared you, but it was the only way they would leave Momoka here. I knew what would happen if they took her away. Understand that I'm not doing this for fun, Issei said, apologizing to the green-haired girl who calmed down. Okay, but you have to do something for me later, Emma said. Issei smiled. Okay, no problem, Issei said, and she and Jill left. Issei looked at Momoka hugging Ainge, who was smiling. Momoka approached Issei. Ai-san, thank you for letting me stay here. Thanks to that, I'll be able to be with Angel Ai-sama, the maid said, bowing. You don't have to thank me. My friends' friends are my friends, so don't worry about it. Ainge would have done the same, so don't worry, Issei said. No, I really appreciate it. I'm in your debt, so I'll find a way to repay you, Momoka said. By the way, are you a knight? Momoka asked, noticing the black armor Issei hadn't taken off. No, I'm just a simple boy in armor, Issei said, but Momoka didn't buy it. Then they decided to go and rest since this had been a crazy start to the day, and that's saying something, considering not many crazy things had happened. Another clock hand moved means there are 2 more hands until the truth is revealed to the factions, and chaos begins in DXD and a new Nazca world in Cross-Ainge. Chapter 7. -1 week later. Arsenal. A week had passed since the Momoka incident. The maid had been attentive to both Ainge and him, although he wasn't attracted to the idea of a maid yet. But it seemed that Ainge was the one with the most problem, as Momoka was constantly hovering over her, and Ainge found it annoying, as she had already told him. Also, Zola had been all over him almost constantly, much to Chris and Rosalie's jealousy. This was all because ever since Ainge rubbed it in his face that he had kissed her, Zola wanted a kiss too. Although Issei initially refused, he eventually gave in, much to Zola's delight. He also spent time entertaining the little girls of Arsenal with Ursha, telling them stories about his world and other things, enchanting them, especially Ursha, with how he treated them. Now, Issei was on the outskirts of Arsenal, sitting under a solitary tree, gazing at the sky and reflecting on everything that had happened since he arrived in this world. It won't be long now, partner, Drake told him, and Issei let out a sigh. I hope everyone is well, my friends and the girls, said Issei, and Drake hoped the same, since even though his partner was in a sort of relationship with that Zola girl, he still missed his girls. So here you were, huh, Ice-kun? Zola's familiar voice asked. Issei smiled at her and clapped his hands next to her as she went to sit very close to him. Thinking? She asked, and Issei nodded. My world, I'd like to go back and tell everyone I'm alright, Issei said, and Zola felt sad. She didn't want Issei to leave. Issei noticed this and took her hand. Do you want to come with me? In my world, if you came with me, it wouldn't be nice at all. Everyone there has powers like here, and if someone doesn't have any, they're beaten and humiliated like I was. It's something I don't want you to go through. I don't want to get my hands dirty with their blood. That's why, with this power I have, which I still need to stabilize, I'm going to create a new world. So tell me, Zola, do you want to come with me to this world I'm going to create? Issei asked, and Zola smiled and hugged him. Yes, I would go with you, but… Zola said cheerfully, but then she remembered something, and Issei already knew what it was. It's about Chris, Rosalie, and Hilda, right? You don't want to leave them behind, the brunette said, and she nodded. Even though I bought them myself, I can tell you that I love them as much as I love you, and I don't want to leave them in this world where they can only suffer, Zola said, and Issei smiled and gave her a soft kiss. Don't worry, when I find a way to create that world, I'll take all of Arsenal with me. No one deserves to live like this, and I assure you that in my world they'll find a place to call home and won't have to fight to the death against the dragons. I promise you that, Issei said, and Zola smiled. Although, what did you tell those three who always blush furiously when they see me? You're not going to tell me what you told them about what you and I do in bed? Issei asked, to which Zola winked, confirming that he was telling the truth. You could talk to them and they'll tell you, since I've only seen you talking to Ange, Jill, Maggie, and Emma. Maybe if you talk to them you could find out why you're blushing, Zola said, and Issei thought for a moment. Maybe later, but changing the subject, I see you returned safely from your mission against that new dragon, but what happened to Ange? Was she finally able to follow the rules you gave her and work as a team? Issei asked, and Zola smiled. Well, that Neos had the ability to create a gravity field, but it was thanks to Ange's teamwork that we were able to eliminate him and gather data. We made a fortune, but Ange didn't get much, haha, but that was partly because she's sick, Zola said, and Issei's eyes opened slightly. Well, I'll have to check on her in bed, even though Momoko takes care of that, but I still need to see her, Issei said. Just as they were about to continue talking about the sky above Arsenal, something appeared that surprised them both and triggered the facility's alarms. A wormhole appeared. It wasn't the typical portal from which the dragon emerged, but rather a small hole. Issei could sense an aura that surprised him greatly. Issei shouted, seeing a purple blur crash to the ground. Issei quickly flew to where his beloved Reteed fell and caught her in his arms. Answer me. Issei shouted when she slowly opened her eyes. I'm dreaming I see my ice in front of me and then she fainted, worrying Issei who didn't understand anything. I finally have you in my hands again and this time I won't let you die, I have to take her to the medical room as soon as possible, said Issei approaching Zola, who was intrigued to see the beautiful purple-haired girl in Issei's arms. Ice-kun, don't tell me she's Zola said in surprise, and Issei nodded. Hashino, my fiancé, the spell to bring back those who die worked. It took longer than expected, but finally the power of the phoenix returned to its wielder. Come, we have to take her inside. Besides, Jill will ask me for explanations about this, so we'd better go now, said Issei, and Zola nodded, following the brunette into Arsenal. Time skip. Medical room. So she's your girlfriend from your world, huh? Jill said, looking at the unconscious Ai being attended to by Maggie and her team. Indeed, several days ago I created a spell to revive her, but I didn't expect her to arrive here. I imagined she would fall into our world, Issei said, looking at his beloved purple-haired woman with concern. This made Zola jealous, but she calmed down since she was Issei's first wife. Well, we'll know when he wakes up, so let him rest and maybe he'll wake up tomorrow or the day after, Jill said. It's amazing to meet people from another world, but it's intriguing to know how she got here, Emma said, looking at Ai with interest. Issei saw Emma and smiled. You know, Emma, you remind me of one of my damn brother's partners, Issei said, making the green-haired girl with glasses blush. How could you say something like that, Ai-san? Emma said nervously. But it's true, Roswis was very serious and took her work in the most professional way, not that she doesn't do it now, but they are still similar in that respect, said Issei, and Emma had a faint blush on her face. She sounds like someone I'd get along with, I'd like to meet her someday, the green-haired girl said more calmly. Yes, someday, or maybe not, Issei said, kissing the unconscious Ai on the cheek. She smiled with a faint blush, which brought a smile back to Issei's face. Rest, my dark phoenix princess, Issei said, silently leaving the medical room, followed by Zola, leaving Jill, Emma, and Maggie behind. He's cheerful, it's good to see him like this, Jill said, smiling. Yes, ever since she arrived she's had that longing look in her eyes, and this girl ignited a spark that was missing in her, Maggie said. Well, let's let the patient rest. We have a lot to do, and the festival is in 5 days, so we'll be busy for a while, Jill said. Jill left the room to find Issei waiting outside. What's wrong? I know she's your girlfriend but Issei interrupted her. It's not that, I want to talk to you about something that's been bothering me lately, Issei said. And what would that be? Jill asked, intrigued. About that Libertas thing I read in this journal, Issei said, showing her a journal, which made Jill's eyes widen at the sight. Where did you find that diary? Jill asked. On the island where Ainge was stranded, I read the contents, and I was intrigued by the Libertas thing, Issei said, and Jill let out a sigh. I wasn't expecting this, but I'll tell you about Libertas, so follow me, Jill said, and Issei followed her. They arrived at the hot springs where she told him to go in. Issei didn't quite understand why she wanted that, but he agreed anyway, since he could take advantage of the opportunity to see Jill's nice body. So he undressed and proceeded to enter the waters after rinsing his body. Issei sat in the water with a towel tied around his waist, relaxing. After all, seeing either had thrown him off, and he needed to unwind. After a few minutes, Jill arrived with a towel covering her body, but she removed it, revealing her naked body to Issei. His eyes widened, but he didn't say a word, taking in Jill's well-formed body and her breasts, which were the same size as Zola's. Jill got in beside him, though they weren't that close. She let out a sigh of pleasure as she entered the warm water, with only her prosthetic arm above the surface for obvious reasons. So, why here in the bathroom? Issei asked, looking at Jill who smiled. Well, secrets should be shared by laying everything bare, Jill replied, looking at Issei and smiling more suggestively. And I can say that I never tire of what I see, she said, and Issei felt a shiver, but he knew he had felt that before, when. You were the one watching me when I was training, right? I always knew I felt that dangerous look coming from you, Issei said, giving Jill a dirty look. She smiled at him and moved very close, pressing her naked body against the right side of the door. Issei felt the woman's soft skin and became somewhat nervous, as he had never thought that about her. Oh, does it bother you that a woman like me wants to feel masculine warmth? Sometimes I feel envious of Zola when she talks about how you do it with her, Jill said sensually in Issei's ear, who felt something rising in his head, and it wasn't blood. What does he think? Don't tell me you don't like it. She asked. You're beautiful and have a great body. I'd say you're a good person because you care about your loved ones, and every time I looked into your eyes, I could see some pain. I can tell that's because of something in your past, since when I told my story, I felt some hope coming from the sparkle in your eyes, Jill. So, yes, I would say I'm attracted to a woman like you, Issei said seriously, surprising the woman, who smiled and stepped aside to give Issei space. You're good, she said with a soft smile. Well, I'll tell you whatever you want to know, so tell me, what do you want to know? She asked. Well, everything, from the beginning, everything related to the norms, dragon, the notebook and the Libertas, all of that, Issei asked, and she smiled as she gazed into the distance. Well, a long time ago, there was a god. She began, and Issei was surprised. Was this because of a god? God was tired of seeing war after war and the earth being destroyed. Peace, friendship, equality. Many beautiful words, but the history of humanity. She continued, but Issei spoke up. It's plagued with wars, endless wars that become more dangerous with time. I know, some damn old bastard unleashed a beast that could wipe out all life on Earth without much effort, Issei said. Yes, war is true human nature, Jill said, so God decided to create something new. A new humanity. Issei's eyes widened in surprise, but she continued, a gentle and intelligent humanity that wouldn't want to fight. Issei felt something was amiss, because, according to the history Roswitz taught him, a perfect civilization would never exist, as something would inevitably lead to its decline. Advanced information technology, mana, allowed things to be manipulated with the mind, she explained. In my world it's called psychokinesis, that is, psychic powers. There are several of those around the world, Issei said. Well, this is the monolith that was granted to humans, Jill said, and Issei nodded. It ended all kinds of suffering and granted all kinds of wishes. It led to the creation of an ideal state where one could have everything, Jill said. The kind of utopia, right? Issei asked, and Jill nodded. Indeed, all that remained was to oversee the development of humanity, or at least, that was the plan, Jill said, becoming more serious. Something went wrong, something always has to go wrong, since not even the gods are perfect, Issei said, and she nodded to continue. That's where we come in. No matter how many times they rebuilt the system, some babies couldn't use mana. They were a mutation expressing an ancient gene, Jill explained, and Issei nodded. The mutation instilled fear in people. But God decided to exploit that mutation. He established the idea that these girls had rejected the world and were antisocial monsters determined to destroy it. Norma, she said, and Issei bristled at that. That guy, when he saw him, would let him see the power that could topple any god. Elsewhere, a blonde guy with a creepy face felt a terrifying chill. The world united with the goal of eliminating those Norma. People found refuge knowing they had someone to discriminate against and that there was stability. Offerings, sacrifices, necessary evil, no matter what they call us, it's all a farce to bring stability to the world so we can be discriminated against, Jill said, and Issei got annoyed. The woman even felt her temperature rise and looked at Issei, annoyed, and smiled at that. She placed her good hand on Issei's right hand. Relax, that doesn't matter anymore, so calm down, she said. How am I supposed to calm down? That imbecile you call God condemned them to a life of scorn just because, to maintain the stability of his damned world that he created, as if they were mere toys at his disposal. Not even Thanos was that stupid. At least he had a reason to erase half the universe, even if the means weren't good, Issei said angrily. Wait, half the universe? That guy was strong and dangerous, Jill said. Don't worry, it was just a movie, but even so, when I see that guy, I swear on the sake of these girls, I'll kill him. Oh yeah, I didn't survive the apocalypse just so some guy with delusions of grandeur could play with human life like it's some kind of pastime, Issei said, and she smiled at that. This boy embryo has big problems, and I hope to be there when that happens. It would be fun to be with Icecon like Zola does, Jill thought, but that's not all, that's only part of the story, she said. What? There's more? Issei asked, and she nodded. Well, the Mana world stabilized and was going to be the beginning of a prosperous era, but some people wouldn't allow it. The ancient people. Survivors expelled from the old humanity who couldn't use mana, she said, and Issei was surprised. Wait, if Norma are women, does that mean the ancient people would be? Issei said, and she nodded. Men and women, more men than women, they defied God many times to reclaim their place in the world, Jill explained. After a long war and mourning their fallen comrades, they finally captured it. God's weapon, Ragnamail, Jill said, and Issei's eyes widened. That meant a mechanical angel of destruction and creation. The ultimate weapon that became the prototype for Paramail, Jill said. Angel's Vilcus, Issei said. Yes, with that they could fight as well as gods. The ancient people boarded the Vilcus, but they couldn't control it. It was locked. Mere insects couldn't use it with a handful of survivors. The ancient people could only await their doom, Jill spoke, and Issei listened attentively. Then, they discovered that the Norma sent to the ends of the earth were forced to fight in Paramails against the dragon. They went to Arsenal, and contact was made between the ancient people and the Norma. The two abandoned humanities, Jill said, and Issei looked at her, seeing her gaze turn nostalgic. They became allies and made preparations for when someone appeared to remove the lock, she said, taking a breath. And finally, someone appeared. Electra Maria von Lowenhurst, the first Norma born into royalty, Jill said, and Issei's eyes widened. Wait, that person was you. And she nodded. Yes, I am Electra, well, I once was, she said with some sadness. It's a beautiful name, you know. Issei said, looking at her with a smile. Just call me Jill, I like that name better, she said, smiling bitterly as she remembered someone calling her that, but she felt Issei gently take her hand. It's a shame to know that a beautiful name can't be pronounced, but if you don't like it, I'll keep calling you Jill. After all, I don't want to make you uncomfortable, Issei said, and she smiled. That's no problem, although maybe I'll let you use it, but not yet, not while he's still alive, she said, thinking the last part. Of course, Jill, Issei said, and she let out a sigh before starting to speak again. Well, I was brought to Arsenal, and like Ainge, I fell into despair. But thanks to my royal blood and a royal ring, I was able to open the Vilcus, she said, smiling as she recalled the past. Many came to my side, soldiers willing to protect the Vilcus, blacksmiths to repair it, doctors, weapons designers, dogs. That was the beginning of the rebellion of the abandoned, the Libertas, she said seriously. In the abyss of hell, we found our calling. To destroy this false filthy world, she said, emerging from the water and sitting on the bank, crossing her legs. A towel around her neck covered her breasts, and she looked seriously at her right metal arm. But I couldn't do it. I lost everything, the ring, my friends, my right arm. Everything, she said, a hint of pain in her voice. Issei got out of the water and sat beside her. Unconcerned by her nakedness, he put his arm around her shoulders, surprising the woman who had left him. But despite everything, I can't let the Libertas end, for my fallen comrades, Jill said. I imagine Ainge is in your plans, Issei said. You too, Icecon, I want you to help us, Jill said, and Issei looked into her eyes and smiled. That idiot will never expect what's coming to him. I can't rest easy knowing that the girls of Arsenal are sacrificing themselves just so that bunch of racist idiots can live in peace, Issei said, and Jill smiled. That's good to know, she said calmly. is there anything else you'd like to know? She asked. Yes, one last thing, you know that question has been nagging at me for a while now, it's about the dragons, because since the last time I faced one I felt a different energy, as if they were. But Jill finished for him. Humans? She asked. Yes, I feel like I'm part human, Issei said. Ah, I ask you not to tell the girls, at least until they realize it themselves. Yes, they are human, and that's the strangest thing, since after dying they return to their human forms, Jill said, and Issei's eyes widened in surprise. Do you regret killing them? She asked. Partly, yes, but they attack, and in a battle it doesn't matter who's good or bad, in the end there's only death, so not so much, but I recommend you tell the girls, because there could be problems if they find out the wrong way, Issei said, separating from her and getting up from the spot. You're right, I'll find the time, Jill said, getting up from the floor as well. Well, it was good to learn more about what's going on here, and don't forget, I'll help you and the girls. And if Rias is here, it means they found a way to bring me back. This world doesn't deserve them, so I'll take them with me to my world, Issei said as Jill hugged him from behind, pressing her naked body against him. Thank you, Ice-kun, that will make everyone happy, Jill said sincerely, and Issei smiled. Well, I'll go to the infirmary one last time, and then I'll go rest, you rest too Jill, see you later. With that, the brunette took his clothes, got dressed and left, leaving Jill alone who looked outside at the sea and the night sky and smiled. Hi do Issei, you will get us out of this hell, she said, grabbing her clothes and leaving. Time skip. -2 days later. 2 days had passed. Issei spent most of his time in the infirmary with Rias, and of course, Zola and Ainge sometimes joined him. Today, Issei sat in a chair beside Ai's bed, reading the journal he'd found on the island in his right hand and holding Ria's hand in his left. She smiled when she felt Issei's touch. I let out a sound from her mouth, and Issei stopped reading and focused entirely on his beloved Ai, who began to slowly open her eyes. Where am I? She asked, bewildered. You're okay, that makes me so happy. Issei exclaimed happily, and I looked at him. Ice. She said happily, hugging the brunette. My ice, finally after a long time I can feel your warmth, that's good sniff. You don't know how happy I am sniff, I said through tears, burying her face in Issei's neck, who affectionately stroked her long crimson hair. I'm here and I won't go anywhere again, I won't let anything happen to you, Issei whispered in the purple-haired girl's ear. They stayed like that, hugging, for 5 minutes when someone arrived in the medical room. It was Maggie and some nurses who had come to check on Ai. Well, it seems our patient is awake, thank goodness, since Ice-kun didn't leave your side for long here, Maggie said, smiling at the scene. Oh, Maggie, thank you for taking care of her during this time, Issei said gratefully, and Maggie just smiled. It's my duty as a doctor to know that my patients are alright, she said, smiling, then winking at Issei. Although, if you want to thank me, I could tell you how, she said flirtatiously, and Issei looked blank. Well, I'll leave you too. We can check on your girlfriend later, so talk to her. She needs to know what happened, Maggie said, leaving the infirmary with the nurses and leaving the couple alone. Ice, what's going on here? Where are we? I asked, and Issei let out a sigh. This was going to be a long explanation. At least 20 minutes passed during which Issei told her what he had experienced so far in this world and how he got here, with I being surprised by what happens here and how awful the mana users are for believing that those who live in Arsenal are demons, although there was one topic that interested I. So, putting aside the history of this place, could you explain why you have 2 girlfriends here? 2 girlfriends? Could you explain, my dear Issei? I asked, her voice growing increasingly dangerous. Issei swallowed hard. He knew she would be angry with him for this. But in addition to that smile, he saw her hair begin to move as if it were fire or something, and red flames were shooting from her hands, something that shocked him despite his being a deity. I swear it was sudden, both in different situations. I spent almost all my time with one of them since I arrived here, and I got to know the other since she started her life here. I'll introduce you to them later, but please don't kill me, my love. I swear it wasn't because I forgot them, Issei said nervously, but he saw I let out a sigh. I'm not upset, I wanted to play with you, so don't be scared. Besides, I know you wouldn't just pick them like that, but you have to introduce me to them. After all, I'm the first girl you fell in love with, and I'll be the one to lead your future harem, I said, and Issei nodded. But how did you get here? I was supposed to send the spell back to our world so you could at least start another life, but I never imagined you'd come here, Issei asked. Well, yes, the last thing I remember is holding you in my arms before I died, and then everything went black. I don't know what else I felt, but out of nowhere I was standing in front of a huge phoenix, about 60 meters tall, and it told me my time had come back, I said. Issei was relieved by the first part and surprised by the second. But you know, when I was in that void, I missed everything about you, your caresses, your hands, I said lovingly, cheering Issei up, who hugged her affectionately and kissed her. I really missed your kisses, I said, kissing Issei more. But you know what I missed most? She said, and Issei looked at her, almost jumping when he felt Ai's soft hand on his pants. A night where you made me yours again and again without rest, love, I said in a very sensual voice. I miss this too, Issei said, feeling Rias's soft body. Your soft breasts, he gently squeezed Ai's left breast, eliciting a moan. This beautiful ass, he caressed one of her buttocks. And being inside me, Issei said, gently brushing against Ai's slightly wet intimacy. Oh Ai, you pervert, you're already getting wet down here, Issei said, continuing to brush against Ai's panties, who was becoming increasingly wet and aroused. Ah, Ice, it's your fault, you make me like this, I moaned under Issei's touch. Well, let me do something about it, but first, Issei said, using what little magic he'd learned from Roswis to cast a spell that was both soundproof and made people ignore the infirmary for a while. Okay, I'll pay you back for these 4 days of leaving you alone, and when we get back, we'll go on vacation with the girls and have a blast, Issei said, taking off his shirt as he approached the excited Ai, who was wearing her hospital gown, one of those big green gowns they put on patients. I don't know what it's called since I haven't been to the hospital much. She opened her legs, lying back on the examination table. Issei saw her panties, now soaked with love juices, and her glassy eyes filled with love and lust. He felt his own erection awaken powerfully. I'm going to enjoy this more than you can imagine, Issei said, shirtless. Come here my beloved black dragon, your idle princess needs lots of love, she said, and Issei obeyed. Lemon skipped. They spent about 5 hours locked in that room, and every time Maggie or someone else went to look for Issei, when they got close to the medical room, they unconsciously decided to go look for him somewhere else instead. Maybe it was Pachman magic. The thing is that Issei lasted with Ai until they were both satisfied, or at least Ai was. Time skip. Command room. Ai and Issei were already in the Arsenal command room after taking a shower and feeding Ai. Issei was now with Ai, who was wearing her school uniform from the magic academy she attended. It was a white skirt, blue in some parts, with decorations like a phoenix, which the girls who passed by looked at strangely, but then they went on with their business. Ai noticed that Issei was appreciated there, judging by the sincere smiles of several girls and the occasional light flirtation, as well as the joy of the younger ones, who asked him to tell them stories and so on. In the end, she smiled, knowing that her beloved black-haired boy was well received in this godforsaken place. They arrived at the command room where Jill, Maggie, Jasmine, along with Zola and her team, were waiting, only to be surprised to see Issei and I very close together, with Aridid smiling radiantly and walking in a strange way. Zola smiled and Ange blushed, Jill smiled amusedly along with Maggie, and Emma blushed slightly, while Vivian didn't understand anything. Celia looked away with a tiny blush, and Chris and Rosalie had marked blushes. Although Rosalie had a somewhat perverted smile on her face, also a pink aura of love that surrounded them both, but they calmed down once they were with the others. So the patient is doing well, from what I can see, Jill said. Nice to meet you, I'm Ai Hoshino, and I appreciate you taking care of me during this time, and also for welcoming Ice here with you, I said, bowing slightly. You're welcome, Hoshino-san. After all, Ice-kun has helped us a lot while he was here in Arsenal, Jill said. Just call me Ai, and it's good to know Issei helped you, I said, smiling as she hugged Issei's right arm, tucking it between her breasts. This made the girls who liked Issei jealous. They all introduced themselves to Ai, who nodded. So, if you're here, it means you're taking Ice-kun with you, right? Jill asked, crossing her arms. If you looked into her eyes, you could see some disappointment and sadness. You could say that, Rias said, making some of the girls sad, but this quickly dispelled the sadness. I can't. This is my home now. I know my friends must be crying because of me, but they'll understand someday, I said, and several sighed in relief. Well, you'll be staying with Issei since, like I said, you're his future wife, it's normal that you're staying with him, Jill said, much to Zola and Ange's annoyance. So I hope you feel comfortable during your stay here in Arsenal, the dark-haired woman said, and I nodded. They then left the command room so Issei could take Ai to his room, where Issei waited for 2 people he had previously summoned who arrived a few minutes later. Zola, Ange, I formally introduce you to Ai, Issei said to his 2 girls. They both looked at Ai, who smiled at them calmly. So you're the girlfriends Issei made here, huh? That's great. I hope to meet you while I'm here, I said kindly. After all, she knew her Issei would have more girls with him, so there was no point in getting upset with him over things like that. Aren't you upset? Zola asked. Why? I asked. Well, we messed with Ice-kun, even though we knew he had a girlfriend, Zola said. Well, no, that's what happens when you're a dragon, obviously you'll have more partners so it doesn't bother me, but I'd like to get to know them better, I said, bringing a smile to Zola and Ange's faces. So the four of them spent the rest of the day in Issei's room, with I and the two girls chatting away. Zola kept asking about Issei and how he did it, which made Ange blush, but she listened attentively as I described in great detail how Issei did it with her. Zola smiled pervertedly and did other things until the three of them slept together. Ange was surprised to see how I, like Zola, slept naked with Issei. I had arrived where her beloved chestnut-haired boy was, and now with her, another ally for Arsenal. For now, everything was calm, but those peaceful days would soon come to an end after some upcoming events, but that will be for another time. The clock has moved again, the truth is close, it just needs one more movement of the clock hand. I'm sorry I can't publish The Supreme Vampire yet, but it's ready and it's due tomorrow. Until next time. Chapter 8. The clock hand finally reached its place, and the moment of truth has finally arrived. Without further ado, let's begin. Festival Day. The day was the day of the famous festival in Arsenal, Mermaid Festa. A day where humans give the norm a free time to enjoy themselves and celebrate, taking a break from dragon slaying and such. A day of relaxation that happens once a year, which is a load of crap to Issei's ears, considering that one day doesn't make up for 364 days of hard work. Ever since I spoke with Zola and Ange, they've been acting very normal and calm, and Zola has even become more aggressive with him. After talking to I, she locked him in her room, where they didn't come out until the early hours of the morning. After a shower, the four of them slept together. Today, Issei left I in her room after a quickie in the morning, leaving his idle queen exhausted, and went with the others to greet someone important who was coming from one of the human kingdoms, although to Issei, that person was about as important as seeing a clam in the sea. I don't know why you're bothering me about this, I don't have to come and greet someone I don't give a damn about, Issei said with a frown under the helmet of his armor. Come on Ice, don't get like that, it's just work, you won't have to get involved with that person, Jill said, smiling amusedly at Issei's attitude. Please Isan, don't be like that, she's someone important and besides, they don't know about you, just think of this as just an escort job, Emma said worriedly to Issei, while the brunette just sighed. Okay Emma, don't worry, I'll take the job, Issei said resignedly. Thank you Isan, really thank you, said the green-haired officer. Come on, darling, just don't pay too much attention to it, Zola said in her parmail, smiling at Issei. Well, it bothers me that there's such a fuss just because someone comes from outside here to Arsenal, it doesn't seem normal to me, Issei said. Just let him be, Ice-kun, it's our job after all, Ursha said, smiling at Issei, who just let out another sigh. You let a little bit of happiness escape with every sigh, darling, you'd better stop doing that, Zola said, and Issei looked at her and rolled his eyes. Let's finish this quickly, I want to go rest, said the brunette. I think you're picking up Dragsen's habits, or is it because you and I had so much fun this morning? Zola said, making Issei and some of the girls blush, except for Vivian, who didn't understand what she was talking about, and Ange, who had been distracted for a while, was clearly distracted. Issei looked at her worriedly and remembered what had happened after her fever came down the day he talked to Jill about Libertas and everything else. Flashback Ange's room. Are you feeling better now? Issei asked Ange, who was changing troops in front of him, though he didn't care since Issei had seen her naked before. Yes, a little, Ange said. It's good that Angel Eyes Sama's fever has gone down a bit, Momoka said happily, gathering Angel Eyes' clothes to fold them and put them on the bed. The maid's face was calm, but suddenly it changed to one of shock. What's happening so suddenly? Issei asked, puzzled by the maid's behavior as she placed her hand in front of her, making a screen appear, surprising Ange. A secret channel of the Imperial Court, said the blonde, approaching the maid who placed a message in front of her to reveal Issei and Ange. The chestnut tree remained silent and watched attentively to see what would happen. Momoka, can you hear me? Momoka. A female voice spoke from the other side, shocking both girls and Issei. Sylvia-sama. Momoka exclaimed, causing Ange's eyes to widen in surprise. Sylvia, Ange said, shocked. Your younger sister? Issei asked, receiving a nod from his blonde girlfriend. Did you find Angel Eyes Onasama? Is my sister there? Sylvia asked, her voice sounding worried. The three were silent for a moment, which was broken by the following. Let me go. Help me, Onasama. Angel Eyes Onasama. And with that, the message cut off, leaving the three intrigued and Ange and Momoka worried. Sylvia, Ange said, her face showing total concern. She loved her little sister, and this only made her more worried. Issei became serious. Something smelled fishy about that transmission, and if it was a plan to lure Ange towards them, they wouldn't be able to stop the mess she'd make in their paper kingdom. But even so, he said nothing. He wanted to see what would happen with all of this. Then flashback. Zola's squadron departing was the announcement from the Hexy blonde who took off in her parmail, followed by Vivian, Celia and Ursha, but Ange did not leave because she was lost in thought, stopping Chris, Rosalie and Hilda from taking off. Ainge, snap out of it. Issei shouted, making the blonde girl wake up and look at him. You're delaying takeoff. I know you're worried, but thinking about it is only distracting you from your responsibilities, Issei said seriously, and Ainge simply nodded before taking off with her Ragnamail, followed by the remaining girls. Issei watched them and shook his head. I hope that transmission isn't fake, because if it is, they won't get to finish what I'm going to do to those bastards, Issei thought as he used his dragon wings to speed out of the hangar. Far from where they were flying, one of the kingdom's transport ships that had gone to visit Arsenal, guarded by 2 combat ships, was descending to the place. Issei watched from afar along with Zola's group and raised an eyebrow, intrigued at only feeling little energy in the ship. Ah. Here comes the Festa. Vivian exclaimed joyfully upon seeing the main ship. Festa? Ainge asked, somewhat lost. Don't you know, Ainge-chan? The Festa is, and so Ursha answered Ainge about what the Festa was. Issei looked directly at Hilda, feeling that something would go wrong if he didn't keep an eye on her. He already had enough to do keeping an eye on Ainge, who was dealing with her sister's message. Now he would have to work twice as hard. In the kingdom's ship, a pretty girl with light brown hair watched a girl's par mail with interest, but the red armor flying at the same pace as the previous vehicles caught her attention more. So that's what they used to defeat the dragons, right? The girl asked her assistant. Indeed, Misty-sama, replied the princess's assistant, Misty. But what is that black armor flying beside them? Is it someone else we don't know? The princess asked. Her assistant glanced out the window and then looked in surprise at Issei's armor. I wouldn't know, Misty-sama, we'll have to ask Officer Emma Bronson about that, said the assistant, to which the princess simply nodded, but without taking her eyes off the armor. That armor is magnificent, thought the princess upon seeing the black armor. Some time later. Mermaid Festa, now Issei accompanied by Ai, who was wearing a tremendous bikini that made him think about locking her in his room for the rest of the day, but he better leave that for later, although it didn't help to have Zola with an equally provocative bikini that showed off her great figure. Ainge was also with them wearing a red bikini that actually suited her well, and Momoka was herself, in her maid outfit just because. I'm really surprised by this festival, it would be nice if they had more days off like this, said I, observing the various stalls and the cheerful faces of girls, young women, and adults from Arsenal. Well, you don't always get what you want, Zola said, eating a takoyaki she had bought for Jasmine a while ago. Here, honey, take this, Zola said, putting one in Issei's mouth, who accepted it. Thanks Zola, as Rias said, it's a shame this is only for one day, after all you look happy, Issei said to the girls, as Celia approached wearing a blue bikini that matched her hair. You look good, Celia, Issei said, making Zola's second-in-command blush. Thank you, the blushing girl said. About what you said about only having one day, we can't say anything. After all, that's how it is, since humans give us this day free from all duties, we should be grateful, Celia said, and Ainge spoke. An opportunity for the slaves to breathe. She said, earning a frown from Celia, but Zola smiled amusedly as she slapped her on the bottom, startling the blonde. Hey. The girl said, blushing and looking at Zola with annoyance. Fufu, what you said is one way to look at it, but oh well, who are we to contradict the words of humans? We should just enjoy this day to the fullest. Besides, I like taking the opportunity to show Ice-kun my hexiest swimsuit, Zola said, smiling as she grabbed Issei's right arm, since I, who was smiling at Zola's attitude, had taken his left. Ah, let's have some fun, said the blonde, and Issei, freeing his arm from Zola and Ai's grip, hugged Ainge from behind, who blushed. Ice, said the blonde, embarrassed, while Momoka also blushed along with Celia for seeing that kind of behavior in public. Don't be like that, Ainge. After all, you look really good in that swimsuit. The red highlights your beauty, and it makes me want to, he whispered the last part in the blonde's ear, causing her to blush so deeply that steam came out of her ears. This earned her amused smiles from Zola and I, and one from Issei, who affectionately kissed her cheek. This drew the attention of Momoka and Celia, the latter feeling something strange in her heart, seeing Issei so affectionate with Ainge, but just as quickly as it came, it was gone. Meanwhile, Emma was in a finely arranged room with Princess Misty Rosenblum, who placed her teacup on the small table to talk to Emma. Thank you for coming from so far away, Princess Misty Rosenblum-sama, Emma said with a smile to the royal brunette in front of her. The administration of Arsenal is the duty of the Rosenblum family, said the girl from the principality. They talked about things of no real interest until the girl asked something that made Emma sweat because it was something she shouldn't say even if she could. I heard that Angel Eyes-sama is here, the princess of the Mitsurugi Empire, Angel Eyes, the girl said, and Emma changed the subject, saying that there was no one like that here. Misty asked what really worried Emma. Then look for her, because I want to see her. Besides, when I arrived, flying alongside the Paramail unit, I saw a black suit of armor. Who is the Norma piloting that armor? It's very unusual to see armor and not a Paramail, the princess said, and Emma tensed up. Well, I wouldn't know how to tell him, Emma said nervously. How so? Misty asked, surprised by the answer and seeing the green-haired girl's nervousness and uncertainty about what to say. Well, it's not a rule who wears that armor, Emma said. So if it's not a rule, what is it? The princess asked. Emma, for her part, didn't know what to do. She didn't know whether to tell the truth or not. She knew Issei would be upset with her if she said anything, but she didn't feel comfortable with the idea of Issei being upset with her. After all, he was a nice person. Well, I wouldn't know how to tell you the truth, it's complicated, said the green-haired girl, looking for a way to avoid saying anything about Issei. Is this something I shouldn't know? The girl asked. Well, the only thing I can tell you is that he doesn't want it to be known by other people. He's an ally of Arsenal, so please, I beg you to accept that answer. That person isn't someone you should bother if you don't want to get on his bad side, said the green-haired girl, bound to ask Misty to stop the questioning. The princess looked at her for a few seconds and then let out a sigh. Okay, I'll leave that subject aside, but if the opportunity arises I would like to meet that person who, from what I've heard, is a man, which is strange, but I'll leave it aside for the moment, said the princess, making Emma sigh with relief. Thank you, Misty-sama. I'm glad to know you understand, and if the opportunity arises, I'll introduce you to that person if you'd like, Emma said, smiling with relief, and Misty nodded. With Issei and company, the brunette was alone wandering around the beach. Zola and I went to see what they could find there. Issei saw Rosalie betting on pig races, and Chris blushed when he saw him but smiled at him, which he returned. Then he walked for a while until he found Ainge and Momoka sitting near a table with an umbrella, the blonde seeming bored. Why the long face, Ainge? You should relax like the rest of us, Issei said, smiling as he approached the duo of girls. Ai-sama, Momoka said, causing Issei to stare at her with a blank expression. Don't call me that, Momoka-chan, it's very strange, said Issei. He could only accept it from the servants of the Gremory house or some others, but only because his mother-in-law told him to, besides, for him Momoka is a friend and not a maid. I can't do that, besides being Angel Ai-sama's partner, you bought me before, so that's why I'm addressing you like this, Momoka said persistently. Ah, you won't change your mind, will you? Issei asked. No, Momoka said, smiling. You know what? Let's just leave it at that. I'm not going to gain anything from this argument, Issei said, sitting down in the chair where Ainge was, with her on his lap. Feeling the blonde's rear end against his crotch, Issei noticed the expression on his girlfriend's face and became serious. You're still thinking about that, aren't you? About your sister, the dark-haired boy said, to which the blonde sighed as she leaned back against her boyfriend's chest. There's no point in worrying, I can't do anything from here anyway, Ainge said, smiling bitterly as Issei affectionately hugged her around the waist. Don't worry, we'll think of something, said the dark-haired man, smiling at the blonde to reassure her, which he managed to do when he saw Ainge's smile. Huh? Someone's calling me, Momoka said, making Ainge look at her. Sylvia? The blonde asked anxiously, but Momoka shook her head. No, it's Momoka said, making a floating screen appear that showed that the caller was Emma. It's Emma-san, it's the officer, Momoka told Ainge, who snorted at that. Oh, yeah? Ainge huffed as she got up from Issei's lap to take his hand and lead him away, leaving Momoka there nervously wondering whether to answer or follow them. Ainge walked hand in hand with a silent Issei who was just watching what his girlfriend would do. In the distance, he could see Rias and Zola laughing about something as they walked through the festival. Ai-sama, Angel Ai-sama. Momoka called, catching up to the couple. What happened, Momoka-chan? Issei asked the maid. There's someone who wants to see you both, the maid replied, impressing them both. Who is it? Ainge asked. It's Misty-sama, Momoka said. Misty? Issei asked, surprised. Ainge was equally puzzled, wondering who she was, until she remembered something from before they discovered she was a Norma. Misty Rosenblum? Ainge asked Momoka, who nodded. I was told she's the fleet representative and wants to see you both, Momoka said. Why does she want to see me? I don't even know her, Issei said. Are you trying to make fun of me? Ainge asked, annoyed. Well, said Momoka, not knowing what to say. Ainge decided that was enough, so she decided to leave the place, approached a Paralina's suit that was nearby and got into it. Angel Ai-sama? Momoka asked, watching the blonde put on the suit. I'd better disappear, she said, putting on the costume hat and walking away. Come on, get out of here, she said, pushing Momoka aside, who was just watching. Issei, for his part, glanced at who was inside the tent and saw that it was Ursha who had been inside the costume all this time. She was wearing a bikini the same color as her hair and it looked great on her. But he looked at Momoka, worried, since Ainge had left while he was looking at Ursha's body. Huh? And where did she go now? Issei asked Momoka, who sighed. She went that way, the maid said, defeated. Issei approached and affectionately stroked her head, making her blush. Aye Sama, the maid said, blushing. I'll make sure she doesn't get into trouble. You rest a bit. You deserve it. And I won't take no for an answer, since that's an order, is that clear? Issei said, to which Momoka nodded defeatedly. Good, I'd better go find her before she gets into trouble, the dark-haired man said, but he stopped to look behind him where, behind one of the tents, a surprised Hilda stood. She had been discovered and tried to escape, but Issei stopped her. So, miss, tell me what you're doing here. Issei asked the nervous Hilda, frowning, since Momoka had gone off somewhere else to have some fun. And what's it to you? Hilda said, annoyed, but Issei frowned even more, making the girl nervous. It matters a lot to me, after all it seems you're planning something strange, you've been like this since this morning, and you're worrying me, Hilda, Issei said, changing his expression to a worried one that surprised the retreat with pigtails. Am I worrying you? Hilda asked, surprised, and Issei nodded. Yes, I'm worried about you, Issei replied sincerely. She blushed but calmed down. It's nothing, but if you want to know you can come with me so I can tell you, Hilda said, trusting Issei, and he nodded. Some time later. So you were on Zola's side all this time, and you also planned a lot to go see your mother, Issei said, leaning against a wall in the corridors of Arsenal. Hilda was next to him, sitting on the floor while hugging his legs. Yes, I always wanted to escape from here just to see my mother again, Hilda said, her head bowed. She explained why she behaved that way. Issei looked at her and let out a sigh, sat down next to her, and put his right arm around her shoulders to give her a hug that took her by surprise and made her blush. Ah, I understand. I imagine you didn't like it because of everything you went through. You pretended in order to survive. I'm upset because you'd break Zola's heart if she found out you hate her. She loves and appreciates you very much. She cherishes you, Chris and Rosalie with great affection, even if she doesn't show it. But it's clear you love your mother too much to endure this for so long, and that's admirable. I'll help you get out of here, but I imagine we'll need someone to pilot the ship, right? After all, neither you nor I can use monolite, Issei said, still hugging Hilda, who snuggled closer to him to feel his warmth. Yes, I thought about kidnapping Ange's maid, but now that you know, I think I'll have to find another method, Hilda said. Yes, I'll ask her, let's go, said Issei, getting up from the ground and then helping Hilda to her feet. Do you think he'll agree? Hilda asked. We won't know until we ask her, Issei said, and so they went to look for Momoka. Some time later hangar. Angel Sama will kill me if she finds out I agreed to something like this, Momoka said, crying comically while she was with Issei and Hilda. Don't cry, Momoka-chan, I'll tell him to make you do this, so don't worry about it, said the brunette, stroking Momoka's head. Sama is mean, how could he ask me to help him with an escape from Arsenal? Momoka said, pouting at Issei. It's for helping Hilda see her mother, I already told you 6 times, Issei said, looking at the maid who was crying comically. I'll go deactivate the arresting gear so we can get out of here before the festa ends, Hilda said, unable to bear seeing Momoka's whining and how Issei was calming her with head strokes, but then. What are you doing here, Momoka, Ice? Ange asked, arriving with a cart full of weapons and a frightened Misty perched on top of the pile. Ange, what the hell did you do now? Issei asked with a tick when he saw that his girlfriend had kidnapped the princess. Not that he cared, but he knew he wouldn't get out of this easily. Well, you see, she said, getting nervous when she saw Issei looking upset. Who are you? Misty asked upon seeing Issei, who looked at her, making the princess nervous. I'm the type of armor you were calling for, Issei said casually, surprising the princess. Really? She asked, impressed, forgetting that she had literally been kidnapped by Ange. Yes, and first of all, I'm sorry that my impulsive girlfriend kidnapped her, but now I think there's nothing that can be done, Issei apologized to her. What? Are you Angel Sama's boyfriend? She asked, blushing and impressed. Issei nodded. Yes, and as I said, I'm sorry about the kidnapping, Issei said again. Will you let me go free? The princess asked hopefully. Unfortunately, no. Nothing guarantees you won't get Ange into trouble, and I don't trust any noble in this cursed world, let alone any mana user. Don't get me wrong, I have nothing against you, but I don't like you either, so I'd better let Ange continue what she was doing, since it's surely for your little sister, right? Issei said, leaving the princess on the verge of tears, thinking they would kill her. His last words were directed at Ange, who nodded. We'll see about you. We're all leaving, so get the princess and the weapons onto the ship. Hilda, go deactivate the locks that are holding the ship. And Momoka-chan, since Ange is here, I doubt she'll kill you for helping us get out of here, Issei said, giving his orders. They all nodded and did everything he said. After Ange put an unconscious Misty into the disguise, she approached Issei, who was waiting for Hilda without boarding the ship. Why were you helping Hilda get out of here, Ice? Ange asked her boyfriend, who looked at her. I'm going to take her to her mother. She misses her, so I'll help her. After all, you're going to see your sister. We both have almost the same goal. To see our families. Although, I feel like something bad is going to happen because of all this, Issei said, looking out of the base with a worried expression, a strange feeling creeping into his heart. Something bad is bound to happen. That really surprises me, I didn't think she had a goal like that, said Ainge, who, despite detesting the Redeed for everything she had done to her, understood how she felt. After all, her mother died protecting her. After a few minutes Hilda came running to the hangar. I've finished what I had to do, now all that's left is to unlock the ship, Hilda said, approaching the panel that unlocks the ship. Using the hair clip hack, she activated the panel and quickly turned the key to unlock the ship. It's ready, let's get out of here, Hilda said, running until she was on the ship. Alright, Momoka-chan, it's your turn, Issei said to the mate. Hi, and so she started the ship and they began to leave Arsenal. Damn it, I have to tell Ai what's going on so she can tell the others not to think otherwise, Issei said, remembering that he had forgotten about the others. How will you do that? Hilda asked, and her answer came in the form of a magic circle of communication. Right, that magic, Hilda said with a blank expression. Ai, can you hear me? Issei asked. Huh? What's wrong, Ice? The purple-haired girl asked from the other side as she was with Zola watching the sports festival competition that Jasmine started. I need you to tell the girls the following, but first talk to Zola so they believe what I'm saying, Issei said, explaining to Ai that he had escaped from Arsenal with Ainge and Hilda after hijacking one of the ships. I'm going with Hilda to see her mother and then I'll go after Ainge. Tell the girls not to think badly of either of them because they're both worried about their loved ones and even though it might sound selfish, they need to see them. Also, tell Zola, Chris and Rosalie that Hilda will talk to them about something important when she gets back, so please, if they try anything to do to you, just teleport away from there and take Zola with you, Issei said, his voice filled with concern at the end. Of course, darling, don't worry, I'll explain the situation to everyone, I said, and Issei nodded. I'll leave it to you, my idol queen, see you later, he said, smiling as he cut off communication with Ai and looked at his blonde girlfriend and the Redeed, both sitting on different sides of the ship. He glanced at Perlina's suit where Misty was inside and sighed. This trip will be very long, said the black-haired man, going to the cockpit to sit near Momoka, who was piloting the ship. But I still have this unease in my chest, Issei thought, worried. Don't worry, friend, I know you can solve any problem that bothers your girls, Crash said to Issei, who smiled. Thank you for those words, friend, Issei said. I'll always be here to help you, after all, we're in this together, Crash said to Issei. That's true, but thank you anyway, Issei said, smiling as he looked at the sea from the sky. A long journey straight to some harsh truths for both girls who wanted to escape from Arsenal, one to see the one who brought her into the world and the other to see if her little sister is okay, although Issei felt that something bad was going to happen, but only one thing made him serious. I swear that if anything happens to any of them, I will plunge them into a hell of incandescent flames, Issei said seriously. Thus the Dark Dragon helped two girls escape from Arsenal, still unaware of what fate had in store for them. Universe DxD. Things haven't been going very well. Sirzechs held a very important meeting to deal with the Chaos Brigade, since Isaac was losing, as was Max, and the one who could beat them on some occasions was Issei. Meeting room. Well, I've gathered you all here to talk about the matter of the Chaos Brigade and the repeated humiliations of Isaac and Max, Sirzechs said to everyone in a serious tone. The brat is right. The Sekiryuutei and his brother have lost many times and we don't know why, said Auden, touching his beard. But there's also something strange I don't understand. The traitor from the faction supposedly gave Rias all the information about more bases and other things, but they haven't attacked any of our bases. Instead, the attacks are only directed at the clans and factions, Michael said. It's very strange, Isaac. Tell me something. You're supposed to be the strongest Sekiryuutei in history, but you're the first one they defeat. Why is this? Penemu asked. Isaac and Max were nervous, but Issei wasn't. She wanted to confess the truth once and for all, but someone else beat her to it. The door opened, and out came Rias, Livy and Lucifer with a huge group of soldiers behind him. Well, if it isn't the Alliance, tell me something, where is Hyoudou Issei? Rias would ask. Upon hearing that name, everyone just glared at each other with hatred. That traitor must already be dead in Tartarus. We knew that useless wretch would ally himself with you to gain power, Serafal said. There was a long silence until. PFFF, haha. Rias laughed heartily along with the others in his group. Who would have thought the factions could be so stupid? They were fooled by evidence that just appeared out of nowhere. What would the former demon kings, and especially my mother, think if they knew about this? That their descendants, their super demons, were so easily deceived. At least my mother was a better leader than you all. I'll tell you the truth, that video was fake. When she said that, everyone went into shock. Issei was a thorn in my side, an obstacle to my plans. He was truly powerful, so much so that he earned my respect, but I wanted to get him out of this world. And what better way than to make the Alliance believe he joined the Chaos Brigade. And it worked, but I thought I would erase his memory. But who would have thought they would throw him into the worst place imaginable? Tartarus. No one could utter a word after learning that an innocent person had been thrown into Tartarus. Besides the fact that his supposed pillars are nothing more than simple frauds, here we have the true face of his pillars on video. Rias played a video showing what Issei's siblings did, Issei's lies to make the girl stay away from him because she felt a great love for her own brother, yes, the sister who wanted to commit incest with her own brother, too bad the worst awaits her. Since they were children, she loved her brother. Isaac lied to everyone, saying Issei was a rapist, a pervert. Isaac stole Issei's logos, his strategies, plans, his things for the girls, and how he also raped other girls in the city, how they cried and begged him to stop, but he didn't listen and continued. Max was the same as Isaac, but also with the Sitri clan, with Sona and her entourage. He only wanted Sona as his hex toy to satisfy his lust, and what's worse, he hurt Issei by taking Sona and the entourage who became friends with Issei, but Sona remembered the words she said and knew at that moment that Issei had seen them talking, since when he saw her at the trial he showed hatred towards her and her entourage. There, you have your pathetic faction heroes, hahaha, too bad this is being broadcast all over the planet, no one will trust them anymore. The era of peace is over, and the era of the apocalypse is about to arrive. Someone stood up and was charging his power. I'm going to kill you, Seraphol said, her eyes filled with fury and tears. Ah, look who it is, that spoiled little girl, the infamous Mayu Leviathan, a fake Mayu who only usurped the throne that belonged to Kateria and the other pureblood demons, not you false demon kings. Don't say anything, Seraphol. You yourself told that child, I will only love Isaac because he is a true man. I desire a good man, not a pervert like you, and if you die, it will be for the good of the world. Now look at the consequences of what you said. He is no longer here, and as a consequence of him no longer being here to protect you, I will destroy the factions and rule over all, thanks to the free pass that child left behind. You're a miserable wretch, Sirzechs would say. You'd better not even talk about it. You used your destructive power against him some time ago because you thought he was to blame for losing the fight against Serekh, but no, that was Isaac. Now don't come crying about someone who did everything for you. Besides, it's too late if you're going to Tartarus, Rias said, pulling Issei's old clothes, covered in blood and riddled with holes, from a magic circle. He's gone, and I hope he's at least in Elysium. Such a kind and good-hearted soul who risked everything, sacrificed so much to keep both worlds safe, sacrificed love, shed tears, blood, pain, and suffering to surpass himself. It's a shame for you, Sona Sitri. You could have had your dreams, but now you're just a hex toy for both pillars. That boy must hate you with all his soul. Now you live with that sin in your womb, just like the rest of the boars. Sona fell to her knees crying because of what she had done, because she had lost everything. Issei was innocent, and no one believed him. He was very different from the other boys she had known, and now he was dead, and there was no way to reverse time and go back to the past. He was gone forever. Although I doubt he's dead, and if he were alive, he certainly wouldn't want you in his life anymore, because he must have a great grudge against you, he said maliciously. Everyone didn't know what to do because now, knowing that Issei was the true hero, shocked them more and more. The girls in the harem and both brothers cried. I hope you enjoyed the show. Without further ado, I will leave. I hope you prepare for the future war that is coming. Rias left with his group. The leaders didn't know what to say, but out of nowhere, shouts were heard outside. It was the angry crowd, yelling cowards, arrogant, liars, we lost the real hero, and it's all your fault, die. Things would get worse and worse in the future. Beyond. The large crowd could be seen, and those were the ones who believed in Issei and his innocence, and among them were Trihexa and Lilith along with Hades, who brought with him a large crystal tube. I'm glad you accepted the deal, said the infinite dragon lowly. It's because of that kid, he earned my admiration, I hope the dimensional machine works, said Hades. Lilith sees a scientist and nods, so she pulls the lever, and a huge fissure opens in the machine, and from there the multidimensional rift can be seen which would take them to the place where Issei is. It works, it works. Everyone shouted with excitement as he could finally be with his hero. Alright, you know the procedure, one by one, and hold hands without letting go or you'll be sucked in. Everyone slowly entered the fissure, and there were more than 4 million supernatural beings, so it would take a long time, but the fissure kept getting bigger, giving them more access. Thanks again, Hades. You're welcome, little one. Tell that boy to come back soon, because my brothers want to meet him, Hades would say with a smile. Yes, that's what we'll do. 5 minutes passed, everyone went in, they just turned around to see their world one last time and entered the fissure, only for it to close completely and Hades to take the machine away in case someone stole it. It's better that he has it. Multidimensional gap. Trihexa, with Lilith's help, searched for Issei and it took a long time, but I found him, he's here in this dimension, Lilith would say, very happy. Well then, let's get to it, we have to see that blockhead, Trihexa would say, taking its dragon form of more than 260 meters, since the previous eyes was to avoid attracting attention. Get ready, kid, here we go. Chapter 9. Arsenal after the escape of Issei and the girls. So you're telling us that my love escaped with Ange and Hilda from Arsenal? Are you serious? Zola asked, looking at Issei seriously. They were both in Issei's room, since the festa was not yet over, and since Zola was with her, he decided to take her to a private place to talk. Yes, but he does it to help them see their families, I said. Zola just let out a long sigh. Well, I understand that, both were born outside of Arsenal, but even so I doubt they'll escape some punishment Jill might impose on them, Zola said, worried about the three of them. I imagine so, but the first thing is to avoid upsetting the girls with the three of them, so you're the best option to tell them, I said to Zola, who thought for a moment before sighing. With most of them it'll be a piece of cake, but Celia is another story. She adores Jill too much to understand the reason for the escape. We can only count on Ursha because she likes Ice-kun, on Chris and Rosalie because they love Hilda and like Ice-kun, on Vivian because she loves Ice-kun and wouldn't think badly of what he did because she cares about both girls too much. Beyond that, I don't think we can count on anyone else, Zola said to I, who simply nodded. Well, it's best to call them and tell them, I said, and Zola nodded. But then someone knocked on the bedroom door. I and Zola were surprised, but Rias went to see who it was, finding Emma looking tired. Oh, I-san, have you by any chance seen I-san? The green-haired girl asked I, who shook her head. Unfortunately not, Emma-san. He went with Ange to spend some time at the festival, and I haven't seen him since, I said, making Emma feel defeated. But why is he looking for Ice? The purple-haired girl asked, puzzled. Misty Rosenblum-sama wants to meet him, but I've already searched the entire festival and couldn't find him, Emma said wearily. Oh, then those two must be out somewhere having fun, if you know what I mean, officer, Zola said with an amused smile, which grew even more when she saw the green-haired girl's atomic blush. I laughed at that. You don't say things like that, how shameless. The green-haired girl said, blushing at the mere thought of the scene in her head. Yes, that's what you say now, but you must be imagining Ice-kun taking you and making passionate love to you, Zola said mockingly, causing the green-haired girl to let a trickle of blood run from her nose. See? Then you say I'm the shameless one, Zola said with a big smile. SHSH, shut up. I'd better go now, I don't have time to waste on things like this, said a blushing Emma as she left. I watched her go while wiping the blood from her nose, which brought an amused smile to the purple-haired girl's face as she looked at Zola lying on Issei's bed with a wide grin. You're really mean, Zola, although it was actually fun seeing Emma-san blush so much, I said playfully. Zola shrugged, took one of Issei's shirts, and hugged it. Well, she may pretend to be the purest and all, but one day I caught her spying when you and Ice-kun were making love, Zola said, surprising I. Wow, that is surprising, said the purple-haired girl. Well, putting all that aside, it's best to call the girls to explain the situation, said I. Yes, let's go, said Zola, getting out of bed but putting on Issei's shirt, which I followed, and so they left in search of the girls to explain what had happened. Later that day, all of Arsenal learned of the princess's kidnapping, and that Issei, Hilda and Ange, along with Momoka, had escaped with the princess, while Jill just sighed, knowing that something like this would happen. The next day. The four who escaped from Arsenal had abandoned the ship and the princess where they landed and were now at a ruined gas station. Hilda and Ange, the masterminds behind this escape, were dressed differently. The Redeed wore a black bodysuit that accentuated her slender yet beautiful figure, which Issei found sexy. Ange wore a black sports bra, leaving her midriff exposed, along with green military-style pants and dark brown fingerless gloves. Issei saw her as both beautiful and dangerous. Momoka was in her usual maid outfit and Issei wore his red shirt and black pants. Each had a backpack with their belongings. Ange's was a green bag containing several weapons. Alright, now we need to find some transportation, Issei said, watching Hilda approach the dilapidated gas station. He couldn't help but notice her backside, which was squeezed into that black suit. Ange pinched him, her face blank. Oh, sorry, I couldn't help it, Issei said to his blonde girlfriend. HMPH, she just looked away while looking away. Issei simply hugged her from behind while caressing her abdomen, making Momoka blush because of it. Ange felt a shiver as she felt Issei's hands caress her abdomen and one of her breasts in a uniform and affectionate manner. Yes, yes, you know I love you as much as I love I and Zola, Issei whispered in the blonde's ear, who smiled and blushed. I know, said Ainge. Hilda watched everything from afar, frowning with jealousy, and yelled at them. Hey lovebirds, why don't you help me get the motorcycle I found out instead of wasting time there? Hilda said, jealous of how Issei was affectionately hugging Ainge. We're coming, Issei said amusedly. Ainge huffed in annoyance, and Momoka was still blushing and somewhat jealous of her angel eyes Sama. The three of them approached to see the motorcycle, Ainge being surprised by the vehicle, but Issei approached the motorcycle that had a seat attached to its side for another person. It was like the motorcycles of the police in his world. Well, it's not the only vehicle here, Issei said, noticing a tarp covering another motorcycle. It was a mountain bike. Issei smiled, grabbed one of the keys lying around, and started it. It still worked. Alright, Hilda and I will go on this one. Ainge, you and Momoka will go on the other, but I imagine you'll get rid of it somewhere so as not to attract attention, so leave it hidden for your escape, Issei told the three of them. Hilda smiled, seeing that Issei would go with her all the way. They took the motorcycles out of the area and filled them with gasoline from some barrels nearby. After that, they started the motorcycles. Before that, Issei approached Ainge and handed her a piece of paper with the symbol of the dragon faction. Here, take this. When you need me most, say my name and I'll appear. Use it when you're in serious trouble, Ainge, Issei said worriedly, extending a piece of paper with a magic circle on it. Ainge smiled at this and took the paper to put it away. Issei took her face in his hands and kissed her lovingly, which she returned. It was a 3-minute kiss, leaving only a thin strand of saliva between them. They looked into each other's eyes, smiling, and shared one last hug before separating. Take care, okay? I don't want anything bad to happen to you, Issei said. I will, don't worry, I'll call you if anything happens, after all, I know my knight in shining red armor will always be there for me whenever I need him, Ainge said, and Issei smiled. They kissed one last time and separated. Throughout that exchange of affection, Hilda was jealous and Momoka blushed and was somewhat jealous. Issei got on the motorcycle and started it, while Hilda got on behind him and hugged him around the waist, pressing her body against his back, her breasts pressed against Issei's back, who smiled, knowing why she was doing it. Ainge frowned at this but ignored it. She had better things to do than be jealous of Hilda. Alright, it's time to head to our destinations. I wish you all the best, girls, and I hope, Ainge, that thing about your sister isn't a trap, because if it is, those people won't escape my wrath, Issei said to the blonde, who nodded. Alright, let's go, it's getting late, Issei said, starting the motorcycle. Ainge, with Momoka in the passenger seat, reached a crossroads that led to their respective destinations. Ainge and Momoka took the left fork, which led to the old kingdom of Misurughi, while Issei and Hilda took the right fork, which led to the Redeed's destination. Later that day night. Issei and his red-haired companion arrived in a city where Hilda stole an outfit she claimed to have worn as a child. A pink shirt and a knee-length skirt. Afterward, they went to the outskirts of the city to rest and regain their energy. Issei had brought food he stole from a shop in the city, using magic circles to teleport himself around. Since there were no security cameras, he decided to steal everything they would need. After all, Issei didn't see these people as human beings. Now he and Hilda were sitting around a campfire that Issei made, eating some of what Issei had borrowed, as Hilda told him about when she lived with her mother and when she was separated from her. She must have loved you very much, because even though you were a Norma, she didn't want them to take you away, Issei said, looking at the Redeed who nodded, head bowed. The moments I spent with her were the best of my life. She was so loving and loved me with all her heart, Hilda said with a smile. Issei looked at her worriedly, hoping she still loved him like before. Now that's what I call a mother's love, Issei said. After all, his parents had never loved him, but he knew what a mother's love was like for her children. Issei hated his family for believing in his siblings more than in him, but there was nothing he could do but live a new life with the girls he loved and the girls from Arsenal as well. After that, they continued talking for a while longer until Hilda fell asleep leaning against Issei. The brunette looked at her affectionately, then picked her up like a princess as he approached the nearby tree. He sat on the ground and leaned against the tree, placing Hilda on his lap and hugging her, giving her the warmth she needed. She smiled with a cute blush as she snuggled closer to him. Issei looked up at the starry sky and frowned as he held Hilda protectively. Even if that woman rejects her, I'll be there for her, the brunette thought as he fell asleep with the girl in his arms, and he thought something at the end, I hope things go well for you, Ainge, Momoka-chan, and so he went to sleep with the Redeed in his arms. The next day. Ice, wake up, Hilda's voice called to the sleeping brunette, who woke up to see the blushing but cheerful Redeed still in his arms. Good morning, she said, smiling as she hugged Issei. Good morning, how did you sleep? Issei asked, to which she smiled and replied. The best, she said happily. After a while they separated, much to Hilda's annoyance, and began to gather their things. Hilda, not caring that Issei was there, changed her clothes, giving the brunette a show as he admired Darity's naked body, which made him smile. Then she dressed in the clothes she had illegally taken from the city store and put them on. "How do I look?" Hilda asked, turning around. Issei smiled. "You look beautiful," said the brunette, making the Darity smile. So they both left in the direction of the place where the Darity was born, and a few meters from arriving they walked on foot with Issei carrying the motorcycle. They walked along a dirt road that had apple trees on both sides, and the couple each took one. "We've arrived," said the Darity, looking at the town in the distance. It was a small town with several houses with red roofs. "What a beautiful town, the only bad thing is that it's inhabited by racist people," said Issei, but Hilda nodded. "Well, except for your mother," probably the brunette said in thought. "Yes, let's go now, I can't wait to see her again," said the Darity, smiling happily. Issei looked at her worriedly, hoping his mother wasn't like the rest of the idiots that plague this world. "Yes, let's go," said Issei, being taken by the hand by the happy Darity. After a 10-minute walk, they arrived at the village, where they walked for about 5 minutes until they reached the front of the house where Hilda lived her childhood. Issei saw how excited and nervous the Darity was, so by giving her a comforting squeeze of the hand, he calmed her down a little. "Oh Hilda, go find your mother," Issei said, smiling at the Darity who looked at him. "Aren't you coming with me?" she asked, to which Issei shook his head. "It's your moment, but I'll still be close to you, so don't worry and go reunite with your mother," Issei said, smiling at the Darity who nodded, but not before giving Issei a kiss on the lips, surprising him a little. "Thank you, Ice, thank you for helping me escape Arsenal and bringing me here, thank you," Hilda said, hugging the brunette around the neck and burying her face in his chest as she smiled, blushing. Issei smiled back, affectionately embracing her waist. "You don't have to thank me, I'm doing this because I care about you, so go to your mother," Issei said as the Darity gave him one last kiss and smiled at him. "Even so, thank you," she said as she walked towards the front door and went inside, leaving Issei outside. Issei looked around for a moment when a voice called to him. "Excuse me, what are you doing in front of my house?" asked a girl of about 14 years old with short red hair like Hilda's. Besides looking very much like Hilda, she was a mini Hilda. She looked at him curiously. Issei felt that her energy and Hilda's were similar. His little sister, Issei thought in surprise. "Well, not little at all, it's just that I thought the house was pretty, sorry if I scared you or anything," Issei said, smiling at the little girl who smiled back. "No problem, if you'll excuse me, I have to go to my mom's, it's her birthday today, goodbye," said the little girl as she entered the house. Issei quickly used magic to hide his presence and slipped into the backyard, finding a scene he didn't expect, given how people in this world think. There were Hilda and her mother, whom he recognized by her hair, hugging each other while crying. Issei felt that the mother truly loved her daughter very much, which surprised the brunette greatly. No, that was an understatement. It was as surprising as seeing Rias for the first time, no, as surprising as defeating Sirzechs. Yes, that's surprising. So he approached the apple tree near the two of them and listened to what they were saying. "Mommy, mommy, mommy," Hilda repeated, crying and hugging her mother, who smiled as tears of happiness streamed from her eyes. "Hilda, my little Hildegard, I finally have you back with me, I'm so happy," the woman said as she lovingly hugged Hilda, all under the still astonished gaze of Issei who didn't believe any of this. "What happened, partner? It seems you saw Sirzechs again," Albion said in Issei's mind. "I mean look at that. I thought her mother would be like all the other idiots in this world, some racist who would break Hilda's heart by calling her a monster or something just for being Norma, but look at them, they're hugging each other lovingly. How can you not be surprised by that?" Issei said. 18. "Well, you may be right, given how this shitty world is with these racists, but it seems that a mother's love for her daughter was stronger than the hatred because she is a Norma," said Dreg. "I'm proud of that woman for how she loves Hilda above the hatred these people have for the Norma," Issei said, smiling at the scene. "Mom, what's wrong? Why are you crying, and who is she?" asked the little girl Issei met outside the house. "Oh, darling, welcome home. Mom is crying because she's happy, and she's your Onison," the red-haired woman said, smiling. The little girl looked at Hilda in shock. "I one Isant," whispered the little Redeed, approaching Hilda, who looked at her somewhat expectantly. The little girl hugged her tightly as she began to shed tears. "One Isan," she shouted, hugging Hilda, who hadn't expected that, just like Issei. "Huh?" was all Hilda could manage to say as she looked at her mother for answers. "She knows you're Norma, but I told her not to hate you. She always wanted an older sister to be with her, and now you're here," the woman said, hugging her two daughters. They stayed embraced for a while, then separated to take a seat at the garden table. "This is the best birthday of my life, I have my two beloved daughters together, but Hilda, how are you here? I thought those people took you far away from here," the woman questioned her eldest daughter, who lowered her gaze. Yes, they took me far away, to a place where there are only normas, it's a distant island, Hilda said as her younger sister looked at her. But how did you get here from so far away? Wasn't it dangerous? The woman asked worriedly, to which Hilda smiled. Yes, it was risky, but to see you again I didn't care if I died trying, besides, I didn't escape from there alone, I had help, Hilda said, surprising her mother and sister. Who helped you get out of there? She asked, making Hilda smile with a beautiful blush on her face. His name is Issei Chaos, he helped me and the previous princess of Mitsurugi, Angel Eyes Ikaruga Mitsurugi, escape from that island, Hilda explained, leaving her mother stunned. Huh? The princess of Mitsurugi? Didn't she die? Her mother asked, impressed. No, she, like the other normas that are being discovered, is left on that island to live apart from humans, Hilda said, to which her mother nodded in admiration, and then smiled. And where is this chaos, Issei, that you speak of so affectionately? She asked, making Hilda blush, who quickly remembered. She's supposed to be outside the house, Hilda said, making Hilda open her eyes. Was that the big brother standing outside the house? The little girl asked, and Hilda ran outside but didn't see anyone. He's not here, he said sadly, but then Issei appeared from the side. I hid while you were with your family, Hilda, Issei said, as the girl threw herself at him, hugging him affectionately. It's good you didn't leave, come on, let me introduce you to my mother and little sister, Hilda said, smiling brightly, and Issei had no choice but to follow the redeed with pigtails. Oh, it's the Naiachin who was outside, the young Hilda remarked, impressed, looking at Issei who smiled at her. Haha, hello again little one, Issei greeted, looking at the woman. Nice to meet you, my name is Chaos Issei, and I'm your daughter's boyfriend, Issei introduced himself, to which Hilda blushed but maintained a smile at the idea of being Issei's girlfriend. What a polite young man, nice to meet you, my name is Inga Schlievigt, I am Hilda's mother, it's a pleasure Hyoudou-kun, the woman greeted kindly. Call me Iser Issei, whichever you prefer, Issei said, to which the woman smiled. Well, Ice-kun, why don't you join us for lunch? I imagine you must be hungry, she said, smiling kindly, to which Issei nodded. Of course, I'll gladly accept, said the brunette, smiling, making the redeed with pigtails smile. The four of them entered the house so they could get to know each other, or at least the mother and the younger sister could get to know the chestnut tree. Hours later night. Issei and Hilda were sitting under the apple tree in Hilda's garden. Issei had the redeed between his legs as she smiled happily while Issei hugged her around the waist, both looking at the stars. Thank you, Ice-kun, she said, smiling genuinely happy. Why? Issei asked. Thank you for helping me get out, thanks to you I was able to get home after many years, you are my hero, she said with a sweet smile, while Issei was a little embarrassed. It was nothing, although I found it strange that your mother didn't kick you out of the house just for being Norma. It's clear she loves you so much that she loves you, even if you're not able to produce mana, said the brunette, as Hilda sighed. I was surprised too. I wasn't expecting that, and I was prepared for the worst, but it seems my fears didn't come true, and that makes me very happy, Hilda said, as Issei hugged her a little tighter, while she smiled with a lovely blush. Then she turned around, straddling Issei and gazing at him with affection in her eyes. Thank you for bringing me here, you're the best, my beloved hero in red armor, she said, closing the distance between them and giving him a kiss full of love. Issei gently embraced her round the waist as she ran her hands along his neck, their tongues dancing together in a passionate kiss that revealed the redeed's love for the brunette. The kiss lasted for several minutes, punctuated by brief pauses for breath. When they finally broke apart, a strand of saliva connected them as they gazed into each other's eyes with affection. I love you, the redeed said with a beautiful smile. And I love you too, said Issei. Watching them from the kitchen window, a smiling Christine observed her daughter's happiness with her new son-in-law. Dude, I'm sorry to interrupt your lovely moment with your new girlfriend, but your blonde girlfriend is in trouble, Drake announced, to which Issei became serious because he felt the magic circle he gave to the girls activate, meaning, trouble. Why so serious, Ice-kun? She asked, noticing her new boyfriend suddenly become serious. The girls are in trouble, I have to go help them, Issei said, kissing the redeed. Forgive me for ruining the moment, but they need me, and I won't let anything happen to them, Issei said, to which Hilda smiled. Go for them, after all Angel's your girlfriend, and she wouldn't be a good girlfriend if my boy didn't save one of his girls, Hilda said, giving a chaste kiss to the brunette who smiled at her and hugged her. I'll make it up to you, I promise, Issei said, to which Hilda smiled pervertedly. Oh I know how you'll make it up to me, darling, she said, and Issei knew what she meant. They both got up, and Hilda looked at Issei who was walking away to leave the house. Take care and bring them back carefully, Hilda said, to which Issei smiled as he left the property. Hilda's mother went outside to see what was happening. Why did your boyfriend leave, daughter? Inga asked, to which Hilda smiled. She's going to save some friends, so to speak, Hilda said, missing her mother. The former princess of Mitsurugi? She asked, to which her daughter looked at her. Yes, it seems they're in trouble. Come, let me explain what happened, Hilda said as she and her mother sat down at the garden table to chat about what was going on. With Issei. Only his figure could be seen along the dark path where he had arrived hours ago with Hilda, but his eyes shone red with anger. He knew his blonde girlfriend had fallen into a trap and now he would make those bucking idiots pay for messing with a loved one. What's the plan? Drake asked. Go and get the girls out of that damned place, the rest is a matter of how many dead there are, Issei said as he used magic to summon a motorcycle he had stored away, which he didn't use because he didn't feel it was the right time. Issei got on the motorcycle and started it up. As the engine roared loudly, the brunette looked ahead seriously and created a large portal that would take him to where the girls were. These idiots are already dead, Issei said, starting the motorcycle and heading towards the portal. Only they haven't been warned, haha, said Drake, as in a scarlet flash they disappeared from the path going in search of blood, in search of the girls, yes, that's it. In the castle where they had Ainge ready for execution, they didn't expect an annoying and irate Issei to arrive and cause a disaster that would make them shit their pants. Chapter 10. Moments later, Mitsurugi Kingdom. Angel Eyes did everything right, reaching her goal even when everything was against her. She fought with all her might and reached her objective, forging her way through all the obstacles that tried to stop her until she found her precious little sister. She hoped she was alright and saw her being detained by some guards. In the end, everything turned out alright. She arrived and saved her sister, who approached to give her a hug. Yes, everything turned out alright, or so she thought. Her sister stabbed her, literally, beginning to verbally assault her, saying hurtful things that deeply affected her, and letting her know that everyone in her former family hated her just for being Norma and deceived her in the most vile way, with her bastard brother orchestrating it all to trap her and, according to him, judge her for having been born. There she was, hanging by her hands from a wooden frame while her younger sister whipped her, shouting utterly stupid reasons at her, like it being the norm, the fact that she was born, and that she had caused her disabilities. All the while, the people gathered to witness the execution cheered as if it were something good, reminiscent of the witch hunts carried out by the Catholic Church. Meanwhile, Julio explained his elaborate plan, having used poor Momoka, who was utterly shocked to learn that she had been used in a despicable scheme that had affected her beloved Angel Eyes Sama. The imbecile got up from his seat to look at the pathetic little people who were waiting for the speech of their beloved new king. The empress died in her absurd attempt to protect Norma, and the cowardly emperor was executed for deceiving his people, Julio said as Ainge opened her eyes in shock after hearing her father's fate. The abominable Norma who carries royal blood, Angel Eyes, with your judgment the purification of the royal family will be complete, he said as Angel Eyes looked at him with contempt. Tonight, the country will be reborn, the new empire of Mitsurugi. As Julio I, Emperor of the Holy Empire, I demand that this Norma be executed, the imbecile declared, as the people screamed with excitement at what the imbecile had said. Angel Eyes looked at everyone while she was in shock. These people, all the people she met looked at her as less than a rabid animal that had to be killed. These were not human beings, they were monsters. She was led by the guards to the execution platform where the gallows awaited her, all the while questioning everything. Pathetic, said one of the girls who used to be Ange's friend. That's what you get for lying to us, said another, while looking angrily at Ainge. Why? Why must I be executed? What crime? Ainge asked as the first girl who spoke through a negator, hitting her in the face. Shut up, Norma, don't you remember what you did to me? The girl asked, as if what Ainge did to her was the most unforgivable sin. I just kicked you a little and tied you up, it's not that big of a deal, Ainge said, while the girl acted as if what Ainge said was something very serious as she collapsed onto her knees. A little. How horrible, said the girl, bursting into tears as her friends comforted her. That doesn't justify an execution, Ainge said. That would be the case if you were human, said the second girl who had spoken, sounding annoyed. You're a Norma, you're not human, said another of the girls. You made a lot of people unhappy and uncomfortable, that's why you're being executed, said one of the girls as if it were the most obvious thing in the world. I think the people in Akame, Georgia kill are more reasonable than these bucking bastards, and in AGK they're monsters in human skin. Are you telling me to die in silence because of this? Like a farm animal? I ask. It's Norma's fault, said one girl. That's why it's your fault, said another, as if it were the most obvious answer. Julio-sama says you must be executed. What's the problem? Another one commented, adding I hate writing down every stupid thing they say. Thus people began to encourage the execution of Ainge, who watched the shitty people shout that she should die just for being Norma. It's not her fault, Momoka said, approaching to look at the people. Angel Eyes Sama didn't do anything wrong. I found happiness thanks to Angel Eyes Sama, Momoka said, but the people didn't care what the cute maid said. Hang her up, said the dramatic girl as she stood up from the floor, repeating the same word, followed by everyone else. Why? Why does Angel Eyes Sama have to go through this? Momoka wondered in shock after seeing how people are, but she immediately remembered something. Here, take this. When you need me most, say my name and I'll appear. Use it when you're in big trouble, Angel. Momoka remembered the paper Issei had given the blonde, which she had passed on to her in case she lost it. In a swift movement, Momoka put her cuffed hands into the part of her chest where she had the paper. I hope it works like he said, Sama, please help. Momoka thought and shouted as she tried to get away from the idiots, that shout making a piece of paper that the maid had in her pocket blow. The paper came out of the maid's pocket as the guards watched in awe, though they weren't the only ones, as people watched as the paper shone and then fell to the ground a few meters from the execution platform, shining brighter and a crimson circle appearing, causing Angel to smile as she knew what would happen. Julio looked at her annoyed, not understanding why she was smiling if she was going to be executed. What the hell are you laughing at? The idiot asked as Angel looked at him. You have no idea how much trouble you're in, was all the blonde said, missing the idiot when she heard him. She saw that as a good thing, and remembering her mother after seeing the ring she'd given her the day of the incident that changed her life, she did. Ajumari no Hikari Karali Karali. Aoari no Hikari Lulalalila. She sang the Eterna song while everyone looked at her in shock and it happened. Kisa no Ragna. Suna deke wo toki wa afiran Lulalalila. Kuoku amata no anachi no hanu. Sururi achite wa hashi nai. The roar of a motorcycle engine echoed throughout the area as an annoying brunette emerged from the magic circle on his Harley, while guards around the perimeter pointed their weapons at him. Nagar nagarit wa Itsuki shiku. Mada seita shai no yuri keigo de iwaku awadatsu. Issei stopped about 2 meters away from the crowd, staring at the platform. He frowned deeply at the sight of his blonde girlfriend, covered in whip marks and dressed in tattered grey rags that were beyond outrageous. Issei watched with grave intensity as his girlfriend sang, all eyes turning to him and the guards pointing their weapons at the brunette, who was beyond furious. He glared at the two masterminds behind this mess. The younger sister, Sylvia, and the older brother, Julio. It was Julio who glared at Issei with annoyance. Yudi imifutatsu no negai wa. Sayoku ten no kanjiki to kirameku. Towa wo Katarin. Who are you? The idiot demanded, all while the song continued. I'm what you'd call a punching bag, but honestly, seeing how you treated my girlfriend, I'm like an omniversal grade bomb about to explode, Issei said as he got off the motorcycle. Stop right there, don't take another step, said one of the guards as Issei looked at him with a gaze that made him fall to the ground from the fear he felt. Your girlfriend? A monster like Angel Eyes. You really don't know anything about taste, idiot, Julio said, making Issei look at him and tremble in his seat. I have better taste than your damn spoiled brat, Issei said, surprised to see the woman with light blue hair next to the man. A dragon, what's she doing here? Issei thought, as the woman also sensed his presence and opened her eyes. He's not human, he's like me. She thought as she looked at the brunette who stopped looking at her and glared at Julio, who was also annoyed. How dare you speak about me like that? You're just a damn lover of that dirty Norma. You'd better disappear, Julio said as the guards pointed their guns at him. Issei was about to speak, but felt an egg hit him on the back of the head. Huh? He turned around and looked at the stupid girl who threw the egg at Angel Eyes, who was staring at him with annoyance. Don't disrespect Julio-sama, you disgusting lover of Norma, the woman said as Issei looked at her seriously while approaching at great speed, standing in front of her and scaring her to death, as well as the others around her. I'm not one to hit women, but you stupid girl, you're not a woman, you're just a sack of meat who discriminates against others, and well, my morals are going on vacation because of that, Issei said, retracting his fist and delivering a powerful blow that broke her nose and knocked out a large portion of her front teeth, leaving her unconscious and in a pool of her own blood. Everyone screamed in fear, moving away from Issei, while the girl's friends helped him get out of there. Haris yo el Ragna. Erase enbu Kururi to Lulalalila. Issei turned around as he listened to the beautiful voice of his girlfriend who couldn't stop smiling as she watched Issei give that bitch what she deserved. Hanashimi yorikobi dekoku seimo. Gin no kawakara mariba. What are you waiting for? Shoot that freak. Julio ordered, frightened as he watched Issei move at great speed just to hit the girl. Subit wa toki no yum hanabi. Adakami no mi no mabataki nai ki karen. Well, it's time to deliver some justice, Issei said, summoning the dark gear as he covered himself in the black armor under the astonished gaze of everyone. An armor? Where on earth did that armor come from? Julio wondered, more than scared, all while his assistant looked more than impressed at Issei, since she had received reports of a red armor, and now he was there rescuing the blonde. Hibikima arabeki sugadei. Awaku keiko no denshu eru ga mama. Towa wo inarin. I'll have to report this as soon as I finish this, she thought, knowing she had a mission to accomplish, even though she had to put up with the bastard by her side. The bullets came flying as Issei dodged, while the idiots behind him were hit by the failed shots, and they started running away from it before being riddled with bullets due to the guards' mistakes. He appeared at great speed in front of one of the guards and delivered a powerful punch that shattered his skull from the inside, causing him to fall more than dead. He quickly moved to the next guard and delivered a downward blow with his arm, breaking both of the man's arms, before striking him again in the back of the neck, killing him instantly. Then he moved swiftly and kicked another guard, rupturing his organs, and continued killing all the guards under the terrified gaze of everyone. What in the world is he? Julio asked, frightened, as he witnessed the massacre Issei was carrying out against his guards. Ange smiled as she watched her boyfriend destroy all those idiots while he continued singing. Yudi imafutatsu no negai wa. Sayoku ten no kanjiki to kirameku. Towa wo kataran towa e2. Stop singing the mother song, you damn monster. Sylvia shouted angrily while Ange just ignored her. Boo-om. Issei had destroyed the guards' armed vehicles, and through the flames he walked slowly up to the platform while being watched by the terrified guards who retreated, not wanting to suffer the same fate as their companions. Well, should they leave or should I leave them? Issei asked, not letting them finish before killing them with a dark shot. I'd better leave them, Issei said until he was in front of his girlfriend, who finished singing and smiled. You have a beautiful voice, Ange, Issei said, smiling at his beloved, who looked at him smiling back. You certainly know how to stir things up, my beloved knight, she said, smiling. Well, just the usual, Issei said, downplaying it to look at Momoka. Are you okay, Momoka-chan? Issei asked, and she smiled at him. Yes, I'm fine, Isama, the maid said, now more at ease that the circus was over. Issei gave Ange a loving kiss, which she returned under the watchful eyes of her brothers, who hadn't expected it. Momoka was also jealous of Ange. Issei left his girlfriend and looked at the idiot and the little brat beside him, as well as the beautiful woman with light blue hair, who blushed at the sensation of Issei's power, something she hadn't expected. Well, you heard my beautiful Ange, and as they say, an eye for an eye. Issei vanished in a blur of speed that even the woman named Riza Randog didn't expect. Issei reappeared in front of the terrified Julio, who hadn't anticipated that. And the world will go blind though you'll be left with only one eye, haha, Issei said, plunging one of the armor's fingers deep into Julio's left eye socket and pulling it out, the man's eye still on the finger. Damn, I got covered in garbage, Issei said, throwing the eye away with a disgusted look under his helmet. Aya. Julio screamed in pain as he clutched his bleeding eye socket. His sister fainted beside him, and Issei, leaving her alone, looked at Riza, who stared at him in astonishment. The brunette made his helmet disappear and simply smiled at her before turning to his girlfriend and the maid, who was startled by what he had done. We're leaving this pigsty, Issei said, approaching his girlfriend. As much as I enjoy seeing your hexy body, we need to get you some clothes, Issei said, while Ange looked at him with a frown, clearly pained. Don't make me angry, Ice, she said, and Issei smiled. Momoka-chan, we're leaving, said Issei as the maid quickly approached so that Issei could easily break the mana handcuffs. Thank you for appearing, Isama. I was so afraid something would happen to Angel Isama, the maid said, letting out all her pent-up emotions, as she was truly terrified. Issei hugged her, knowing she was only putting on a brave face to protect her beloved Angel Eyes. There, you were strong, Momoka-chan, said Issei, patting the poor maid's head. The three of them headed towards Issei's motorcycle. You had this motorcycle all this time? Ange asked, while Issei laughed nervously at the death glare the blonde was giving him. I forgot, all that escape stuff was too fast to remember, Issei said, as the blonde looked at him seriously, but then calmed down. The brunette sat down in his place as the blonde settled herself in front of him, causing Issei to raise an eyebrow. What? Is there a problem with me going there? She asked, while Issei shook his head. None, just don't move around too much, Issei said when she ignored him and pressed her bare bottom against his crotch. Ange, darling, don't tempt me, Issei said, but she ignored him. Momoka, blushing, sat behind Issei and hugged him around the waist. Well, let's go, said Issei, opening a red magic circle and starting the motorcycle. Is that you're the blonde asked, feeling something hard against her backside. I warned you, now hold on tight, Issei said as he started the car, leaving the place with the two girls. At the site where Angel Eyes Ikaruga Mitsurugi, the stain on the Mitsurugi royal family, was supposed to be executed, there was now nothing more than a simple panorama of death and destruction, with the multiple corpses of the guards alongside several civilians who died from the crossfire, a traumatized Sylvia, and a pained and terrified Julio who was being attended to by Riza, who still had to contact her bosses to tell them about a recent discovery. Moments later, Issei, along with the two girls, was riding his motorcycle towards Christine's house. Seriously, you're a horny idiot, Ainge complained as she felt a certain anatomical part of Issei between her buttocks, although the truth was, it didn't bother her. Ah, you complain now, but when we're alone Issei fell silent when Ainge glared at him. Poor Momoka was completely flushed, imagining some rather unholy things related to a maid attending to her master on those cold nights when the warmth of their bodies is needed. That girl certainly has an imagination. After a while, they arrived near Hilda's mother's house. Issei stopped his vehicle so Ainge could change. That looks good on you, Issei said, watching her put on a pink tank top that revealed her stomach, along with dark green thigh-high shorts and white sneakers, which suited her slender figure. That won't save you from what I felt when I was coming here, Ainge said, looking at Issei. Yes, whatever you say, dear, Issei said, looking at Momoka who was wearing another maid outfit. Don't you have any other clothes? Issei asked, making her blush. No, I just got my maid uniforms ready, Momoka said, and Issei sighed. We'll have to sort that out once we get back to Arsenal, Issei said as the two of them looked at him. Return? Do you really think they'll let us return without punishment? Ainge asked. Jill needs us, and even if Emma says something, she can't keep me tied down. Besides, I'll just say I took them. They simply won't say anything. Also, I left Rias and Zola in charge of the girls, Issei said, as the two of them looked at him in amazement. Wow, I really do anticipate everything, Isama, Momoka said. Well, now that we're ready, let's go to my mother-in-law's, said Issei, but he was stopped by Ainge's hand on his shoulder. What do you mean, mother-in-law? Are you and Hilda dating? Ainge asked, annoyed, because the truth was that knowing she now shared a boyfriend with Hilda bothered her, given her previous relationship with the Reawakened. Ah, yes, and you're satisfied, now let's go, Issei said, not caring much about Ainge's annoyance. You'll see, Ice, you'll pay for this, Ainge said as she was pulled into a hot kiss that left her with a silly smile. I'll make it up to you soon, for now I don't want you causing any trouble, okay? Issei said, and the blonde nodded with a blush on her face. Momoka's thoughts returned, now related to her doing something wrong and her master punishing her by giving it to her for a whole night. Yes, she was a pervert. They walked for a few minutes until they were in front of Inga's house. The brunette rang the doorbell when he heard footsteps, and when the door opened, he was greeted by Hilda's mother. Oh, Ice-kun, you're back and with company, come in and you go to Hilda who has been worried since you left, Inga said, to which Issei nodded. Excuse me, the three said as they entered the woman's house, finding Hilda in the living room wearing the same dress as in the morning. Hi Hilda, Issei greeted, as Hilda quickly got up and went to hug him. Ice, it's good that you're back, you had me worried, said the Reawakened, as Ainge frowned. Okay, that's it, get away from Ice this instant, Ainge said, annoyed and jealous. Oh, it's you, Hilda said, looking at Ainge. Drrr, you're something else, Ainge said, annoyed, when Issei intervened. That's enough, calm down both of you, we've just had a very annoying day, said Issei, as the two looked at each other, then said HMPH and looked away. Ice-kun is really popular, Inga said, smiling amusedly. Yes, Isama is, Momoka said, a drop of sweat forming on her brow at what was happening before her eyes. The day I end with a massacre that would lead to the revelation of Issei's existence, something the brown-haired boy didn't know, but the mastermind behind this whole problem between normas and humans would have him under his watchful eye without knowing who he's messing with. End of chapter. Let me know in the comments below if you guys want the next part. Also check out my other video that has been shown and left. Thank you for watching, if you enjoyed this video please like and share this video. And have a fantastic day, bye.